Looked at Yang Wei and lowered her voice. "You two wait out." Yang Wei nodded indifferently. "Yeah." As for Yang Ziyu, she took a deep breath and turned to enter the small living room. They talked inside for over an hour. Yang Wei and I were in the corner. We could clearly hear the conversation in the small living room. Yang Wei tilted his head to look at me. He lowered his voice and said in surprise, "Muka, in the future, are you really going to be a lover kept by Chen Mengxi?" I was speechless and scolded irritably, "Get lost." Although I didn't believe it, my mind couldn't help but wander. After all, the class disparity between me and Chen Mengxi was too great. It was a blatant truth laid bare. We were not of equal social standing. Just those 5 words alone made it a little hard for me to breathe. Seeing me like this, Yang Wei quickly took out his phone. He opened a page on a novel reading app. He held the phone screen in front of my face. "Hey, it's all written like this in novels. Those wealthy families all have to have fiancé or wife of equal social standing. After marriage, they each do their own thing." I pushed his hand away. I said nothing, but my heart couldn't calm down for a long time. Just then, Yang Ziyu's voice came from the small living room. She seemed to cut off Grandma Yang, questioning in a deep voice. "Dad, shouldn't you show a little concern for your son?" The conversation in the living room abruptly stopped. Yang Boe was clearly stunned for a moment. He looked at Yang Ziyu, his eyes full of confusion. "What do you mean?" Yang Ziyu took out from her handbag on the sofa a few photos and a file, throwing them on the coffee table. She said coldly, "I'm talking about this son of yours." As soon as Yang Ziyu's words fell, everyone present was stunned. Their gazes subconsciously fell on the photos on the table. With just one look, he could confirm it. This was his son. This was his and Lin Wan's son. An indescribable joy spread through his limbs like an electric current. Immediately after, came an even deeper regret, like a cold tide. It instantly submerged that small bit of joy. "Dad!" Yang Ziyu's voice carried a hint of a sob. He was about to explain, when a disdainful cold snort cut him off. Grandma Yang, sitting in the main seat, only glanced at the photo and spoke coldly. Her voice was as if forged in ice. "Where did this bastard come from?" Our Yang family won't acknowledge someone of unclear origins. In the corner, Grandma Yang's harsh and venomous word, "bastard," reached Yang Wei's ears clearly. All expression on his face instantly froze. His dark eyes swirled with terrifying anger. What old hag dared to insult his mother? A flame of fury ignited in his chest. He was so angry his whole body trembled, but the corners of his mouth curved into an extremely cold smile. "Fuck!" Yang Wei cursed under his breath. He couldn't take it anymore. He strode directly into Yang Wei was like a completely enraged leopard. He charged in with bloodshot eyes. Under everyone's shocked gaze, he rushed to the coffee table in a few steps, grabbing its edge with both hands, and flipped it over with all his might. Crash! Smash! "You old hag, who the fuck do you think you are?" Yang Wei pointed at Grandma Yang, who was pale from the sudden turn of events. She nearly jumped up from the sofa as he roared, his voice hoarse. "Who are you calling a bastard? What right do you have to talk about my mother like that?" His chest heaved violently. His eyes were fixed on Grandma Yang, a look that could devour a person alive. "Your damn Yang family. I wouldn't even bother with it. Whoever wants it can have it." After roaring his last sentence, Yang Wei walked out of the small living room without looking back. I followed right behind him. At this moment, the furious Yang Wei and I walked down from the second floor together. Seeing the exquisite cake placed to the side, Yang Wei let out a cold laugh and suddenly lifted his foot. He kicked hard at the cart holding the cake. The giant cake came crashing down. Cream, fruits, and decorations scattered all over the shiny marble floor. A complete mess. The atmosphere instantly froze. "Yang Wei, don't go!" At this moment, Yang Ziyu hurriedly chased after him, calling out. She grabbed Yang Wei's arm. Before she could speak, he violently shook her hand off. The force was so strong that Yang Ziyu stumbled and almost fell. "Get lost." He looked at Yang Ziyu. His tone carried deep resentment. "That old hag insulted my mother like that. What's the point of staying here? To wait for her to insult me again?" Before Yang Wei could finish, at the top of the second floor stairs, several figures slowly appeared. Grandma Yang stood at the very front. Her face ashen, her old eyes were filled with malice. Grandma Yang stood high above, looking down, surveying the chaotic scene downstairs. Gaze finally landed on Yang Wei. She was so angry her lips trembled, but her voice grew even harsher and more venomous. "Rebellion. This is rebellion. You shameless little bastard. Do you really think you're one of the Yangs? Let me tell you, as long as this old woman is alive, don't even think about stepping through the Yang family's door. Are you even worthy of being a young master of the Yang family?" Yang Wei heard this and scoffed. His smile was full of disdain and ridicule. "The Yang family? Do you really think I give a damn?" Finishing his sentence, he kicked again. At the cake cart beside him, Yang Wei's defiant attitude, his complete disregard for the Yang family, had completely infuriated Grandma Yang. She was shaking with anger. The finger she pointed at Yang Wei was also trembling. Good, good, good. I'd like to see, after offending my Yang family, how you and your mother will survive in Haicheng, and you lot. This old woman will remember this." As she spoke, her gaze swept over me and Yang Ziyu. I blinked. With a bewildered expression, I looked at Yang Wei and Yang Ziyu, then back at Grandma Yang. and said irritably, "Hey, how important do you think you are? Old lady, just because you say we can't survive. We can't. Do you know who my wife is?" The moment these words left my mouth, I felt a little guilty. After all, the Shen family and the Yang family were business partners. Would Chen Mengxi really completely turn against the Yang family for me? I had no confidence at all. At the same time, I felt a little regretful, regretting my own recklessness. This imperceptible guilt, sharply caught by Grandma Yang. She looked as if she had heard the world's greatest joke. On her previously ashen face appeared a look of deep contempt and ridicule. Her old eyes scanned me from head to toe as she said venomously, and here I was wondering who it was. Turns out it's just a pretty boy who relies on women. What? You want to use your wife to scare me? Grandma Yang's sneer grew cold. She said in a low voice, "Let me tell you, no matter who your wife is, today, you've offended my Yang fam. Every single one of you. Don't even think about surviving in Haicheng." Just then, a small commotion arose from the crowd. A cold figure parted the crowd and slowly walked out. Under the lights, the woman in the well-tailored long dress had an exquisitely cold face and an extraordinary aura. She walked straight to my side and stood shoulder to shoulder with me. Her appearance immediately drew everyone's attention. Chen Mengxi paid no mind to the surrounding stares. She just lifted her eyes, her icy gaze shooting straight towards Grandma Yang at the top of the second-floor stairs. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried clearly throughout the entire hall. "Madam Yang, I'd like to hear just how the Yang family plans to make our Shen family unable to survive in Haicheng." These words, once spoken, were like a clap of thunder on a clear day. At the top of the second-floor stairs, the arrogant and venomous look on Grandma Yang's face instantly froze. She looked at the young woman with the cold, arrogant aura downstairs, then looked incredulously at me beside her. "His wife is Chen Mengxi." "EU!" Grandma Yang's voice began to stutter. Her eyes were wide, filled with shock. As for Grandpa Shen standing beside her, a look of unconcealable joy instantly flashed across his face. His precious granddaughter has found a man. He looked at the two people standing shoulder to shoulder downstairs, and only felt that the more he looked at the young couple, the more pleasing they were to the eye. He almost clapped his hands in praise. Grandma Shen was also visibly delighted at this moment, but she noticed her husband's excitement and hurriedly gave his sleeve a secret tug, signaling with her eyes. Only then did Grandpa Shen react. He quickly reined in his overly obvious smile, but the satisfaction in his eyes could not be hid. Downstairs, I myself was stunned for a moment. Chen Mengxi had actually come and turned against the Yang family for me. A sense of surprise and a warm current immediately rose in my heart, instantly washing away my earlier guilt and regret. I looked at the cold, beautiful profile of Chen Mengxi, and my heart pounded. At this moment, time seemed to stand still. In my eyes, there was only her. I quickly came back to my senses. Almost reflexively, my arm reached out and wrapped directly around Chen Mengxi's slender waist. In my arm was a soft warmth, carrying a distinct feminine fragrance. Chen Mengxi's body clearly stiffened. A burning heat spread from the point of contact on her waist, spreading quickly, causing her fair earlobes to turn slightly red. This sudden intimacy made her a little uncomfortable. But strangely, being held so possessively by me felt strangely comforting. She didn't struggle, quietly leaning a little more into my embrace. Grandma Yang pointed at Chen Mengxi downstairs, her lips trembling, but she couldn't utter a single word. The two words, Shen family, were like a large rock, stuck firmly in her throat. She subconsciously turned her head, looking towards Grandpa Shen and Grandma Shen beside her as if asking for help, but Grandpa Shen acted as if he didn't see her gaze. He averted his eyes and leisurely adjusted his cuffs. Of course, he was going to go against his precious granddaughter. For the sake of an outsider, in this stifling silence, the sound of somewhat hurried footsteps was heard. The crowd automatically parted to make way. A young man in a suit, with a slightly pale face, quickly walked out. He walked straight through the crowd, his eyes locked on Chen Mengxi. In his eyes, there was hurt and unbelievable pain. "Sister Mengxi," his voice was hoarse, with a slight tremble. "What do you mean by this?" Chen Mengxi heard this and frowned slightly. Her indifferent gaze fell on the man's face, her eyes filled with coldness and disgust. Her voice betrayed no emotion, but it carried a sense of distance. "We're not that close, so don't call me that." She paused for a moment. Her gaze swept past Grandma Yang behind the man, and her tone became even colder. "Furthermore, you and I have no relationship whatsoever. I hope you won't say things that could cause misunderstandings. Especially, don't let my husband misunderstand." Hearing that, I straightened my back, raising an eyebrow at this man who had suddenly appeared. His face and Yang Wei's did indeed bear some resemblance. This must be the older brother, Yang Wei's half-brother, Yang Juan. I sized him up from head to toe. He was almost a head shorter than me. He looked pretty average, the type you couldn't find in a crowd. But when I thought about what that old woman said, about wanting him and Chen Mengxi to have a marriage alliance, I felt an inexplicable irritation. The arm I had around Chen Mengxi's waist suddenly tightened. Chen Mengxi was caught off guard. Her whole body was pulled by an irresistible force. Deeper into my embrace, my warm chest pressed against her back. The next second, a large hand on her soft waist gave it a squeeze that was neither too hard nor too light, carrying the meaning of declaring sovereignty. Chen Mengxi's breath hitched, for an imperceptible moment, through the thin layer of her dress. The heat from my palm was shockingly hot, as if wanting to brand her skin. She didn't expect that in this situation, I would dare to be so bold. Her body unconsciously tensed for a moment, but then quickly relaxed. Strangely, she didn't reject this touch, which carried such strong possessiveness. She even inexplicably leaned a little more into my warm and steady chest. At the top of the second-floor stairs, Grandpa Shen and Grandma Shen had seen everything. The young couple's little actions downstairs didn't escape their eyes. A glint flashed in their eyes, and the corners of their mouths couldn't help but lift. He gently nudged his wife beside him with his elbow, his expression like that of a doting mother. A clear smile also spread in Grandma Shen's eyes. She lowered her voice, with a hint of teasing. "Look, Mengxi's face is all red." Grandpa Shen looked at his granddaughter's slightly flushed earlobes and cheeks. He nodded with great satisfaction, his smile becoming even kinder. Chen Mengxi seemed to sense it and unconsciously looked up, unexpectedly meeting the gazes of her smiling grandparents on the second floor. Her cheeks immediately grew hotter. As if on fire, she quickly lowered her gaze, not daring to look anymore, but an indescribable shyness welled up in her heart. This scene entered Yang Zhuan's eyes, and it was like a bolt from the blue. He stared at the two figures leaning against each other, at Chen Mengxi's fleeting look of shyness. It was like a poisoned dagger stabbing fiercely into his heart. She actually showed that man that kind of expression. Despair instantly engulfed him. His face became even paler than before. I saw Yang Zhuan's devastated expression. The arm holding Chen Mengxi tightened a little more. I lifted my chin slightly, the corner of my mouth curling into a triumphant smile, openly provocative and smug, as if to say, "You dog, a guy like you dares to covet my wife." I felt incredibly satisfied. Chen Mengxi saw the smug look in my eyes. The corners of her mouth lifted slightly. This feeling of being cared for was really nice. Right after, she composed herself and took a deep breath. When she looked up again, her usual sharp coldness had returned to her eyes. Her gaze was like an icy blade, shooting straight towards Grandma Yang at the top of the stairs. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried a bone-chilling coldness, echoing clearly in the quiet hall. "Mess. Yang, after the West City project concludes, the Shen Group will unilaterally suspend all current cooperation with the Yang Group." As soon as these words were spoken, they caused an even greater shock than when Chen Mengxi had revealed her family background earlier. Suspending all cooperation, everyone present knew exactly what that meant. Chen Mengxi paused for a moment, her icy gaze sweeping across the hall. She continued, "Including the new projects that were in preliminary negotiation. They will also all be put on hold. As for whether we will resume cooperation in the future," her gaze nonchalantly swept past Yang Zhuan, whose face was as white as a sheet. The disgust in her eyes was unconcealed. "We'll talk about it when the Yang family has dealt with their internal issues. After all, our Shen Group never cooperates with businesses of improper character." Hearing these words, Grandma Yang pointed a finger at Chen Mengxi downstairs, trembling like a withered leaf in the wind. The word "you" was squeezed from between her teeth, carrying endless resentment and venom. The moment she spoke, the dead silence in the hall was broken. Soft gasps were heard here and there. The composure that many people were trying to maintain immediately shattered. In its place was an indescribable joy. Every one of them wanted to cooperate with the Shen Group. Now that the Shen Group wanted to suspend all cooperation with the Yang Group, for them, it was truly a pie falling from the sky, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. How could they not be excited? That irrepressible excitement spread through the crowd like an electric current. Grandma Yang's complexion could no longer be described as just pale. She opened her mouth, a wheezing sound coming from her throat, but she couldn't form a single complete word. Her chest heaved violently, as if she could faint at any moment. At that moment, I bent my arms and directly lifted Chen Mengxi and a Princess Carrie. Chen Mengxi let out a cry of surprise, completely not expecting me to do that so suddenly. By the time she reacted, her body was already off the ground. She instinctively wrapped her arms around my neck. Pressing close to me, a masculine scent faintly enveloped her. Her cheeks immediately flushed hot. I looked at Grandma Yang on the second floor, a triumphant smile on my face, and said, "Old woman, didn't you say just now that you wanted to make it so I couldn't survive in Haicheng? Fine, it'll be waiting for you to make me unable to survive in Haicheng." This sentence was like the last straw that broke the camel. Grandma Yang's already fragile body suddenly swayed. Her eyes widened, her lips trembling violently. She finally couldn't take that breath in. Her eyes rolled back, and her body went limp and fell. She fainted directly, but I acted as if I didn't see it. I couldn't even be bothered to spare a glance at the noisy drama over there. After all, a warm, soft beauty was in my arms. I carried Chen Mengxi, my steps not pausing for a second, and walked straight towards the main entrance of the hall. As I passed Yang Zhuan, whose face was as pale as a ghost, my steps paused slightly. I looked down at Chen Mengxi and called out, "Wifey, let's go home." This sentence was like a resounding slap, hitting Yang Zhuan hard in the face. It was also like a sledgehammer, shattering the last faint hope in his heart. As for Chen Mengxi, hearing me call her wifey made her heart tremble, and she felt a strange feeling. Her heart started beating uncontrollably. More importantly, she didn't reject this Princess Carrie at all. She didn't even have any intention of leaving this embrace. On the contrary, as if possessed, she pressed her forehead gently against the crook of my neck. The tip of her nose was filled with the fragrance of the fresh, pleasant scent on my body. An unprecedented sense of security, like a warm current, enveloped her in an instant. Within this sense of security, there also seemed to be a hint of excitement that she herself didn't realize, causing her to become a little lost in it. At this moment, she seemed to know why. Nai always loved being carried by her father. Yang Wei and Yang Ziyu looked at each other. They followed quietly, stepping out of the villa. The night wind was a bit cold as it blew across my cheeks. I suddenly sobered up. The soft, warm feeling in my arms, the faint fragrance at the tip of my nose, all of it was reminding me of my impulsiveness in the hall just now. Now that my reason had returned, I seemed to realize that perhaps I had gone a bit too far. My arms loosened slightly, and I carefully put Chen Mengxi down. The moment her feet touched the ground, Chen Mengxi's hands, which were around my neck, unconsciously tightened for a second before slowly letting go. That warm crook of my neck was suddenly empty. A flash of something, like disappointment that I didn't even notice myself, passed through my eyes as fast as wind skimming the water's surface. Leaving no trace, my Adam's apple bobbed. I cleared my throat. A faint, subtle awkwardness spread in the air. I was just about to open my mouth to explain something, trying to break this strange atmosphere. Thanks. Yang Ziyu's voice spoke up first, carrying a hint of awkwardness. Chen Mengxi glanced at her. Her tone had returned to its usual calmness. No need. Actually, I didn't do anything. I only stepped forward because of him. These words entered my ears like a sweet candy, instantly melting in my heart. The corners of my lips couldn't help but curve up slightly, a faint smile spreading in my eyes. Just then, an arm was placed on mine, pulling me 2 steps to the side. Yang Wei leaned close to me and lowered his voice. His face showed undisguised admiration. Real man. Carrying Xiao Shen out just like that, I rubbed my nose and explained. Actually, I was scared too. It's just that in that situation, emotions were running high. I had to do it whether I could or not. Hearing that, Yang Wei gave me a thumbs up, the admiration in his eyes deepening. I forced a smile and said nothing. I was thinking about tonight. Would I have to sleep with Nai? Just as I was thinking, the sound of an engine approached from a distance. A Ferrari slowly stopped in front of the villa gate. Chen Mengxi looked at the car, then turned back. Gaze rested on my face as she said, "Let's go." Her voice was very soft, betraying no joy or anger. Yang Wei slapped me hard on the shoulder. A sorrowful expression appeared on his face. He said in a pained tone, "Brother, go in peace. From now on, I'll take good care of your sister for you." I rolled my eyes and got into the car with Chen Mengxi. The atmosphere in the car was inexplicably awkward. I got in and didn't open my mouth for a long time. Chen Mengxi leaned back in her seat and looked out the car window. Through the reflection on the window, she saw me sitting to one side, occasionally sneaking glances at her, but not daring to speak. She was speechless and decisively closed her eyes. No longer looking at this idiot, I secretly glanced at Chen Mengxi beside me and saw her eyes were gently closed. Her long, slender eyelashes casting a small shadow beneath her eyelids. Her side profile was exquisite, her lips slightly pursed. At this moment, I was a little worried. Just now in the hall, carrying her, calling her wifey. Did I overdo it? My Adam's apple bobbed, my body unconsciously inched towards her, almost to the edge of the seat. I carefully probed, making trouble with the Yang family today. Will it cause a lot of trouble for the Shen group? My voice was very quiet, carrying a hint of anxiety. Chen Mengxi didn't even lift her eyelids as she replied. No. Her voice was flat, betraying no emotion, as if stating a simple, undeniable fact. There was no further explanation. I noticed her attitude and stopped my movement to get closer. I started muttering to myself, is she angry? No way. Was she fine just now? The next second, I suddenly remembered that when I held her waist, I seemed to have squeezed her soft flesh. Could it be because of that? I swear, I really didn't do it on purpose. It was just an impulse. Thinking of this, I glanced at Chen Mengxi, wanting to explain, but on second thought, I kept my mouth. The car drove steadily into the residential area and finally came to a slow stop on the side of the road. I was about to open the door to get out when I caught sight of a car parked not far away. I couldn't be more familiar with that license plate. My movement froze, and I suddenly turned my head. A flash of shock and panic crossed my face. What's wrong? Chen Mengxi beside me noticed something was off. She tilted her head and asked. I immediately pulled her hand back as she was about to open the door. I lowered my voice, my tone laced with embarrassment. Wait a minute. My parents' car is still here. I pointed to the car not far away. They must still be at my sister's place. Chen Mengxi followed my gaze, then looked away. She looked at my slightly tense face. She thought for a moment, then spoke calmly. Then you stay in the car. I'll go up and get Nay. I was stunned for a moment, then reacted immediately. A look of gratitude appeared on my face. I nodded vigorously. Okay. Chen Mengxi entered the elevator alone and pressed the button for the 15th floor. The elevator ascended steadily. Soon, It reached the 15th floor. She stepped out of the elevator. She walked to Muyula's door and raised her hand to ring the doorbell. In the living room, Nai was nestled between her grandparents. Engrossed in watching cartoons, Fu Yanji held a slice of apple, occasionally feeding it to her little granddaughter. Her face was full of kindness, while Mironghao smiled, watching the interaction between grandmother and granddaughter. Nai was tickled and giggled. The atmosphere was warm and harmonious. Only Muyulu, sitting on the single sofa, watched this happy and harmonious scene, feeling a bit helpless. What time is it? Why haven't Chen Mengxi and my brother come to pick her up yet? The thought had just crossed her mind when she suddenly jolted and realized, oh no! My brother doesn't even know mom and dad are here today. If he comes up with Chen Mengxi to get Nai and runs into mom and dad, Muyulu could almost imagine the scene of her brother getting a tragic beating from their parents' combined forces. She couldn't help but shake her head and hurriedly took out her phone, preparing to send me a reminder message. Her finger had just touched the screen. The unlock screen hadn't even fully appeared yet. Ding dong. The doorbell rang again, interrupting her action. Muyulu was startled and shot her head up to look at the door. Mironghao, Fu Yanji, and Nai in the living room also heard the sound and looked towards the door at the same time. Mommy and Daddy are here. Nai was the first to react. Shouting excitedly, she was about to slide off the sofa. Before anyone else could act, Muyulu, almost as a conditioned reflex, quickly stood up from the sofa and strode towards the door. She opened the door. Outside, only Chen Mengxi was standing there. Muyula's heart skipped a beat. She unconsciously peeked behind Chen Mengxi. Looking around, the hallway was empty. There was no sign of her brother. Chen Mengxi saw her tense and anxious look, looking left and right, and immediately understood what she was worried about. In a voice only the two of them could hear, she quickly said, "He's in the car. He didn't come up." When Muyula heard this, she let out a long sigh of relief, her tense nerves instantly relaxing. She hurriedly stepped aside and invited Chen Mengxi in. "Come in." As she spoke, she closed the door. Chen Mengxi walked into the living room. Her gentle gaze turned to the sofa as she called, "Nai, Mommy?" While being fed an apple by her grandma, Nai heard the familiar voice and her eyes lit up. She immediately slid off the sofa and pattered towards Chen Mengxi. Her small figure threw herself into Chen Mengxi's arm. She lifted her small face, her black grape-like eyes looking expectantly towards the door. "Mommy? Where's Daddy? Why didn't Daddy come?" Chen Mengxi's arm holding her daughter tightened. A gentle smile remained on her face, but her voice was very calm. "Daddy has something to take care of. He can't come up to get Nai today." She gently patted her daughter's back and carried her to the middle of the living room. A clear trace of disappointment flashed across Nai's small face, but she still obediently nodded, resting her little head on her mother's shoulder. Carrying Nai, Chen Mengxi's gaze shifted to Mironghao and Fu Yanji on the sofa. At this time, Mironghao and Fu Yanji were also looking at her. On both of the elders' faces, there was a hint of confusion and scrutiny. They frowned almost simultaneously and exchanged a look. It seemed they both felt that this young woman with such a outstanding presence before them looked a bit familiar. A polite smile appeared on Chen Mengxi's face. She spoke politely and gently. "Teacher Fu, Teacher Mirong." Although it had been many years since she graduated, she still remembered that Mironghao and Fu Yanji had both been her high school teachers. "Oh my!" Fu Yanji was the first to react. A surprised and delighted smile immediately bloomed on her face. She suddenly stood up and walked over. "You're Mengxi." Chen Mengxi smiled and nodded. "It's me. Teacher. Oh my goodness, it really is you." "Mengxi." Fu Yanji was overjoyed. She took a step forward and intimately took Chen Mengxi's other hand. Come sit down." As she spoke, she pulled Chen Mengxi to sit down on the sofa. Her eyes shifted back and forth between Chen Mengxi and Nai in her arms, the smile on her face deepening. "No wonder the first time I saw little Nai, her features felt so familiar. It turns out she's your daughter." Chen Mengxi smiled and nodded without saying anything. The more Fu Yanji looked, the more she liked her. She held Chen Mengxi's hand and asked curiously, "This child, when did you get married? How come we didn't hear anything about it?" The smile on Chen Mengxi's face stiffened slightly. The fingers holding Nai unconsciously tightened. She remained silent. Her gaze was a bit evasive. She didn't know how to answer this question. After all, she and I were not yet married. Right now, we weren't even boyfriend and girlfriend. How perceptive was Fu Yanji? She immediately noticed Chen Mengxi's predicament and that fleeting look of gloom. Her heart skipped a beat. She instantly imagined a whole drama. A young woman meeting the wrong person, being deceived by a scumbag, getting pregnant before marriage, and then being tragically abandoned. Looking at how outstanding and excellent Chen Mengxi was, yet seemingly having some unspoken suffering, Fu Yanji's heart immediately filled with pity. She thought to herself, what a shame. She was thinking of quickly changing to a lighter topic, so as not to poke at someone else's pain. Who would have thought that Mironghao beside her didn't notice these details? He looked at Nai being held in Chen Mengxi's arms, and out of concern, very naturally opened his mouth to ask, "Mengxi, This Nai's father is too irresponsible. It's not safe at all this late at night. Murong Hao's words were very blunt. The smile on Chen Mengxi's face became even more rigid. The arm holding Nai tightened a little more. Her lips moved as she considered how to reply. Seeing this, Mu Yulu, who was sitting nearby, immediately spoke up to smooth things over. Dad, why are you asking that? Mu Yulu looked at Murong Hao, her tone carrying a hint of petulance. That's her private business. Fu Yanji also heard the inappropriateness in Murong Hao's words and shot him an annoyed glare. She reached out and pinched his arm lightly. Murong Hao yelped in pain. He realized he had indeed been a bit abrupt. He quickly looked at Chen Mengxi, trace of apology on his face. I'm sorry. Mengxi, look at this muddle-headed old man your teacher has become. What was I asking those things for? He paused to explain. I just saw that it was getting dark and was worried about their safety on the road. Chen Mengxi sighed in relief internally. She shook her head to show it was fine. It's all right. Teacher Murong. I understand. She thought for a moment and added, the driver is waiting downstairs. Hearing this, the worried Murong Hao and Fu Yanji finally relaxed. Fu Yanji took Chen Mengxi's hand and said gently, That's good. That's good. Chen Mengxi glanced at the clock on the wall. The time was indeed getting late. Teacher Fu. Teacher Murong. It's getting late. It'll take Nai home first. Murong Hao and Fu Yanji nodded. Okay. Be careful on the way. Pay attention to safety. Chen Mengxi gently patted her daughter's little bottom and said softly, Nai. Say goodbye to Grandma and Grandpa. Nai's small body wriggled out of Chen Mengxi's arms. She ran in front of Fu Yanji and Murong Hao, hugged Fu Yanji's neck, and lifted her head to give Fu Yanji a kiss on the cheek. Then she turned and hugged Murong Hao, also giving him a loud kiss on the cheek. Goodbye, Grandma and Grandpa, Nai said in her milky voice, her black grape-like eyes full of expectation. You two have to come visit Nai. Okay. In the hearts of Fu Yanji and Murong Hao, a warm feeling arose. A delighted smile spread across their faces. Fu Yanji squatted down and hugged Nai. Okay. Goodbye. Precious. Grandma and Grandpa will definitely come visit you, having received the promise. Nai contentedly returned to Chen Mengxi's side. She took her mother's hand. Then we'll be going. Teacher, Chen Mengxi said goodbye again. After speaking, Chen Mengxi led Nai, and with Mu Yulu seeing them off, they walked towards the door. Mu Yulu saw them out. She watched the mother and daughter enter the elevator. Only then, sighing in relief, she turned and closed the door. In the living room, Murong Hao and Fu Yanji were still sitting on the sofa, with complex expressions. Sigh. Fu Yanji sighed softly. She leaned back on the sofa, a trace of heart touch on her face. That child has really had it rough. Hearing this, Mu Yulu and Murong Hao were both a little stunned. They looked at Fu Yanji in confusion. Mom, why do you say that? Mu Yulu asked. Feeling a little anxious, Murong Hao also asked. That's right. How has Mengxi had it rough? She seems to be doing fine. Fu Yanji shot her husband and daughter a glare and said irritably, You two are so clueless. She paused, then continued. Just now, when Nai asked why her father didn't you two see how disappointed the little girl was? And another thing, asked about Mengxi's husband twice, and both times she clammed up. Her expression changed, too. Doesn't that tell you something? Hearing that, Murong Hao scratched his head and muttered that doesn't necessarily mean anything. Maybe her husband is busy with work and didn't have time to come. Mu Yulu, beside him, quickly nodded in agreement. Right. Hearing their words, Fu Yanji couldn't help but roll her eyes. She looked at her husband and daughter with a disgusted expression. Busy, she let out a cold laugh. Her voice carried a tone of certainty. It'd say it's 80% likely she was tricked by a scumbag. Hearing this, Murong Hao and Mu Yulu's eyes widened. The more Fu Yanji thought about it, the more she felt her speculation was correct. Her tone became even more certain. Mengxi is such a good girl. She was outstanding back in school, and now she has a good demeanor. Why would she be raising a child alone? She must have met some heartless scumbag who tricked her emotionally and also tricked her out of money, got her pregnant, and then abandoned her. Murong Hao listened to his wife's analysis, although he felt it was a bit unreasonable. Upon further thought, Chen Mengxi really didn't mention the child's father. Moreover, she really did seem to have something on her mind. It seemed there was actually some truth to it. Murong Hao's face immediately darkened. He slammed his hand on the sofa's armrest. He cursed angrily. Damn it, what kind of immoral bastard would do something so despicable? The more he spoke, the angrier he got. He said fiercely, If I find out who that man is, I'll definitely give him a good beating. How could he not even want a daughter? As adorable as her, he deserves to die. Murong Hao said this while shaking his fist. Mu Yulu stood beside them, watching her parents' indignant appearance. Listening to them curse the scumbag, she didn't dare say a word. If Mom knew that the scumbag they were vehemently cursing was the precious son she loved the most, she really didn't dare to imagine what the consequences would be. On the other side, the car was pitch black. Nai was like a little koala bear. Lying on my back, her little hands were restless, ruffling my soft, short hair. The father and daughter were lying by the car window, watching Miranghao and Fu Yanji get into the car, talking and laughing. "Daddy?" Nai Nai asked in her milky voice. "What were Grandpa and Grandma just talking about? They seemed so happy." My body tensed up slightly, and I didn't answer immediately. I silently looked at Chen Mengxi, who was sitting opposite me. Chen Mengxi had her arms crossed over her chest. She tilted her head to look at me. The corner of her mouth lifted into a faint, almost imperceptible smile. Her eyes held a hint of teasing and a hint of coldness. She spoke slowly, her voice not loud, but it echoed clearly in the small, confined space of the car. "Childhood sweethearts, an innocent pair." 8 simple words felt like a thunderclap, making my scalp tingle. I shuddered, a chill spreading from my core, sending a shiver down my spine. I hurriedly explained, "Let me explain. There's really nothing between me and that Jiang Yinjing when we were kids. It was because of that brat Yang Wei. He was always dragging me along to play with him. I'm not close to her at all. If you're talking about childhood sweethearts, that would be me and Yang Wei. I'm really not close to her." My tone was clearly panicked, as if I was afraid Chen Mengxi would misunderstand something. Chen Mengxi raised an eyebrow, offering no comment. At this moment, Nai Nai, who was on my back, blinked her big eyes and curiously interrupted, "Mommy, what does childhood sweethearts mean?" Chen Mengxi withdrew her gaze from me and turned gently to her daughter. She reached out and stroked Nai Nai's small, fluffy head. Her voice also softened as she patiently explained, "Childhood sweethearts. It means a boy and a girl who grow up together from a young age. They have a very good relationship." As she spoke, her eyes drifted back to me. Beneath Nai Nai, I met her gaze and just felt a chill run down my back. A wave of misery washed over my heart. I truly want to cry but had no tears. Hearing those 4 words, childhood sweethearts, I felt like my head was about to explode. This time, I've been utterly ruined by my parents. Of all the things to say, they just had to say this, and they didn't even say it clearly. Was Yang Wei there too back then? Is he not a person? This time, I've really jumped into the river. Even the Yellow River can't wash me clean. If this causes me to not be allowed to sleep in the bed tonight, wouldn't I be more wrong than Du Yi? Seeing my appearance, the corner of Chen Mengxi's mouth lifted slightly. She felt quite satisfied. Seeing my hurried explanation, she actually felt quite happy. She didn't know why she, much less why she would, say such harsh words, but when she heard her teacher say she wanted to introduce her daughter to me, she felt an inexplicable anger and was very upset. It was like when she was a child and her favorite toy was snatched away. For a moment, she even wanted to carry Nai over to her teacher and tell them directly that Nai Nai was their granddaughter. It was so hard to understand. I glanced at Chen Mengxi, cleared my throat, and changed the subject. "Why don't we go upstairs and discuss something with my sister about how to let Nai Nai have more contact with her grandparents?" Chen Mengxi pulled back from her thoughts. She looked at me, her eyes filled with resentment, and nodded lightly. She hummed, which counted as an agreement. I met her gaze and felt a guilty sense of abandoning my wife and child. This can't be right. Is this for real? Shaking my head, I got out of the car first, then I lifted Nai Nai, who was on my back, and placed her on the ground. A cool night breeze blew past. Chen Mengxi got out of the car, stood beside it, and smoothed her wind-tousled hair. She took Nai Nai's hand and walked towards the apartment complex. Seeing this, I hurried to follow, taking Nai Nai's other hand along the way. But from the corner of my eye, I secretly glanced at Chen Mengxi. An unrealistic thought popped into my head. Is she jealous? I took a deep breath, trying to dispel the unrealistic thought in my mind. I looked at Chen Mengxi and Nai Nai holding hands beside her, and my heart calmed down a bit. The 3 of us entered the building together and took the elevator to the 15th floor. The elevator doors opened. I stepped out first, walked to my sister's front door, and reached out to ring the doorbell. After a long while, the sound of footsteps impatiently echoed from inside the apartment. Then the door was yanked open with a click. Muyulu was in her pajamas, her hair a bit messy. She had clearly just been relaxing when she was disturbed. A look of annoyance was plain on her face. "Who is it? So late at night?" She stopped mid-sentence when she saw me standing outside the door, along with Chen Mengxi and a well-behaved Nai Nai. She was stunned for a moment, then her brow furrowed even more tightly. "What is it now?" I immediately put on a fawning smile. I moved aside to let Chen Mengxi and Nai Nai enter first, then followed them in. "Sis, I just have a little something I wanted to discuss with you." Muyula gave me a suspicious glance, then glanced at the silent Chen Mengxi following behind her. She snorted in annoyance and turned to walk into the living room. "Spit it out. What is—" As soon as Nai Nai entered, she was already familiar with the place. Pulling her hand from mine, she pattered over to Muyula's side and hugged her leg. "Auntie." Muyula looked down and saw the tiny girl by her leg. The annoyed expression on her face immediately softened a little. She reached out to pat Nai Nai's head. But when she looked at me, her displeased expression returned. I rubbed my hands together and began speaking a bit hesitantly. "Sis, it's like this. Weren't Mom and Dad just here Muyulu sat on the sofa and casually grabbed a throw pillow to hug. She gestured for me to continue. I was wondering if we could let Nine have more contact with them. I chose my words carefully, watching my sister's expression. Look, they're getting older. They must want grandchildren or something. We can let Nai get to know them first, build up a bond, and wait for the right moment. Then tell them the truth, that Nai is their biological granddaughter. What do you think? After I finished speaking, I looked at Muyulu a bit nervously. Muyulu listened to my words, her face expressionless, but her eyes glinted slightly. She recalled Mom and Dad sitting on the sofa earlier, heartbroken and resentfully cursing the man who had gotten Chen Mengxi pregnant before marriage. The corner of her mouth couldn't help but curve into a meaningful smile. She looked up at me and asked slowly, "Are you sure?" Her smile made me panic inwardly, always feeling like something was off, but for my daughter's sake, I still nodded firmly. Sure? Positive? Absolutely. Sis, as long as you agree, just name your conditions. If I can meet them, I definitely will. I hadn't even finished my sentence when Muyulu cut me off decisively. I agree. The whole speech I had prepared was suddenly stuck in my throat. I was completely stunned. I stared blankly at Muyulu, full of disbelief. Sis, you just agreed like that? This reaction isn't right. From what I know of my sister, shouldn't you scold me first, and then present a bunch of harsh conditions? Why is she so easygoing today? The more I thought, the stranger it felt. I couldn't help but take a step forward, observing Muyulu carefully, and asked suspiciously, "Sis, tell me the truth. Are you possessed by something?" My expression made Muyulu burst out laughing. She rolled her eyes in annoyance. Get lost. You're the one who's possessed. She bent down and scooped Nene, who was hugging her leg, into her arms with one hand. She affectionately nuzzled Nene's little cheek. Her tone immediately became incredibly gentle. Let me tell you, if it weren't for our dear Nene, I could be bothered with your nonsense. Our Nene and I are the closest in the world. Nai, being held in her arms, was overjoyed. She wrapped her little arms around Muyulu's neck and chimed in with her milky voice. Yes, Nai and Auntie are the closest in the world. Muyulu immediately revealed a smug smile. She looked up at me, who was still stunned, and snorted. Did you hear that? Just bring Nene here on time every week. No more nonsense. Yo, okay. I nodded unconsciously, although I was happy that the plan was proceeding smoothly. Seeing my sister's overly cheerful demeanor, coupled with that strange smile from before, sent shivers down my spine again. I always had a feeling that disaster was about to strike. When Nai heard she could see her grandparents every week, her little face filled with anticipation. Yay, I can see Grandpa and Grandma again. Seeing Nai so happy, I didn't think much of it anymore. I just thought it was due to the childhood trauma my sister had inflicted on me. I patted my daughter's head and stood up to look at my sister. Then it's settled. Well, bring Nai over every week. Muyulu, hugging Nene, gave a goes without saying look and waved her hand. Alright. I know. Although her attitude was still not great, my goal was achieved, so I didn't mind. A relieved smile appeared on my face. Okay, sis, we'll be going. I turned to Chen Mengxi. Let's go home. The door clicked shut. The smile on Muyula's face immediately vanished. She let out a long sigh of relief and threw herself onto the soft sofa. Lying on her back with her limbs spread out, a look of utter contentment appeared on her face. She casually grabbed a pillow to put behind her head. The corners of her mouth couldn't help but curl up. I can have sweet and sour pork ribs every week and Dad's braised pork. Most importantly, with Nai here, I won't even get scolded. This is absolutely wonderful. My dear little brother, don't you blame me. You proposed this yourself. I didn't force you. I didn't want to do this either, but who told me to be such a good sister? Meanwhile, downstairs at the apartment complex, I was carrying Nei. Chen Mengxi walked beside me, having resolved a major issue. I felt a sense of relief all over. My steps were much lighter too. I looked down at the well-behaved daughter in my arms. I couldn't resist planting a kiss on her soft little cheek. Nai, you're truly Daddy's little lucky star. You just got here and you've already handled your aunt. Praised by her father. Nai was overjoyed. She hugged my neck and gave me a big, loud kiss on the cheek. Daddy's little lucky star. The father and daughter laughed together. Chen Mengxi, watching this from the side, felt an indescribable feeling rising in her heart. It was a bit sore and a bit stifling. She looked at the saliva mark from our daughter's kiss on my cheek and my undisguisedly happy smile. An uncontrollable thought popped into her head. I don't think I've ever kissed him. This thought made her cheeks flush slightly, and she hurriedly averted her gaze, looking elsewhere and silently scolding herself for her stray thoughts. But that faint, uncomfortable feeling was like a small pebble tossed into a lake, creating ripples that couldn't be dispelled. Not long after, the car slowly came to a stop downstairs from the apartment. Nai had long since fallen asleep in Chen Mengxi's arms. Her little head was tilted to one side, her breathing long and even. Let me carry her. I opened the car door and got out. I carefully took our daughter from Chen Mengxi's arms. The little girl seemed to sense the movement, Smacking her lips a couple of times, she snuggled into her father's arms and fell back asleep. Chen Mengxi also got out of the car. Closing the door behind her, her movements were very gentle. Back in the apartment, the house was quiet. I gently placed Nai Nai on the bed and covered her with a small blanket, tucking in the corner. Then, Chen Mengxi went in the bathroom to wash up first. After she finished, I went in to wash up as well. By the time we were both in bed, it was already 12 o'clock, the room light was off, and the moonlight from outside the window shone through the curtains into the room, casting a soft glow. Nai Nai slept between the two of them. Her small body took up a considerable amount of space, like a natural barrier, separating the two adults on either side. My gaze passed over our sleeping daughter and landed on Chen Mengxi on the other side. She was lying straight, her long hair spread out on the pillow. Her face was incredibly gentle. My throat moved. I coughed lightly, breaking the silence. I pretended to casually adjust my sleeping position, lifting my arm and pushing Nai Nai, along with her small pillow, towards the head of the bed. Chen Mengxi felt the movement behind her and the shift in Nai Nai's position beside her. Her eyelashes trembled, but she kept her eyes closed, pretending not to know. Inside, however, she was curious about what I wanted to do. Seeing no reaction from her, I grew a little bolder. I reached out my hand again, moving Nai Nai onto the pillow more obviously, even placing her small body horizontally. This created a space between the two of us. After doing all this, I held my breath. My hand seemed to have a mind of its own. Stealthily, tentatively moving towards Chen Mengxi, my fingertips brushed against her arm, and my heart skipped a beat, but my hand didn't stop. It slid down her smooth arm, gently taking her hand. Chen Mengxi's body stiffened imperceptibly, but the corner of her mouth curved up almost invisibly. She gently pulled her hand away, then lightly patted the back of my hand, which was still in the same spot, like a silent warning, but it also carried an indescribable hint of something else. I didn't pull my hand back. Instead, I boldly took her hand again, firmly this time, clasping her soft hand in my palm. This time, Chen Mengxi didn't struggle. Her fingers just curled slightly. My heart thumped. An indescribable feeling of excitement and nervousness welled up inside me. Right after, I secretly shifted my body towards her. The distance between us immediately shortened. Nai Nai, lying horizontally at our heads, was really getting in the way. I looked at my daughter's small, sleeping face, gritted my teeth, and decisively moved her, pillow and all, carefully and as gently as possible to the other side of the bed, right to the edge. Chen Mengxi clearly felt me getting closer. My body heat radiated through the thin pajamas, carrying a flustering warmth. Her breathing couldn't help but quicken a little. The fingers by her side also secretly tightened. I took a deep breath. My arm wrapped somewhat unnaturally around the back of her neck, and I gently pulled her into my arms. Chen Mengxi could feel my stiffness and tension, and the corners of her mouth lifted into a small curve again. Almost invisible in the darkness, she didn't resist. On the contrary, she very cooperatively leaned into it, turning her whole body towards me, her cheek almost pressing against my chest. My breath suddenly hitched. My heart felt like it was about to leap out of my chest, pounding against my ribs. The sound was so loud that I could hear it myself. I unconsciously swallowed, my Adam's apple bobbing. Then I leaned over slightly, readjusting our position to bring us closer, my other hand naturally finding her waist. I could feel her slender waist under my palm. The room was very quiet, so quiet you could hear each other's breathing and the frantic, drum-like beating of our hearts, which refused to calm down. Our warm breaths mingled, brushing past each other's cheeks and ears, bringing on little shivers. The faint scent of shower gel hung in the air, mixing with our own unique scents, creating an indescribably ambiguous atmosphere. A novel sensation enveloped the two of us, making the air around us feel thick. I lowered my head slightly, slowly moving closer to Chen Mengxi. Chen Mengxi could clearly feel my warm breath ghosting across her forehead, carrying a searing heat that made her heart beat faster, almost ready to burst from her chest. Even her breath was unconsciously held, a mix of nervousness and a little anticipation. Just as my lips were about to touch her forehead, "Daddy? Mommy? What are you two doing?" A soft voice, thick with sleepiness, sounded from above their heads without warning. This childish voice was like a clap of thunder, exploding instantly in the quiet bedroom. Chen Mengxi and I were like hit by a freezing spell. Our movements froze abruptly. Then, as if electrocuted, we opened our eyes at the same time. Two suspicious red flushes immediately appeared on both our faces. Panicked, we looked up almost in unison. There was Nai Nai, who had woken up at some point without us noticing. She was kneeling on the pillow above our heads. She tilted her head, her big, round eyes as clear as black grapes, blinking as she looked curiously at her parents, who were pressed closely together. That gaze was pure and innocent, but it made the two adults' scalps tingle instantly. Almost as a conditioned reflex, the two of us, as if burned, hastily let go of each other. Panicked, we scrambled away from each other, rolling quickly to opposite sides of the bed. Thud! Ouch! Because I was facing outward and moved too fast, couldn't stop in time. My entire body rolled right off the edge of the bed, making a dull thud as I hit the floor, accompanied by a short yelp of pain. Chen Mengxi rolled to the other edge of the bed, clutching the blanket tightly. Her back was to me, her cheeks so hot they felt like they were on fire. Hearing me fall off the bed, She let out a chuckle, but quickly suppressed it. On the floor, I didn't even have time to check if I was hurt. I scrambled to my feet, almost crawling on all fours, and climbed back onto the bed as fast as I could. I lay right on my edge of the bed, quickly pulling the blanket over me. My body stiff, I faced the wardrobe and squeezed my eyes shut, as if nothing had just happened. Chen Mengxi also turned her back to the middle of the bed, burying her face deep into the soft pillow. She could only feel her heart still pounding abnormally, thumping against her eardrums. Her ears were burning too. The room fell into a strange silence again. The romantic, ambiguous atmosphere from before had long been washed away by panic and embarrassment. All that remained was the sound of our somewhat ragged breathing. Nai Nai knelt on the pillow, looking at her mother, who had her back to her on this side, then looking over at her father, who also had his back to her on the other side. Motionless, she blinked her big eyes blankly, her small face full of confusion. She yawned. She didn't pay it too much mind. After all, it wasn't the first time she'd seen this. Then she lay down between the two of them and fell fast asleep. As for me, I barely slept a wink all night. Chen Mengxi's blushing face kept replaying in my mind until the sky outside the window began to lighten. Sleepiness finally overtook me, and I fell into a deep sleep. I don't know how much time passed, but the bed beside me stirred slightly. Chen Mengxi slowly opened her eyes and quietly turned her head to look at me. She saw that I was still sound asleep. The memories of last night unconsciously surfaced in her mind. A faint blush crept on her cheeks, and the corners of her lips curved up unconsciously. At that moment, the little girl in the middle also stirred awake. She rubbed her eyes and sat up. "Mommy," Nene called in her milky voice. Then she turned her head to look at the other side. "Daddy," she was just about to lunge over to wake me up when Chen Mengxi, with quick hands and sharp eyes, pulled her little arm back. "Shut." Chen Mengxi put her index finger to her lips and lowered her voice. "Be good. Nai Nai. Daddy didn't sleep well last night. Let's let Daddy sleep a little longer." "Okay." Nene blinked, then nodded understandingly. "Okay. I won't disturb Daddy's sleep." Chen Mengxi patted her daughter's head with satisfaction. She gently lifted the blanket, got out of bed, and then picked up Nene. "Let's go. Mommy will take you to wash up. We'll go out and buy breakfast." "Great. Let's buy soy milk and fried dough sticks." Nene was immediately excited. After washing up, the mother and daughter went to the entrance to change their shoes. Chen Mengxi squatted down and patiently put the little rabbit sneakers on Nene. Nene looked down, watching her mother's actions. Suddenly, her little mind remembered something, and she asked curiously, "Mommy, last night, when you and Daddy were hugging, what were you doing?" The movement of Chen Mengxi's hands suddenly froze. A rush of heat instantly flooded her cheeks. Even the tips of her ears started to burn. She looked up, meeting her daughter's clear eyes. For a moment, she was at a loss for words. She composed herself, reached out and gently pinched Nene's little cheek, and said with feigned seriousness, "Children shouldn't know so much." A smile blossomed on Nene's face, her eyes curved into crescents, showing an I get it expression. As she looked at Chen Mengxi, faced with her daughter's precocious expression, felt even more embarrassed. Her heart started to beat uncontrollably fast again. She avoided Nene's gaze and quickly finished putting on her shoes. Then she took her hand and walked out. After buying breakfast and returning home, Nene sat obediently at the dining table, taking small bites of the soup dumplings they had just bought. Her cheeks puffed out. Like a little hamster, Chen Mengxi looked at her daughter's adorable appearance, and the corners of her mouth unconsciously curved up. She turned and walked softly towards the bedroom. Pushing the door open, I was still fast asleep, lying on my side, my breathing even. Sunlight streamed through the gap in the curtains, landing on my angular face, casting soft patches of light. Chen Mengxi stood by the bed, looking at me quietly. Last night's unfinished kiss suddenly flashed through her mind. This couldn't help but make her cheeks flush slightly. As if possessed, she leaned down, her gaze falling on my beautifully thin lips. Her fingertips twitched, carrying an almost imperceptible tremor. She gently touched my lips. Warmth, a soft sensation transmitted. Quite sensual. Chen Mengxi's heart beat a little faster. A bold thought emerged. Maybe I should make up for last night's unfinished kiss. He owes me. Anyway, it's not too much to collect a little interest first. Right? She took a deep breath, as if psyching herself up, then she slowly lowered her head, moving closer to those tempting lips, closer and closer, until finally, her lips gently touched mine. A light brush before pulling away. The soft feeling was like an electric current. It instantly spread through her body. Chen Mengxi's heart was racing wildly, cheeks as red as ripe apples, but the corners of her lips couldn't help but curve into a sweet smile. She didn't dare stay long, afraid of waking him up. She quickly stood up straight and swiftly walked out of the room. Just as she turned, her steps suddenly halted. She saw that Nene, for who knows when, was standing at the bedroom door. Her big, bright eyes wide open, smiling at her. Ahem. Chen Mengxi coughed lightly to hide her awkwardness. Being caught by her daughter, no matter how calm she usually was, she was now a bit flustered, but on second thought, she straightened her back. It's perfectly natural for me to kiss my husband. What's there to be guilty about? It's not against the law. She could kiss him however she wanted. Thinking this, the tension in her heart immediately dissipated a lot. She met Nene smiling eyes, put her index finger to her lips, and made a shushing gesture. She lowered her voice. Nai. Daddy's sleeping. Let's be quiet. Don't wake Daddy up. Nai smiled without a word. She just pointed her little finger to her own mouth, then pointed at Chen Mengxi, even deliberately puckering her little mouth. Seeing her daughter's action, Chen Mengxi's face flushed bright red again. This little girl is too sharp-eyed. She actually saw it. She was both embarrassed and amused. She walked over and reached out a finger to gently poke Nene's small forehead, but Nene wouldn't have it. Tossing her little head back with a hint of pride, and threatened in her milky, childish voice, "If Mommy doesn't kiss Nene will go tell Daddy. He'll tell him Mommy secretly kissed him." Chen Mengxi's eyes widened in surprise. This little girl actually knew how to tattle. She helplessly pinched her daughter's cute little nose. Her tone was full of doting affection. All right. He'll kiss Nene." With that, she leaned down and planted a kiss on Nene's pink, chubby lips. Then she gently pinched her chubby cheek and instructed her seriously. "This is a secret between Nai and Mommy that can't be told. You can't tell Daddy. Understand?" Nai immediately patted her little chest and promised like a grown-up, "Don't worry, Mommy." Nai promises not to tell Daddy. Looking at her daughter's firm, vow-like expression, Chen Mengxi was temporarily reassured. Not doubting at all, she took the little girl's hand and left the bedroom door. The two returned to the dining table and finished the rest of their breakfast. Chen Mengxi opened her laptop, preparing to start handling some work. In a flash, time quietly passed until noon. The apartment was extremely quiet. There was only the crisp, clicking sound of a keyboard. Suddenly, a series of urgent phone rings broke the silence. Chen Mengxi stopped what she was doing. She picked up the phone beside her. She looked at the caller, Ed. It was Assistant Chen. She swiped to answer. "Hello?" Assistant Chen's voice came from the other end of the line. "President Chen? There's something urgent at the company. You need to come back and handle it." Chen Mengxi frowned slightly. She pondered for a moment. "Okay, I know. It'll be there in a bit." Hanging up, she closed her laptop. She stood up and looked at Nai, who was focused, playing with a puzzle on the living room rug. Nai. Chen Mengxi's voice softened. "Go wake your father up." "Okay, yes, ma'am." Nai replied with a cheerful sound. She put down the toy in her hand. Her little feet pattered as she ran towards the bedroom. The little girl pushed open the bedroom door and ran to the bedside. She climbed up easily, getting close to me while I was fast asleep. Her small hand gently patted my cheek. Her sweet, childish voice called, "Daddy, wake up. Daddy." My long eyelashes trembled as I slowly opened my eyes. The first thing I saw was my daughter's magnified little face. I rubbed my eyes and picked up the phone beside me to check the time. It was almost 12 o'clock. Nai saw that I was awake. With her hands on her hips and cheeks puffed out, she said in her childish voice, "Daddy's a lazy bum. The sun is already shining on your butt, and you're still not up." I chuckled. I reached out and pinched her chubby cheek. My voice carried the grogginess of just waking up. Okay. Daddy's getting up right now." Just then, the bedroom door was pushed open. Chen Mengxi walked in. I looked up. My gaze fell upon her. The dream of her secretly kissing me unconsciously appeared in my mind. That feeling was so real it didn't seem like a dream, but was a light touch that was gone in an instant, leaving me with an endless aftertaste. I don't know when, but my cheeks suddenly felt a little hot. My gaze also carried an imperceptible hint of confusion. Chen Mengxi didn't notice anything unusual about me. She walked straight to the wardrobe. With her back to me, she opened the closet door. She took out a coat from inside. "There's something at the company. I have to go there for a bit," she said while putting on her coat. "Could you please watch Nai for a bit?" "Okay," I replied immediately. I tried to make my voice sound normal. After putting on her coat, Chen Mengxi turned around. Her gaze flickered past my face and immediately shifted away. It landed on Nai. Her tone gentle. Nai, you have to be good and listen to Daddy at home. Understand?" Nai immediately opened her arms and rushed toward Chen Mengxi. "Mommy, hold me." Chen Mengxi bent down and scooped her daughter into her arms. She planted a kiss on the girl's rosy little face, then leaned into her ear. She whispered instructions in a voice only the two of them could hear. "Don't tell Daddy our secret." Nai nodded vigorously, her little face extremely serious. Chen Mengxi put Nai down and turned to leave. As she reached the bedroom door, my voice came from behind her. "Be careful on your way." Chen Mengxi's steps faltered slightly. Without turning back, she just gave a soft in response, but the corners of her lips uncontrollably curved up slightly. An imperceptible hint of sweetness rose in her heart. She quickly walked out of the bedroom and left the apartment. The apartment door closed softly. The next second, Nai immediately sidled up to me. With a mysterious, mischievous grin, she said, "Daddy, I'll tell you a secret." I was about to get up. Hearing that, I looked at my daughter curiously. What secret? Nine moved closer to me, her small hand covering her mouth as she whispered, "Mommy secretly kissed you this morning." The moment she said that, my whole body froze, my face was filled with astonishment. I unconsciously raised my hand, my fingertips gently caressing my lips. It seemed as if a trace of that faint, warm and soft feeling still lingered there. The corners of my mouth curved up slightly as I mumbled to myself. So it was real, not a dream. Could it be that she likes me too? Nai watched her father's silly smile. Her small hand couldn't help but reach out and shake my arm. Daddy, can we take Nailong out to play? My daughter's voice pulled me back to reality. I looked at Nai. The smile on my face deepened as I reached out and patted her little head. Okay, Daddy's getting up right now. I agreed with a smile. My heart was filled with joy because of this secret. Everything I saw looked pleasant. I quickly got up, hastily washed up, and got dressed to go out. Then I grabbed a few leftover meat buns that Chen Meng had bought and took Nai and Nailong downstairs. The two of us took a leisurely stroll to the small park nearby. The park was shady with green trees, and there were quite a few people. I found a bench under a tree and sat down. I took out a bun and took a bite. The meat filling was fresh and delicious. Meanwhile, Nai unhooked the dog's leash, letting Nailong run free on the grass not far away. Her clear laughter and the sound of Nailong's excited woof woof occasionally mingled in the air. Nailong happily chased after Nai's short legs, his tail wagging like a small fan. I leaned back on the bench, watching my daughter and the dog play, chewing on my bun. My heart was filled with an unprecedented sense of contentment. A life like this is really good. If Chen Mengsi were here too, it would be even more perfect. Thinking of Chen Mengsi, thinking of that morning kiss, the corners of my mouth unconsciously curved up again. I immediately reacted. I quickly took out my phone, unlocked the screen, and opened the camera app. I adjusted the angle slightly, pointing the lens towards the grass not far away, where one person and one dog were chasing each other playfully. I recorded a short video. After filming, I watched it with satisfaction. My fingertip tapped lightly and sent the video to Chen Mengsi. Elsewhere, in the CEO's office of the Shen Group, Chen Mengsi had just finished a short meeting. Just then, her phone screen lit up and a message notification chimed. Setting down her coffee cup, she picked up her phone and saw the message I had sent. A smile unconsciously formed on her face as she opened the video. Her daughter immediately appeared on the screen, wearing the little dress she had chosen that morning, playing happily with Nailong. Her laughter, clear as silver bells, came through the speaker, distinct and pleasant. The corners of Chen Mengsi's lips unconsciously curved up. Some of the fatigue in her eyes dissipated, replaced by a certain gentleness. Assistant Chen was standing nearby, preparing to report the upcoming work schedule, when she accidentally glanced over and saw the content on Chen Mengsi's phone screen, and the rare, gentle smile on her face. The young miss is so cute. Assistant Chen smiled and said at the right moment. Chen Mengsi didn't say anything, but the pride in her eyes was unconcealable. But for some reason, she really wanted to know if I missed her. Was I thinking of her just as she was thinking of me? Thinking of this, Chen Mengsi's pretty face unconsciously blushed. Right after that, the morning kiss flashed through her mind. She gently bit her lip. A shy expression appeared on her face. Assistant Chen, standing beside her, saw this and was stunned. She couldn't help but curse inwardly. No way! Isn't this just a video? Why is the boss starting to blush and get shy? Could it be that the video President Shen and I are watching isn't the same video? Chen Mengsi sensed Assistant Chen's scrutinizing gaze. The blush on her face quickly faded. Her expression returned to its usual coldness. She cleared her throat lightly. She turned off the phone screen and casually placed it on the desk. If there's nothing else, you may leave. Yes. President Shen? Assistant Chen was startled inwardly. How did I never realize that President Shen could change her expression so quickly? Although she thought this, she immediately averted her gaze and bowed slightly. She quickly exited the office. The office door was gently closed. Chen Mengsi picked up her phone and lit up the screen again. Looking at the video, which was only a few seconds long, her face showed a bit of a dilemma. How should I reply to him? Thank you. No. What's there to thank him for? Cute. No. That seems a bit forced. This is the first time someone has taken such initiative with her, sharing the trivial, everyday things in life. This feeling was very novel. It brought an indescribable warmth, but it also made her a little flustered. Chen Mengsi stared at the screen for a long time. Her fingertip hovered over the input box. In the end, she couldn't type a single word. After hesitating for a long time, she decisively locked her phone screen and set it aside. She picked up her documents again, trying to focus her attention on work. Meanwhile, elsewhere, on the park bench, I held my phone. The screen was still on the chat interface with Chen Mengsi. Time passed, second by second, minute by minute. No new message appeared in the chat box. I frowned, a little puzzled. Could it be that I didn't film it well? I opened the video and watched it again. The sunlight was beautiful. My daughter was smiling brightly. There was nothing wrong with it, or maybe she's very busy right now and doesn't have time to watch. I couldn't figure it out. I felt a little restless. I looked at Nai playing with Nailong not far away. An idea suddenly popped into my head. I picked up my phone again. My fingers tapped quickly on the screen a few times. I sent another message. Are you coming home for dinner tonight? At the same time, Shin Group. President's office. Chen Mengsai looked at the documents in front of her, but her gaze kept unconsciously glancing at the phone on the corner of the desk. She had clearly decided not to reply for the time being, but her heart was secretly waiting. Just then, a soft ding-dong sound chimed. The phone screen lit up again. Almost as a reflex, Chen Mengsai quickly reached out and grabbed the phone. The new message I sent appeared on the screen. Are you coming home for dinner tonight? A simple sentence. It made the corners of her lips unconsciously curve into a beautiful arc. A smile also glinted in her eyes. The feeling of being cared for by someone other than her grandparents. The feeling of being worried about by someone else was something Chen Mengsai had never experienced before. She didn't hesitate anymore. Her finger tapped lightly. She replied with a simple one-word answer. After sending it, Chen Mengsai put her phone down. Her mood suddenly became light and cheerful. Right after that, she turned her head to look out the window. Her delicate eyebrows furrowed slightly as she whispered aloud, "Why isn't it quitting time yet?" At this moment, she was like an ordinary employee, eagerly wanting to get off work. Chen Mengsai didn't know why either, perhaps because of Nay. Or perhaps because of me on the park bench. I looked at the simple word coming on my phone screen. The corners of my mouth couldn't help but lift. I put my phone away. I stood up. I called out to my daughter who was playing with Nai Long. "Daddy, where are we going?" Nai ran over, leading Nai Long. She tilted her little face up and asked curiously, "We're going to buy food." I smiled, taking my daughter's small hand. "Daddy will make ribs for you." "Okay, yay, we're eating ribs." Nay clapped her hands excitedly. She didn't forget to turn back and share the good news with Nai Long. "Nai Long, we're having ribs tonight." Nai Long seemed to understand. He barked woof woof twice in response, his tail wagging even more happily. I led Nai and Nai Long, first taking Nai Long back to the apartment, then we went to the nearby supermarket together. We picked out fresh ribs and vegetables. I also bought Nai some fruits and snacks that she likes. The two of us then returned home, carrying large and small bags. Time passed quietly. Soon, it was almost 5 in the afternoon. I put on an apron. I started bustling around in the kitchen, washing vegetables, chopping vegetables, blanching, stewing. My movements were skilled. Meanwhile, Nai sat obediently on the living room rug, playing with her building blocks. She occasionally looked up at her busy father in the kitchen. Half an hour later, the apartment door was pushed open. A rich, appetizing aroma of food wafted in. Chen Mengsai smelled the fragrance of the food. She unconsciously looked towards the kitchen. The corners of her mouth lifted in an imperceptible smile. A strange feeling rose in her heart. It was very warm, as if she also had the feeling of a family, a small home that belonged only to her. This made her eyes well up uncontrollably. "Mommy!" Nai in the living room immediately heard the sound. She cried out happily, dropping the toy in her hand like a little calf. She rushed towards the door. Chen Mengsai immediately bent down and steadily caught the little girl who rushed into her arms, lifting her up. "Mommy's home." Nai hugged Chen Mengsai's neck. Her small face nuzzled into the crook of her neck. Her childish voice rang out. Chen Mengsai held her daughter, her heart melting. The coldness on her face lessened considerably. She asked gently, "Was Nai a good girl at home today?" Nai was very good. The little girl immediately puffed out her chest, her expression proud and boastful. Chen Mengsai was amused by her daughter. She reached out a finger and gently pinched the girl's small, high nose. Just then, I came out from the kitchen carrying a steaming plate of braised ribs. I immediately saw the mother and daughter hugging in the entryway. A gentle smile unconsciously appeared on my face. "You're back. It's just in time for dinner. Go wash your hands." My tone was very natural, no longer tense like before. Chen Mengsai's gaze met mine. Remembering the morning kiss and her own random thoughts in the office earlier, her cheeks grew slightly warm. Her gaze unconsciously shifted away as she nodded lightly. She said okay, and put down the handbag in her hand. She took off her suit jacket. Then, holding Nay, she turned and walked towards the bathroom. Soon, the three of us were seated at the dining table. 3 dishes and a soup were laid out on the table. "Wow, it smells so good." Nay looked at the table full of food, her eyes sparkling. I picked up a piece of tenderly stewed rib and placed it in the bowl in front of Chen Mengsai. The rib was soaked in a rich, flavorful sauce, exuding an appetizing aroma. Chen Mengsai looked at the rib in her bowl. A hint of a smile flashed in her eyes. "Try it. The ribs I bought today are delicious." My voice carried a hint of imperceptible anticipation. Without waiting for her reply, I asked again, "Yo, right? Did you watch the video I sent you this afternoon?" Chen Mengsai's hand, about to pick up the rib, paused slightly. Hearing my words, she gave a soft in response. The sound was as quiet as a mosquito's buzz. Seeing her reply, the smile on my face deepened, and I asked again, "Was it nice?" Chen Mengsai nodded without saying anything. Instead, she picked up the rib and took a bite. The meat was tender and juicy. It tasted really good. I saw her nod and said with a smile, "You didn't reply to my message for so long. I thought I didn't film it well." Hearing this, Chen Mengsai looked up at me and explained, "I was busy with work and forgot to reply." Feeling that this answer was too perfunctory, she added, "It was filmed very well. Nai is also very cute." Before I could speak, Chen Mengxi changed the subject and asked, "Do you have class tomorrow morning?" I was eating. Hearing that, I looked up at her, my expression showing confusion, but I still shook my head and replied, "I done have class tomorrow morning." "Why? Do you want to take Nai to kindergarten together?" Chen Mengxi looked at me, her voice tinged with anticipation. Without a second thought, I nodded and replied, "Sure." Chen Mengsai hummed in response. Taking it as an agreement, she picked up the glass of water beside her and took a small sip. Her eyes rested on me. A few seconds later, she put down the glass and spoke again. "In a few days, I want to take you to meet my grandparents." Kava had just taken a sip of soup. Hearing this, I suddenly choked. I hurriedly grabbed a napkin to cover my mouth and coughed. Chen Mengxi immediately passed her glass of water over. "Thanks." I took the glass and drank a large gulp. Only then did I barely manage to calm down. I looked at Chen Mengsai in disbelief, my expression clearly showing astonishment. "Meet your grandparents? Isn't it a bit too soon?" My heart immediately started pounding. A strong sense of unease welled up inside me. Meeting the parents, it was really too fast for me, and too sudden. My future self might have enough confidence to stand by her side. But what about the me of today? I'm just an ordinary university student from a well-off family. Compared to the Harris of the Shen group, it's a world of difference. If it weren't for Nai, I wouldn't even know Chen Mengsai right now. Chen Mengsai looked at me quietly, taking in all the panic and confusion that flashed in my eyes. She seemed to have guessed the anxiety in my heart. She slowed down, her voice softening a few notches. "My grandparents are very nice. They're also very open-minded. They won't care about those external things." She looked into my eyes and said seriously, "You don't need to feel pressured. I just feel that since they already know you exist, I should naturally take you to meet them. Of course, if you feel it's not convenient or you're not ready, you don't have to go." I was silent for a moment, not answering right away. I thought about it. After all, I have to meet them eventually. It seems there's no difference between meeting them sooner or later. Besides, at the party last time, I had already seen Chen Mengxi's grandparents from a distance. Although we weren't formally introduced, we've at least met face to face. It doesn't seem that scary. Thinking this, I wasn't so tense anymore. Just as I was about to reply, I suddenly realized Chen Mengxi taking me to meet her grandparents, introducing me to her family. Could it be that Chen Mengxi has already accepted me? Realizing that, my heart started beating wildly for no reason. I looked at Chen Mengxi, my throat a little dry. I nodded and replied, "Go. I'll go." When Chen Mengxi heard my words, a clear hint of surprise flashed in her eyes. She didn't expect me to agree. "You agreed?" Her eyes widened slightly, her tone laced with a hint of disbelief. I looked at her surprised expression, and a smile lifted the corners of my mouth. I asked in return, "What? Did you think I would refuse?" Chen Mengxi nodded slightly. She didn't deny it. She had only mentioned it tentatively. She didn't think I would agree, but she had thought about taking me to meet her grandparents, just not right now. But I looked at her with a burning gaze. I mustered up my courage and said, "I am your future husband. Meeting the parents is something that will happen sooner or later. Meeting them sooner or later is the same." Future husband. Those two words were like a small pebble thrown into a still lake, stirring up ripples in Chen Mengxi's heart. Her cheeks uncontrollably flushed a light pink. Her gaze also became a little evasive. I felt a little embarrassed saying those words myself. After all, I was still a virgin who had never been in a relationship. I coughed lightly and turned to look at Nai, who was busy piling ribs into her small bowl. I looked back at Chen Mengxi and asked, "So, should we take Nai with us?" Hearing my words, Chen Mengxi looked at Nai beside her. Without a thought, she nodded and said, "Of course we are. I think they will definitely like Nai." Nai looked at Chen Mengxi. She blinked, tilting her little head. She asked curiously, "Mommy, isn't it not time to meet great-grandpa and great-grandma yet?" The moment she said this, the smile on Chen Mengxi's face immediately froze. How could she not understand what her daughter meant? Instantly, an indescribable sadness welled up in her heart. Her eyes immediately darkened. A trace of sorrow appeared on her face as she looked at her daughter. She wanted to smile but couldn't. I looked at Chen Mengxi's instantly darkened expression and the sadness she was trying to suppress. My heart clenched. I put down my chopsticks, stood up, and walked a few steps to her side. Squatting down beside Chen Mengxi, I opened my mouth, wanting to say some words of comfort, but I didn't know where to start. Before I could speak, Chen Mengxi, as if finding an outlet for her emotions, suddenly turned around and wrapped her arms tightly around my neck. She buried her face in the crook of my neck. The sudden hug made my body stiffen. I could clearly feel her body trembling slightly and the warm dampness that seeped through my thin shirt. Wetting my shoulder, my raised hand froze in midair. Finally, it gently rested on Chen Mengxi's back. Bit by bit, clumsily yet gently, I silently comforted her. I said nothing, because I knew very well that any words at this moment would be meaningless. Saying nothing, on the contrary, was the best comfort. Nai, on the other side of the dining table, watched her mother suddenly cry. Then she looked at her father being hugged by her mother. Her small face was filled with worry. She put down the small spoon in her hand and slid off her chair. She slipped under the table and came out in front of Chen Mengxi. The little girl reached out her small hands to hug Chen Mengxi's leg, tilting her small face up. Her childish voice rang out, "Mommy, don't cry. Nai will hug you." Hearing Nai's voice, Chen Mengxi's mood calmed down quite a bit. She sniffled and rubbed against my shirt. Only then did she lift her head to look at Nai, smiling as she picked her up. Beside her, I saw the tear stains on her face. I was about to raise my hand to wipe them for Chen Mengxi. Just as my hand went up, Nai had already raised her hand and wiped away the tear stains on her face. Then she even kissed her cheek twice. I saw Nai's actions. Damn it. No way. You've wiped it all away. So what am I supposed to do? Chen Mengxi sniffled. Looking at her daughter's serious expression, her heart warmed, and a smile appeared on her face. She reached out and patted Nai's head, her voice gentle. Nai truly is mommy's little warm jacket. Being praised, Nai laughed happily and snuggled in her arms again. Chen Mengxi hugged and looked up at me, still squatting beside her. She saw that one of my hands was still raised in mid-air, the posture a bit stiff. My face also carried a hint of annoyance. She was stunned for a moment, asking with some confusion, "What's wrong with you?" Being asked that by her, I snapped out of my daze and pulled my hand back. A hint of embarrassment flashed across my face. I scratched my head, my gaze a little evasive, and laughed awkwardly twice. "Nope. It's nothing. My hand was just a bit tired." Chen Mengxi looked at my state. How could she not understand what I wanted to do just now? Thinking about my somewhat childish expression just now, she couldn't help but laugh out loud. Chen Mengxi carried Nai back to the chair and sat back in her seat. I also stood up and returned to my seat. The atmosphere relaxed. The three of us picked up our chopsticks again and continued eating. It's just that I felt a little unhappy inside. I picked up a piece of rib and put it in my bowl, but my eyes couldn't help but glance at Nai, who was eating obediently. The more I thought about it, the more it felt wrong. How old is this kid? How can she be so skilled? Who on earth taught her? I muttered to myself, my eyebrows knitted unconsciously. Nai was eating her ribs in small bites. Suddenly, she felt a gaze on her. She lifted her little head and happened to meet my gaze. She also saw my slightly furrowed brows. She blinked her big eyes, with rice still in her mouth. She mumbled, "Daddy, are you unhappy?" My daughter's soft voice pulled me back to reality. Looking at her innocent little face, I quickly forced a smile, shook my head and said, "No, Daddy's very happy." With that said, before Nai could ask more, quickly put several more pieces of ribs in her small bowl, my tone carrying a hint of dissatisfaction. "Eat your food obediently. Understand?" Nai nodded, seemingly understanding yet not fully. Seeing the small mountain of ribs piled in her bowl, she didn't ask any more questions. She lowered her head and continued to focus on the food in her bowl. Seeing this from the side, the corners of Chen Mengxi's mouth couldn't help but lift slightly, forming a subtle smile. I can't believe he's jealous of his daughter. It's quite cute. Not long after, once we had eaten and drunk our fill, I took the bowls and chopsticks to the kitchen. In the living room, Nai was lying on her stomach on the rug. Vui vivichai gvi kolazang via yuki. Her giggles echoed continuously. Chen Mengxi was leaning on the sofa, holding a tablet and looking at documents. Soon, I wiped my hands clean and came out. I walked straight to the sofa in the living room and sat down next to Chen Mengxi. I sat very close, almost pressing against her, but I deliberately looked away. However, my hand resting on the back of the sofa started to get restless. I quietly placed it on Chen Mengxi's shoulder. Chen Mengxi's body tensed up slightly, then relaxed, but she could clearly feel that my palm was trembling slightly. Chen Mengxi glanced at me from the corner of her eye. Seeing my pretense of calmness, she tried her best not to laugh out loud. Seeing that she didn't resist, I was overjoyed. I became a bit bolder. I cleared my throat, hiding the nervousness and joy in my heart. My arm naturally wrapped around and gently pulled Chen Mengxi into my embrace. Chen Mengxi didn't resist. Her body followed my pull, leaning softly into my chest. The clean, fresh scent from her body lingered at the tip of my nose. Just as Chen Mengxi's head was about to rest on my shoulder, something unexpected happened. A pair of small hands suddenly reached out from the side, wrapping around Chen Mengxi's neck, forcefully pulling Chen Mengxi out of my embrace. She hugged her tightly. "Mommy, Nai is a little sleepy." Nai, who had climbed onto the sofa at some point, was now like a little koala, clinging to Chen Mengxi. I was left hugging empty air. Completely stunned, my face was full of heartbreak. "You've got to be kidding me. Was she playing with the dog? When did she get up here?" At this moment, a feeling of helplessness washed over me. This unfilial child. This is absolutely an unfilial child. Chen Mengxi hugged the little girl, gently patting her back with a soft voice. Then Nanai should go put away her toys first. Then mommy will take you to bathe and sleep. Okay. Nanai obediently nodded and let go of her mother's neck. She slid off the sofa and scampered over to the rug, tidying up the scattered building blocks and dolls. Her tiny figure on the rug was busily at work. Chen Mengxi watched her daughter's busy little figure, a smile playing on her lips, then turned to look at me, who was still reeling from the shock. Her heart stirred, and she imitated my earlier actions. She reached out her arm, placed it on my shoulder, and with a little force, pulled me into her embrace. I absolutely did not expect Chen Mengxi to make such a sudden move. My body unexpectedly tilted towards her. By the time I could react, my cheek had uncontrollably pressed against the softness of her peaks. This sudden intimacy made me hold my breath instantly. My heart skipped a beat, then began to pound uncontrollably. Nanai finished cleaning up her toys and turned to look at her parents. She saw her father, who was about 1.8 meters tall, leaning against her mother, who was about 1.7 meters tall. She scratched her little head, a look of confusion on her face. Does this make sense? At that moment, the two of them felt a gaze upon them. In perfect sync, they followed the gaze and saw Nanai grinning at them. The two of them separated almost instantly. Each sat at opposite ends of the sofa. I looked up at the ceiling, playing dumb, while Chen Mengxi lowered her head, pretending to look at her tablet. Except the tablet seemed to be upside down. The atmosphere in the living room momentarily froze. Nene's clear voice broke the silence. Mommy, I've finished cleaning up my toys. Chen Mengxi seemed relieved, and a gentle smile immediately appeared on her face as she stood up. She quickly walked to her daughter's side and bent down to pat her head. Nanai is such a good girl, so now let's go take a bath and sleep. Okay. Nanai nodded vigorously. She reached out her little arms to hug her mother's neck. Chen Mengxi picked up her daughter. Her footsteps were light as she headed towards the bedroom. As she passed the sofa, gaze quickly swept over me. Her cheeks slightly flushed. She didn't dare to look me in the eye, just leaving a single sentence. I'm taking Nanai to get washed up first. I replied. I watched the mother and daughter's figures disappear around the corner of the hallway. I sat alone on the sofa, my heart still beating a little fast. In my mind, I couldn't help but replay the softness from just now. I leaned back against the sofa, the corners of my mouth involuntarily turning up slightly. On the other side, Chen Mengxi finished bathing Nanai, and then went to wash up herself. After a quick shower, she changed into her pajamas and lay down next to Nanai. Not long after, the sound of water in the bathroom stopped. I came out wearing my pajamas, covered in steam. I walked quietly to the other side of the bed, lifted the covers, and lay down. Only a dim bedside lamp was on in the bedroom. The light was faint. Nanai was between us, and no one spoke. There was only the sound of each other's gentle breathing, mingling in the quiet space. Early the next morning, Chen Mengxi felt a bit suffocated. She groggily opened her eyes. The first thing that came into view was a head of soft, black hair. At this moment, Nene's whole body was like an octopus, lying on top of Chen Mengxi. Her little face was buried in the crook of her neck. Sleeping soundly, a contented smile lingered on her lips. Chen Mengxi was both helpless and amused. Gently, she carefully moved her daughter's small hands and small feet off of her, afraid of waking her up. Right after that, her gaze shifted to me. Sleeping soundly beside her, I was sleeping facing her, my breathing even and deep. The faint morning light outlined the sharp features of my face, adding a touch of softness. Chen Mengxi's heart suddenly skipped a beat. She looked at my sleeping face. Just inches away, her body unconsciously moved closer to me, gently snuggling into my warm embrace. My arm seemed to move instinctively, pulling Chen Mengxi into my arms. Chen Mengxi's cheek pressed against my firm chest, clearly hearing my steady and strong heartbeat. The clean, pleasant scent from my body lingered at the tip of her nose. It wasn't the smell of shower gel, but my own unique scent. It made her feel an indescribable sense of security. Chen Mengxi's gaze slowly moved upwards, stopping in my gently moving Adam's apple. For some reason, looking at the rise and fall of that protrusion with my breathing, Chen Mengxi's heart suddenly had a strange and bold thought. She really wanted to take a bite. This thought made her cheeks burn, but her fingers seemed to have a mind of its own. She uncontrollably lifted it, her fingertip gently exploring my Adam's apple. She held her breath, feeling the skin beneath her fingertip, warm and slightly vibrating. The next second, a large, warm hand suddenly covered Chen Mengxi's misbehaving hand. Gently holding it, Chen Mengxi's breath hitched instantly. Her whole body went stiff as she suddenly looked up at me. My eyes were still closed, my long eyelashes casting a small shadow beneath them. It was impossible to tell if I was awake or not. However, the hand holding hers applied a little pressure, pulling Chen Mengxi's entire body tighter into my embrace. Her forehead immediately touched my chin. A stronger masculine scent, uniquely mine, completely enveloped her. Not only did Chen Mengxi not struggle, but she also buried her face in my neck. An intense feeling of reliance welled up from the bottom of her heart. She instinctively reached out with both hands and wrapped them tightly around my firm waist. My heart nearly leaped into my throat, and my body tensed slightly. I was even prepared to be pushed away by Chen Mengxi in the next second, or even to be kicked off the bed by her out of anger and embarrassment. However, the expected resistance never came. Instead, a pair of soft hands held me tightly. This sudden response sent a jolt through my entire body. I suddenly opened my eyes, the surprise in them quickly replaced by disbelieving joy. I looked down at Chen Mengxi, whose face was buried in my neck, leaving only the fluffy top of her head visible. The corners of my mouth uncontrollably curved up wildly. The smile in my eyes was about to overflow, as if afraid of disturbing this rare, beautiful moment. I gently closed my eyes again, but my arm instinctively tightened, holding her soft body even tighter in my arms. My breath was filled with the scent, the fresh fragrance of her hair and the faint scent unique to Chen Mengxi. The two of them just held each other tightly, in each other's warmth and heartbeat, and fell asleep once more. I don't know how much time passed. When I opened my eyes again, the clock on the wall had quietly passed 9. My consciousness returned. Just as I was to move my slightly numb arm, I met a pair of eyes that had also just opened. They were a bit sleepy, but still clear and charming. Our eyes met, just inches apart. The air seemed to freeze in this moment. Time also seemed to slow down. The next second, it was as if a switch had been flipped for both of us. Like startled rabbits, we quickly looked away at the same time, not daring to look at each other again. Chen Mengxi's panicked gaze fell on my chin, while my eyes were fixed on the ceiling. Although we were so embarrassed that our ears started to burn, and our cheeks were tinged with a suspicious blush, the arms holding each other were not immediately released by either of us. A sweet sense of happiness, like molasses, silently flowed between the two of us. Silently, but so real it made one's heart flutter. This warm and charming silence didn't even last a few seconds. The two of us simultaneously remembered that today seemed to be Monday. We had to take Nai to kindergarten. The next second, the warm blanket was thrown off, and the two of us, as if spring-loaded, shot out of bed at the same time. "Go wake Nai up," I said decisively. I looked for Nai on the bed. I quickly found Nai fast asleep. On the other side of Chen Mengxi, I gently patted my sleeping daughter. "Nai, wake up quickly. You're going to be late for kindergarten." My voice was a little anxious. Chen Mengxi also reacted quickly. She threw off her side of the covers and quickly got out of bed, while hastily searching in the closet for the clothes she and our daughter would wear today. Shaken by her father, Nai reluctantly furrowed her brows. Her small mouth let out a few unclear murmurs. She struggled to open her eyes a slit. Her gaze unfocused, she was clearly still lost in a sweet dream. Groggy, she had no idea what was happening. We're running out of time. I looked at my daughter's drowsy appearance. I couldn't gently coax her awake as usual. Instead, I bent down and lifted Nai out of the blanket. Then I strode towards the bathroom. Immediately after, I finished brushing Nai's teeth and quickly washed her face. Then Chen Mengxi frantically dressed the still drowsy Nai in the clothes and coat she had found. Then the two of them changed their clothes before carrying Nai out. By the time Nai's little head was finally a bit more awake, she was already sitting in the car. Not long after, the car came to a steady stop in front of the kindergarten. The three of us hurriedly got out. The kindergarten's main gate was open. A well-dressed, middle-aged woman with a gentle demeanor was standing at the entrance. It was the kindergarten principal. Seeing Chen Mengxi arrive with Nai, the principal's face immediately broke into a warm smile. She walked over quickly to greet her. "Xiao Chen," the principal called out in a friendly tone. Chen Mengxi nodded slightly and explained at the same time. "Something came up this morning, so we're a bit late." "It's fine. It's fine. It's not too late now." The principal waved her hand dismissively. After all, kindergarten is an elementary school. There's no such thing as being late. It's normal to bring children at this hour. She was used to it. Chen Mengxi squatted down and fixed her daughter's slightly messy hair. Then she zipped up her jacket and gently reminded her, Nai, at kindergarten you have to listen to the teacher and play with your friends. No fighting." "Okay." I also squatted down, my big hand gently patting our daughter's head. My voice was low and gentle. "Daddy and Mommy will pick you up in the afternoon." Nai nodded vigorously and reached out her little arms to hug her parents one by one. "Bye-bye, Daddy and Mommy." A young teacher smilingly took Nai's hand and led her into the kindergarten. Nai kept looking back as she walked, following the teacher into the kindergarten. Her small figure quickly disappeared at the entrance of the classroom building. Chen Mengxi and I stood there, watching our daughter leave, and only slowly stood up when she was out of sight. The two of us let out a sigh of relief at the same time and turned to walk towards the car. Getting in, Chen Mengxi fastened her seatbelt and started the car. I sat in the passenger seat, looking out the window, not saying anything. At this moment, both of us felt a little empty inside. Our moods were inexplicably a bit down. Not a word was spoken the entire way, until the car slowly stopped downstairs at the apartment building. Chen Mengxi parked the car and was silent for a few seconds, before turning to look at me and saying, "I'm going straight to the office later. I won't be back for lunch." I turned my head, my eyes meeting hers, and hummed softly in acknowledgement. The gaze was calm, but if you looked closely, it seemed to have an imperceptible hint of gentleness compared to usual. I unbuckled my seatbelt and opened the car door to get out. Just as I had one foot out of the car, Chen Mengxi's voice sounded again. "I'll come pick you up this afternoon." My movement paused for a moment. I turned my head to look at her, and a smile quickly appeared in my eyes. A glint flashed in Chen Mengxi's eyes, and she quickly added, "Didn't we already agree? We're gonna pick up Nanai together." I heard the second half of her sentence. The smile in my eyes immediately vanished. I replied with a faint tone. After speaking, I got out of the car and closed the door. Chen Mengxi watched my back as I walked into the building. Her delicate brows furrowed slightly. Why is he unhappy? Did I say something wrong? Or does he not want me to pick him up? At this thought, Chen Mengxi's eyes darkened, and she felt a little upset. Shaking her head, she didn't dwell on it, started the car, and drove towards the company. In the blink of an eye, it was afternoon. The moment I stepped into the classroom, I saw Yang Wei looking completely boneless, limply sprawled across his desk, his face turned towards the wall, leaving me with only the back of his neck, which screamed that he had nothing left to live for. My steps paused for a moment, then I walked over, sat down in the empty seat next to him, and put down the book in my hand. I tilted my head to look at Yang Wei, who was still in that position, and said teasingly, "What's this? Even if you don't get to inherit the family fortune, it can't be this bad, right?" Hearing my voice, Yang Wei lifted his head to look at me. He shot me a mournful look. "Inherit the family fortune? What's that? Do you think I care about that?" Yang Wei's voice was weak. Hearing this, I looked curious. I placed a hand on his shoulder and said, "Then what is it? Tell me so I can have a laugh." Yang Wei looked speechless, but he still opened his mouth to explain. "Last night, 10 girls added me as a friend." My eyebrows raised slightly, seemingly a little surprised. I smiled and said, "Isn't that a good thing? Why do you look so down?" Hearing that, Yang Wei got even angrier, his tone accusatory. He said angrily, "A good thing? I thought it was a good thing too. At the time, I thought my love life was finally taking off. Turns out, 8 of the 10 people came to ask me for your contact information." The expression on my face froze slightly. For a moment, I didn't know what to say. I coughed lightly and changed the subject. Weren't there still 2 people left? If I hadn't said that, it would have been fine. As soon as I said it, the expression on Yang Wei's face became even more indescribable, as if he had just swallowed a fly. The other 2, he waved his hand listlessly, his voice full of despair. One was selling movies, asking if I wanted some resources. The other one was selling tea, asking if I liked to drink tea. I was completely speechless. I looked at Yang Wei's face, which was filled with indignation and self-pity, and sighed. I reached out and patted Yang Wei's shoulder, silently conveying my sympathy. Yang Wei looked up, his eyes genuinely filled with confusion and helplessness. He looked at me and asked, "Muka, do you think I'll never be able to find a girlfriend in this lifetime? Am I destined to be alone until I'm old?" I pondered for a moment. I looked at him with some difficulty and said, "Judging by your it's very possible." "Yo, are you even my bro?" Yang Wei let out a howl and then lunged forward. His hands gripped my arm, his head rubbing against my shoulder. "I'm so pathetic, even you say so." All right. Get off." I pushed him away with a look of disgust, the arms clinging to me. "It's not completely hopeless. You know so many guys. Surely your friends have some friends. Older sisters. Younger sisters. Or something. Just find one you like and try pursuing her. Who knows? It might work out." Yang Wei was stunned for a moment, then his eyes suddenly lit up, as if he had achieved enlightenment. "Right." He slapped his thigh. "Why didn't I think of that? You're a true bro." In his excitement, he hugged me again. Just then, Chu Yu and Xia Signing walked into the classroom. Chu Yu scanned the room. She quickly spotted me sitting by the window and walked in this direction. Yang Wei had sharp eyes. He immediately nudged me with his elbow. "Look, the department bell is here," he whispered as a reminder. I followed his gaze. Sure enough, I saw Chu Yu and Xia Signing walking towards me. Their steps were light. I sighed inwardly. Was my rejection a few days ago not clear enough? Before I could think much more, Chu Yu and Xia Signing walked straight to our desk. Chu Yu's eyes were fixed on my face. In her hand was a cup of milk tea with exquisite packaging. "Muka!" Chu Yu's voice was clear, with a deliberately sweet tone. She held the milk tea in her hand out to me. "Here, I bought this especially for you." The cloying sweetness made me frown slightly. I didn't reach out to take it, just looked up at Chu Yu. My tone was calm but distant. "Thank you, but I don't like milk tea." The smile on Chu Yu's face didn't change. She didn't seem to hear the rejection in my words. She continued, "Just try it. This place is really good." I took a deep breath, my eyes sweeping past Chu Yu. My voice deepened a little. I said, "I don't like milk tea. I don't like you. I already have someone I like." The smile on Chu Yu's face finally stiffened for a moment, but she quickly recovered her nonchalant expression. She chuckled softly. She placed the milk tea directly on my desk and said, "Whether you like it or not is your business." "Me liking you is my business?" She looked at me, her eyes holding an indescribable stubbornness. "The milk tea is here. Whether you drink it or not is up to you." After speaking, without waiting for me to speak again, She pulled Xia Xining's hand and turned to leave. I looked at the milk tea on the desk, my brows furrowing even tighter. My face was etched with impatience. Does she not understand human language? Or is there a problem with how I expressed myself? Without hesitation, I picked up the still slightly warm milk tea, raised my hand, and accurately threw it into the trash can in the corner of the classroom. With a thud, the milk tea cup landed at the bottom of the can. Holy crap. Yang Wei, watching from the side, was dumbfounded. Then he gave me a thumbs up. Nice, really keeping it in your pants. I turned my head and glanced at him. My tone became a bit more serious. This isn't about being faithful. This is basic human decency. I organized my books and continued. A decent man won't be two-faced or go around playing with people's feelings. The joking expression on Yang Wei's face gradually faded, replaced by a look of surprise and scrutiny. He stared at me for a few seconds before smacking his lips and saying, "Nope, I haven't seen you for just a few days, and Xiao Chen has already taught you so profoundly." The crowd at the school gate was gradually growing. Most were students who had finished their classes for the day, preparing to leave campus. At this moment, a red beetle slowly pulled over to the side of the road. Its small body amidst the crowd of vehicles was incredibly eye-catching. The car door opened, and Chen Mengxi stepped out from the driver's seat. Just as she steadied herself, the characteristic low roar of a sports car came from behind her. Purple supercar with sleek lines followed closely behind, stopping steadily behind the beetle. The car door swung upwards. Yang Ziyu stepped out in high heels. Yang Ziyu took a few steps to stand in front of Chen Mengxi. Her gaze subtly glanced inside the beetle. Her tone was a little unnatural as she asked, "Where's Nai?" Chen Mengxi tilted her head to look at her, her tone calm and unruffled. "At kindergarten." Yang Ziyu nodded. She didn't seem to be able to find any other topic. A brief silence fell between the two of them. Chen Mengxi didn't mind. She just raised her hand to check the time on her watch. Just then, from the crowd at the school gate, two familiar figures emerged. The moment I looked, I saw Chen Mengxi standing next to the red beetle, and Yang Ziyu beside her. My eyes landed on Chen Mengxi. My eyes immediately lit up, and the corners of my mouth unconsciously curved up. My pace also quickened noticeably. Yang Wei, walking beside me, saw his sister, Yang Ziyu. There was no particular expression on his face. He just followed my steps forward. Almost at the same time, Chen Mengxi also saw me walking quickly in her direction. A gentle smile bloomed on her lips. That smile made Yang Ziyu, who was next to her, stare in a daze. Chen Mengxi put away her phone and nodded at Yang Ziyu. Her tone returned to its usual coolness as she said, "Xiao Yang, you'll be leaving now." Just as she finished, I had already approached. Chen Mengxi stepped forward to meet me, very naturally standing shoulder to shoulder with me. I greeted Yang Ziyu and Yang Wei. Then, without lingering, I got into the car with Chen Mengxi. The red beetle quickly started up, smoothly merging into the evening traffic and heading towards the kindergarten. I tilted my head to look at Chen Mengxi, who was focused on driving. Her focus-eye profile under the setting sun had gentle lines. For some reason, I felt that Chen Mengxi was especially gentle today. My heart stirred, wanting to find a topic. I had just opened my mouth when a clear phone ringtone sounded, interrupting my words. The ringtone came from the phone connected to the center console. Chen Mengxi looked straight ahead, her hands on the steering wheel not moving. She just tilted her head, motioning for me to help her answer the call. I nodded. I reached for the phone. The screen displayed Ms. Wang. Without much thought, I accepted the call and pressed the answer button. "Hello? Hello?" The other end of the line immediately transmitted a seemingly anxious female voice. "Excuse me, is this Nene's parent? This is Ms. Wang from the kindergarten. This is him." I replied. An ominous feeling rose in my heart. Here's the situation. As Wang's speaking speed was a bit fast. Nene I got into a fight with another classmate at school. Is it convenient for you to come over now? I could faintly hear crying in the background. I was stunned and blurted out, "Are you speaking human?" "Oh no! A fight." My first reaction was, of course, disbelief. After all, Nene is so well behaved and sensible. How could she get into a fight with someone else? "Yes." As Wang's voice sounded helpless, "You should still come over and see the specific situation." "Okay, we'll be right there," I replied in a low voice and hung up. Chen Mengxi had been paying attention to my call. Although it wasn't on speaker, from the instant change in my expression and the two words "a fight," she had already guessed the general situation. "What happened?" she asked. Her voice was still steady. I turned my head to look at Chen Mengxi and said, "That was Ms. Wang from the kindergarten." She said Nene I got into a fight with someone at kindergarten. She asked us to go over. Chen Mengxi immediately frowned. Her cold eyes were full of surprise. Nene I got into a fight. Her soft and lovely daughter got into a fight at kindergarten. Clearly, Chen Mengxi found it a bit hard to believe. I nodded. I also found it hard to believe, but the crying I heard on the phone just now sounded a bit familiar, as if I had heard it somewhere before, but she didn't think too much about it. After all, her daughter was more important. Chen Mengxi said nothing more. but pressed the accelerator a little harder. Worry appeared on both of our faces simultaneously. Very quickly, the Beetle stopped at the kindergarten gate. The two of us opened our car doors and got out almost at the same time, walking side by side towards the kindergarten, heading straight for the teacher's office. The office door was ajar. The two of us walked in and immediately saw a small figure sitting on a small chair. In her hand was a small, squashed cake. She had her head down, her little head almost buried in her chest. Her eyes were red, and there were still wet tear tracks, looked even clearer under the bright office lights. The pitiful sight made both Chen Mengxi's heart and mind clench. Nainai heard the sound at the door and suddenly looked up. When she saw her mom and dad walking in side by side, her little pouting mouth immediately turned down. The tears that had just stopped in her eyes started to flow again. Her face was filled with grievance. Before Chen Mengxi and I could speak, a small figure suddenly rushed out from the side, like a small cannonball. He crashed straight into me. Whoa! Big brother, I just felt my leg being squeezed tightly. I looked down and saw a sturdy little boy, hugging my thigh tightly, crying his heart out. Snot and tears covered his face. I was instantly stunned. What is this situation? My cousin's son, why was he hit by someone? I looked at Nainai, then I looked at Guy Boxio, bad feeling rising in my heart. My daughter couldn't have hit her own future maternal uncle. Could she? Chen Mengxi beside me was also stunned. A hint of confusion flashed in her cold eyes. Seeing the little boy hugging my leg and wailing, Miss Wang from the kindergarten also had a look of astonishment on her face. She clearly didn't expect that Guy Boxiao would know Nene's father and even call him Big Brother. Guy Boxiao cried even louder, letting go with one hand. His chubby finger trembled, pointing at Nainai, who was still sitting on the small chair. He tattled, "Big brother, she hit me. Boo-hoo, she even knocked out my front tooth." "What?" Chen Mengxi and I exclaimed in shock at the same time. We both looked towards our daughter. Nainai knocked someone's front tooth out. Disbelief was written all over both our faces. Although Nainai can be a bit short-tempered at times, she's usually as well behaved as a little angel. How could she hit someone, and so fiercely at that? Seeing this, Miss Wang hurried forward to explain. "Nene's dad, Nene's mom, it's not that serious. Boxiao is currently losing his baby teeth. That front tooth has been loose for a long time, although the teacher said that the fact that she hit him didn't seem to be denied." Just then, Nainai, who was sitting aggrieved on the chair, suddenly jumped down and trotted over to my side. She angrily reached out her small hand. She forcefully pulled at Guy Boxiao, who was still hugging my thigh. "Let go." Nene's voice was hoarse from crying as she said angrily, "That's my dad." I looked at the chaotic scene before me, and my head started to hurt. Chen Mengxi walked to Nene's side. She slowly squatted down. Her gaze met her daughter's red-rimmed eyes. She gently wiped the tear stains from her daughter's face. Her voice was very soft as she asked, "Nainai, tell mommy, what exactly happened?" Hearing her mother's gentle question, Nene's sense of grievance surged again. She pointed her little finger at Guy Boxiao, whose eyes were also red-rimmed. With a sobbing voice, she said haltingly, He ruined my little cake," she said. She then pointed to the side of the small chair she had just been sitting on. The cupcake was squashed beyond recognition. "That cake, I was saving it for mommy and daddy." Nene's voice was full of heartbreak. Tears fell like broken strings of pearls. Hearing this, Guy Boxiao also hurriedly explained, "I didn't do it on purpose." Seeing this, Miss Wang quickly stepped forward, stood between the two children, and recounted the whole story. "Nene's dad, Nene's mom, this is what happened. Just now, the children were playing in the activity area. Guy Boxiao accidentally sat on the little cake Nainai had left on the chair beside her. When Nainai saw the cake was ruined, she lashed out." Miss Wang paused for a moment, then added, "Little Boxiao didn't fight back. He was just scared into tears." I now understood the cause and effect. My gaze fell on my daughter's little face. I thought to myself, I never expected that Nainai, who looks so gentle and well-behaved, would be a bit fierce like her mother when she gets angry. I reined in my thoughts. I looked at Guy Boxiao, who was still standing beside me, sniffling and looking at me. I squatted down. I smiled at Guy Boxiao, pinched his cheek, and said, "Let Big Brother see if you're hurt anywhere else." Guy Boxiao sniffled, his voice nasal as he shook his head. "Nope, I'm okay." I wasn't reassured. I carefully examined his face and small mouth again. After confirming there were no other injuries, I finally breathed a complete sigh of relief. When Chen Mengxi saw that Guy Boxiao was really okay, the heart that had been in her throat relaxed a lot. But right after, she looked at Nainai, who was still crying beside her. Her tone became a few degrees more serious as she said, "Nainai, Miss Wang already said that Boxiao didn't do it on purpose. Even if he ruined your cake, you're not allowed to hit people." Nainai was already feeling very wronged, and now hearing her mother say this, her little head hung low, and her shoulders slumped. She looked even more pitiful. When I heard that, I turned and pulled my daughter, who was silently shedding tears with her head down, gently into my arms. I looked at Chen Mengxi, my brows furrowed slightly. I wanted to say something, But when my gaze met Chen Mengxi's, I saw the confusion and panic on her face. Chen Mengxi looked at her daughter's extremely aggrieved appearance. Then she met my questioning gaze. A trace of guilt unconsciously appeared in her eyes. The words on the tip of my tongue were swallowed back. I could see that it wasn't that Chen Mengxi's heart didn't ache for our daughter. It was just that when it came to educating children, she didn't seem to know how to grasp the right measure and method. I reached out my other hand. I gently took Chen Mengxi's slightly cold hand. I comforted her in a low voice. "It's okay. Let me handle it." Chen Mengxi felt the warmth from my palm. She was slightly stunned, feeling an indescribable sense of reassurance in her heart. Then she nodded gently, but the guilt and confusion on her face didn't disappear immediately. I picked up the still sniffling Nene and sat her on my lap. Nene's small body immediately found support. She wrapped her arms tightly around my neck, burying her little face in the crook of my neck, sobbing with a deep sense of grievance. I gently patted my daughter's back. A gentle action. After a long while, the crying of the little girl in my arms gradually stopped. Only her shoulders were still trembling slightly. I lowered my head with my warm palm. I helped her wipe her tear-soaked cheeks. I asked gently, "Nene's little cake was ruined. You must have been very angry just now, right?" Nene nestled in my arms, sadly nodded. I stroked her soft hair and continued to ask gently, "Then what if Nene accidentally broke the favorite toy of another child? How would you want that child to treat you?" Nene looked up, her red-rimmed eyes carrying a hint of confusion. She didn't understand why her dad suddenly asked this. She frowned. Still, she thought about it seriously. That child might be very angry. They might ignore me. They might even make me replace it with a new toy. But they shouldn't hit me, because getting hit really hurts, just like how sadly Guy Baksha was crying just now. Thinking of this, Nene's small face slowly was tinged with a layer of shame. She also realized that her behavior just now seemed wrong. I keenly noticed the change in expression on my daughter's face, but I didn't rush her to apologize. Instead, I smiled and lifted my daughter's small face. I had her look into my eyes and said, "Nene, because the cake was ruined, we can be angry. Mom and Dad are also very sad about that cake, but we can't use our little fists to solve problems. That will hurt other children. It will also make their parents sad." I paused for a moment, then I continued, "Next time something like this happens, we can ask the teacher for help first." "Okay." Hearing her father's words, Nene's long eyelashes trembled. She nodded once more, but her little mouth was pressed tightly together. She still didn't say a word. The smile on my face didn't change. I gently pinched her little nose again and asked, "So, what should we do now?" Nene hesitated for a moment. Finally, she summoned her courage. She looked up at Guy Baksio beside her and said softly, "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have hit you." Guy Baksio was stunned for a moment, seemingly not expecting Nene to apologize. He quickly waved his hands. Sniffling, he said, "It's okay." The two children's voices were still young and tearful, but the apology and acceptance sounded very serious. Just then, the sound of footsteps came from outside the office door. Miss Wang looked up and hurriedly went to greet them. "Baxiao's grandmother is here." I almost immediately noticed the commotion at the door. I quickly glanced at the gray-haired old woman walking in, with a worried expression, then quickly lowered my head. I went close to Guy Baxiao, who was still standing, and lowered my voice. I spoke in a volume only the two of us could hear. "Later, don't say you saw me, and don't call me big brother." "Okay." Guy Baxiao looked at me blankly. Not understanding, he asked, "Why?" I quickly added, "Be good. It'll buy you firecrackers for the new year." Guy Baxiao's eyes immediately lit up. He nodded vigorously. He mumbled a reply. Having gotten his assurance, I immediately stood up straight. I turned around, my back facing the door, leaving only a broad back for the newcomer to see, as if I were comforting the daughter in my arms. Seeing this, Chen Mengxi immediately stood up, walked around me, and shielded me. The old woman saw her grandson as soon as she looked and rushed over. She squatted down and took Guy Baxiao's small arm. She looked him up and down. "What happened? Are you okay? Let Grandma see." Guy Baxiao saw his grandmother and wiped his nose. He shook his head and said, "It's nothing, Grandma. I'm okay." The old woman wasn't reassured and checked him carefully again. Seeing that his face indeed had no injuries, she finally breathed a sigh of relief. She looked up at Miss Wang and Chen Mengxi. Her gaze was questioning. Miss Wang quickly repeated what she had just said to me and Chen Mengxi, recounting it briefly and concisely for the old woman. She explained the cause and course of the incident. After hearing the teacher's account, Chen Mengxi wore an apologetic expression. She took the initiative to step forward and say, "I'm so sorry. Children don't know any better. We'll compensate for whatever is necessary." Hearing this, the old woman quickly waved her hand. A rather kind smile appeared on her face. "Yo, no need. No need at all." She picked up her grandson. She looked at Chen Mengxi, her tone very reasonable. "They're just kids, bumping into each other. Fighting. It's all normal." Chen Mengxi didn't expect that Guy Baxiao's grandmother would be so easygoing. For a moment, she didn't know what to say. After speaking, The woman exchanged a few more pleasantries with Miss Wang. Then she carried Guy Boxiao, turned, and left the office. After they left, I finally breathed a sigh of relief, turned to Miss Wang and said, "I'm sorry. Miss Wang, we've troubled you." Seeing this, Miss Wang quickly waved her hand, saying it was nothing. After a few pleasantries, I carried Nainai and walked out. Chen Mengxi followed the father and daughter, half a step behind. Her head was slightly lowered, her mood a bit down. I tilted my head slightly, from the corner of my eye. I caught sight of Chen Mengxi following behind. I could feel that her mood was a bit low. I deliberately slowed down. I waited for Chen Mengxi to catch up a bit. Then I reached out my free hand and naturally took hers. Chen Mengxi's fingers were a bit cold. When they were enveloped by my warm palm, they couldn't help but tremble slightly. She subconsciously looked up. She looked at me, only to see me looking straight ahead. My other arm was holding our daughter, as if this was just a completely normal action, but this simple touch was like a warm current, silently soothing a certain anxiety in her heart. She didn't pull away. She let me hold her hand. The rims of her eyes turned slightly red, but a smile bloomed on her face. She looked at the hand I was holding. An indescribable warmth filled her heart. Could this be the feeling of not being abandoned? The three of us entered the apartment. Put Nainai down from my arms. I set her steadily on the ground. I squatted down and smoothed my daughter's slightly messy hair. I said gently, "Dad's going downstairs to get a package. He'll be back quickly to cook dinner for you and Mom." Chen Mengxi stood beside me, looking at my gentle profile. She nodded slightly without saying anything. "Dad, you have to come back quickly." Nainai tugged at the corner of my shirt, looking up to urge me. I smiled and replied, "Okay." I stood up and glanced at Chen Mengxi. Then I turned, opened the door, and left the apartment. When the door was gently closed, only Chen Mengxi and Nainai, who was teasing the puppy, were left in the living room. The atmosphere seemed to become quiet instantly, even a bit awkward. Chen Mengxi looked at her daughter's small back. Hesitating for a moment, she tried to find something to say. "Nainai, do you want some fruit?" Nainai didn't turn her head, just shook it, her voice sad. "No. Thank you." After saying that, she focused on playing with the dog, no longer paying attention to Chen Mengxi behind her. Chen Mengxi's outstretched hand froze in midair. Then she quietly withdrew it. She could clearly feel the distance and deliberate coldness from her daughter towards her. A thick sense of loss rose in her heart, as if she had been pricked by something. Chen Mengxi didn't know how to break this impasse. She didn't know what to say to make her daughter open up to her again. In the end, she could only sigh silently. She walked to the sofa and sat down. Her gaze fell on her daughter, who was happily playing with Keel not far away. Her gaze was complicated. Before long, the sound of the lock turning was heard. I walked in carrying a bulging shopping bag. Chen Mengxi immediately stood up from the sofa and went to greet me. "Dad!" Nainai heard the sound and excitedly ran to the door. She hugged my thigh. Looking up, she asked, "Dad, what are we eating tonight?" I put down the bag in my hand and squatted down. A gentle smile was on my face. I reached out and pinched my daughter's chubby cheek. "What does our Nainai want to eat?" "Coca-Cola chicken wings," Nainai said without hesitation, naming her favorite dish. Her eyes sparkled brightly, full of anticipation. "All right, Coca-Cola chicken wings it is," I agreed with a smile. I patted her head. "Go play now. Dad has to cook." I looked at Chen Mengxi and smiled at her. Then I picked up the shopping bag and went straight into the kitchen. I took out the ingredients from the bag one by one. Vegetables, meat, and an exquisitely packaged box of strawberry cake. I carefully placed the cake in the refrigerator's fresh-keeping compartment. Then I began to prepare dinner in an orderly manner. Chen Mengxi looked at my busy back in the kitchen. Her heart was in turmoil. She took a deep breath. Her footsteps followed me into the kitchen. She conveniently closed the glass door gently. It blocked out the sounds of our daughter and the pet playing in the living room. The kitchen wasn't large. I stood in front of the counter. My back was to her as I focused on chopping the potatoes in my hand. My knife skills were practiced, making a light chopping sound. Chen Mengxi stood by the door, looking at my back, her lips moving slightly. A look of conflict and hesitation was clear on her face, but in the end, she didn't make a sound. I naturally noticed her presence, but I didn't stop what I was doing, nor did I turn around, just silently continued chopping vegetables. Chen Mengxi lowered her head, her fingers unconsciously fidgeting with the corner of her shirt. A sad voice sounded, Sorry," but before she could continue, I put down the knife in my hand. I turned to look at Chen Mengxi standing behind me. "Why are you apologizing to me?" My voice was very gentle. It carried a hint of confusion. Chen Mengxi's gaze was a bit evasive. After a moment of silence, she still said in a small voice, "This afternoon, I shouldn't have scolded Nainai so harshly." I looked at her. My tone became a bit more serious as I said, "No, you weren't wrong. Nainai did make a mistake. That's a fact. Your original intention was also to build good character for Nainai. That's not wrong. There's no need to apologize to anyone. Understand?" Hearing this, Chen Mengxi blinked, a little surprised. "I didn't do anything wrong." She found it a little hard to believe. She subconsciously looked towards Nainai. Her voice carried a clear sense of dejection, but Nainai doesn't want to pay attention to me now. Hearing this, I took a paper towel and dried the water from my hands, then I stepped closer to Chen Mengxi. I reached out with both hands. I gently lifted her cheeks. Chen Mengxi was forced to raise her head. She stared blankly at me from up close. I gazed into her eyes. My tone still gentle as I said, I can tell you very responsibly that your intention wasn't wrong. Only your method was, because children have feelings too. Towards children. We need to have more patience and tolerance. I paused for a moment, watching the emotions flicker in her eyes, and continued, so we can't just focus on criticizing the child. Children have self-esteem too. Compared to scolding, it's more important to understand their feelings and then guide them. Chen Mengxi stared at me. Stunned, her heart felt as if it had been gently tapped by something. It turns out when you make a mistake, facing criticism and blame isn't the only way. She slowly came to her senses and nodded gently, replying, "Yes, I understand now." Only then did I release the hands cupping her cheeks and ask, "So now you know what to do?" Chen Mengxi's gaze once again turned towards the small figure in the living room. She nodded again. Then Chen Mengxi reached out and pushed open the kitchen's glass door. She walked towards Nainai in the living room. I felt a little worried, because from our conversation just now, I could feel that Chen Mengxi was trying to please me, especially when she said Nainai was ignoring her. Her voice was very dejected. Reeling in my thoughts, I took off my apron. I followed Chen Mengxi out to the living room. Chen Mengxi walked over and sat down next to Nainai. She looked at Nainai's small back and took a deep breath. She called out softly, "Nainai! Nainai!" who was teasing Nei Long. Paused, she slowly turned her head to look at Chen Mengxi. There was no expression on her little face, nor did she say anything. Chen Mengxi looked at her daughter's indifferent eyes. A flash of loss appeared in her heart. She remembered the words I had said in the kitchen just now. She reached out to take Nainai's small hand. Her tone gentle, it carried a hint of apology. "Nainai, you must have felt very wronged back then, right?" Hearing the words very wronged, Nainai's small mouth immediately pouted. She lowered her eyes. Still not saying anything, she just tightened her grip on Chen Mengxi's hand. Chen Mengxi felt the force from her daughter's hand. She knew the little one wasn't completely resisting. She continued softly, "Mommy was too hasty back then. I ignored your feelings." She looked at Nainai's little face, which was hung low. Her voice became even more gentle as she asked, "So, can Nainai forgive Mommy?" After speaking, she looked at Nainai, her eyes full of expectation. Nainai glanced at Chen Mengxi. Then she looked up at me, who was walking beside her. I met my daughter's gaze. I smiled and sat down next to Chen Mengxi, revealing a gentle smile. I reached out and patted her head. I said softly, "Nainai, Mommy was too hasty back then. That's why she overlooked how wronged you felt at that moment. Mommy knows she was wrong, so let's forgive her." "Okay." Hearing her father's words, Nainai lowered her head to think. Then she looked up again. She looked at Chen Mengxi. Chen Mengxi's heart was in her throat. Her body leaned forward slightly as she looked at her daughter nervously. Nainai looked at Chen Mengxi, her small mouth moving. Then she suddenly stretched out both hands, asking for a hug from Chen Mengxi. "Mommy, hug!" Hearing her daughter's soft voice, a joyful smile immediately bloomed on Chen Mengxi's face. She quickly embraced Nainai. She held her daughter's small body tightly in her arms, being hugged by her mother. Nainai also hugged Chen Mengxi's neck tightly. Her little face was buried in the crook of her neck. After a moment, she let go, looked up at Chen Mengxi, and said softly, "Mommy, Nainai was wrong too. Nainai shouldn't have hit anyone." She paused for a moment, then looked into Chen Mengxi's eyes. She apologized seriously. "Also, I shouldn't have gotten angry at you. I shouldn't have ignored you." Hearing her daughter's sincere apology, Chen Mengxi's eyes immediately turned red. She hugged Nainai tightly. For a moment, she didn't know what to say. I stood by, watching the mother and daughter embrace. A happy smile appeared on my face. I stood up and went into the kitchen. I took the small, exquisitely packaged cake from the refrigerator. Then I carried the strawberry cake to the living room. Wow! Strawberry cake. As soon as Nainai saw the cake in her father's hands, her eyes lit up, her voice full of surprise. Chen Mengxi felt the little girl in her arms squirm, so she relaxed her hold on her. Nainai immediately trotted over to me. She looked up. She stared at the cake box in my hands, her small mouth slightly open. I smiled and placed the cake box on the coffee table in the living room. Then I squatted down and gently tapped my daughter's cute little nose with my finger. My voice was full of affection. "You little glutton." I looked at my daughter's sparkling eyes and deliberately slowed down. I said gently, "Mommy specially bought this cake for Nainai?" Hearing this, Chen Mengxi looked up at me. Her face was filled with surprise. When had she bought a cake? Why didn't she herself have any recollection of it? Chen Mengxi's lips moved, about to ask, but before she could get the question out, Nainai beside her let out an even bigger cheer. She turned and threw herself into Chen Mengxi's arms. She called out sweetly, "Thank you. Mommy, you're the best." She reached out her small arms and hugged Chen Mengxi's neck tightly. She gave her cheek a loud smooch. Chen Mengxi unconsciously reached out her hands. She hugged her daughter's warm little body, Feeling her daughter's unreserved affection, an indescribably complex warmth rose in her heart. She looked over at me standing beside her. A hard-to-detect trace of emotion flickered in the depths of her eyes. I smiled, opened the cake box, and picked up the small fork that came with it. I cut a small piece and gave it to Nainai, who was looking at me eagerly. Nainai carefully held the small paper plate with the piece of cake, but she didn't eat it right away. Instead, she turned around. She brought the first pieces of cake to Chen Mengxi's mouth. "Mommy, you eat first." Chen Mengxi looked at her daughter's expectant eyes. Her heart warmed as she opened her mouth to eat the piece of cake. Filled with her daughter's thoughtfulness, the sweet cream and fresh strawberry flavor instantly spread in her mouth. "It's delicious." "Thank you, Nainai," Chen Mengxi praised with a smile. Being praised by her mother, Nainai happily squinted her eyes, then used the small fork to scoop another piece. She turned and offered it to me. "Daddy, you eat too." I smiled and lowered my head. I cooperatively ate the piece of cake my daughter fed me. After doing all this, Nainai contentedly lowered her head. She used the small fork to scoop a piece into her own mouth. She happily smacked her lips. Chen Mengxi watched her daughter's small actions. She then remembered the piece of cake I had just eaten. It was with the fork that she had just used. Her cheeks unconsciously flushed slightly. She lowered her eyes, hiding the unusual emotion in the depths of her eyes. Yet, her heart felt a little happy for some unknown reason. I watched my daughter eat with satisfaction. I reached out and affectionately patted her head. "All right, Dad has to continue cooking now. You and Mom can eat the cake first." After speaking, I stood up and went back into the kitchen. Chen Mengxi's gaze followed my tall back. The corners of her mouth unconsciously curved into a gentle arc. An indescribable feeling of happiness quietly bloomed in her heart. Chen Mengxi's mood also completely relaxed. Then she stood up and also followed me into the kitchen. I was standing in front of the stove, watching the chicken wings sizzling in the pan, hearing a sound behind me. I turned my head. "What is it?" Chen Mengxi shook her head and walked to my side. She looked at the appetizingly colored Coca-Cola chicken wings in the pan. She said softly, "Thank you." I smiled and turned the heat down a bit. I tilted my head to look at her, my tone gentle. "What is there to thank me for? You're Nainai's mother. Of course I don't want to see a distance between you and Nainai. A mother's love is very important for a child's growth." With that, I picked up the plate beside me. I carefully scooped the perfectly cooked Coca-Cola chicken wings from the pan. The fragrance wafted out. Chen Mengxi nodded. For a moment, she didn't know what else to say. Seeing me pick up the plate and about to walk out, Chen Mengxi quickly stepped forward. "Let me." She carefully took the plate and walked out of the kitchen. At the same time, she called towards the living room. "Nainai, wash your hands for dinner." "Coming," Nainai replied in a clear voice. She put down the small fork in her hand and trotted towards the dining table. A moment later, the three of them sat down at the dining table. Dinner was very simple, 3 savory dishes and 1 soup. I first picked up a chicken wing for Nainai, then naturally picked up a piece for Chen Mengxi as well. I looked at Chen Mengxi and blurted out, "Yo, right, have you told your grandparents about Nainai and me?" Chen Mengxi was eating her rice in small bites. Hearing this, she looked up, shook her head, and asked with some confusion, "Why should I tell them in advance? We can just go straight to their home when the time comes." My hand holding the chopsticks froze. The corner of my mouth twitched imperceptibly. Go straight there? I never expected Chen Mengxi to be such a filial child. How did I not realize this? Is she afraid the surprise for the 2 elders isn't big enough? Suddenly, a grandson-in-law appears, along with a great-granddaughter. Isn't she afraid of scaring the 2 old folks to death? I complained silently in my heart, but on the outside, I showed nothing. My tone was just a bit probing. Go straight there. Are you sure your grandparents' health can handle it? Chen Mengxi didn't seem to catch the deeper meaning of my words. She thought seriously for a moment and said, My grandparents are in very good health." "Very good." "Huh." I nodded thoughtfully, my voice lowered a few notches. It was almost as if I was talking to myself. "No way. When we go, I should probably bring 2 vials of emergency heart medication, just to be safe." My voice was very low, so Chen Mengxi didn't hear clearly. She looked at me doubtfully and asked, "What did you say?" "No. Nothing." I immediately looked up, a gentle smile back on my face. I placed a chicken wing into Chen Mengxi's bowl, changing the subject. "Eat more." Soon, the 3 of us finished eating. We watched cartoons for a while in the living room until Nainai started rubbing her eyes and yawning. Then we went to wash up. After the 3 of us finished our personal hygiene, we lay down on the bed. Chen Mengxi lay on her side, looking at her daughter's small, sleeping face in the dim light. The corners of her mouth curved up unconsciously. She gently pulled the blanket up a little, covering her daughter's small shoulders. Then she carefully pulled the little girl, who was tending to scoot upwards, back down a bit so she could sleep more comfortably. After doing all that, she looked over at me. I noticed Chen Mengxi's gaze and turned my head. Meeting her clear eyes, I felt a little awkward being stared at, my face heating up slightly. I gave a natural cough and asked softly, "What is it? You keep staring at me." Chen Mengxi didn't answer right away, just looked at me. A faint smile played on her lips. That smile looked especially gentle in the dim light. "Muka, You and Auntie are really alike. I was stunned to hear that. I blinked, a questioning look on my face. Chen Mengxi continued. Her tone was a bit sentimental, both equally gentle. Hearing the word gentle, the expression on my face froze, and then I fell silent. Gentle. She was talking about my mother. This made me involuntarily recall being mischievous as a child, being chased around the yard by my mom with a feather duster, doing poorly on tests, and my mom scolding me while pinching my ear. Those scenes seemed to have nothing to do with the word gentle. I smirked, looking at Chen Mengxi with a complicated expression. I asked with some uncertainty, "Are you serious?" Chen Mengxi nodded with a serious face. I fell silent again. I looked at Chen Mengxi's certain expression, and for a moment, I didn't know how to explain. Should I tell her that I was actually a little devil as a child, and that my mother's gentleness was mainly expressed through physical force? Seeing I was silent, Chen Mengxi thought I had tacitly agreed. She then asked curiously, "When you were little, did Auntie teach you gently like you taught Nai Nai today? Did she teach you so gently?" Hearing that, my thoughts drifted for a moment. Gentle teaching. I carefully recalled that when I made a mistake as a child, my mom would usually lecture me first. If my attitude was good, I might be able to escape punishment, but if I talked back or repeated the offense, the next step was usually a beating. Simple, direct, and very effective. Anyway, after a beating, any grievances or rebellious feelings were basically gone. I brought my thoughts back to the present. My expression was nonchalant. I smiled and said, "Nope, I never made any mistakes as a child, so I was never hit." Hearing that, Chen Mengxi tilted her head and thought, "That makes sense. When the teacher taught me, she was also very gentle. She didn't doubt it at all." Seeing she wasn't asking anymore, breathed a sigh of relief and quickly said I had class tomorrow, and closed my eyes. Chen Mengxi hummed in agreement, and also closed her eyes. Not long after, the two of them gradually fell asleep. The next morning, sunlight shone through the gap in the curtains onto the sleeping faces of the three people. I woke up first. I tilted my head to look at the sleeping faces of the big one and the little one next to me. The corners of my mouth lifted slightly, and then I quietly got up to wash. After changing, I went into the kitchen to prepare a simple breakfast. After Chen Mengxi and Nai Nai woke up and finished breakfast, I gave Chen Mengxi a few instructions, then grabbed my backpack and left for school. The morning class was for my major, so I couldn't take Nai Nai to school. After all, I didn't want to fail the course. Not long after, I stepped into the classroom. Just as I entered the classroom, a voice suddenly called out, "Muka! Over here." I looked in the direction of the voice and saw Yang Wei sitting by the window, smiling and waving enthusiastically at me. I smiled and walked over, sitting in the empty seat next to him. I blurted out, "Seeing you look so happy, did the talk with your dad last night go well?" Of course. Yang Wei lifted his chin smugly. Then he took a brand new bank card out of his pocket and waved it in front of my face. "The talk was great, and the results are obvious." I raised an eyebrow and reached for the card. I waited a little, then asked with a smile, "How much allowance did he give you to soothe your wounded heart?" Yang Wei mysteriously held up one finger. 10,000. I tossed the bank card back to him. Teasing, "He only gave you 10,000 to send you away. Being his biological son is a little cheap, isn't it?" "Get lost." Yang Wei angrily hit me once, then leaned closer. He lowered his voice, his face filled with unconcealable excitement. "It's 10,000 a day." "How much?" I looked at him, a bit surprised. 10,000 a day, Yang Wei repeated, the smile on his face growing even brighter. 300,000 a month. How's that? Cool enough, right? I blinked, then chuckled. Not bad. 300,000 a month in allowance. Your dad is really good to you. Yang Wei giggled. He carefully put the bank card back in his pocket, then nudged me with his elbow. He winked and asked, "Hey, what about you? How much allowance does Xiao Shen give you a month?" I glanced at him and said nonchalantly, "None. None." Yang Wei was stunned for a moment, very surprised. "No way. Xiao Shen doesn't seem like a stingy person." The corner of my mouth lifted slightly. I took a bank card from my wallet and handed it to him, saying, "But she gave me this." Yang Wei took it doubtfully. After getting a clear look at the card, his eyes immediately widened. His voice changed too. "Holy crap, a supplementary gold card." He held the card, turning it over and over. Then he looked up at me, his face full of disbelief. "Is this for real? Xiao Shen is way too good to you. She even gave you a supplementary gold card? This isn't something you can just give to anyone." Seeing his inexperienced look, it was a bit funny. I reached out, took the card back, and casually stuck it back into my wallet. The action was as natural as if it were just a regular bus pass. "Yeah, I think so." I didn't look closely. I shrugged. My tone was calm. "I've never used it. I don't usually spend much money. This wasn't me showing off. My life is really simple. I cook my own meals, which doesn't cost much. Occasionally I hang out with friends or buy some daily necessities. The expenses aren't large." Of course, besides occasionally buying sneakers, I might spend a bit more, but that's it. Yang Wei clicked his tongue. Looking at my indifferent attitude, he felt even more emotional inside. Why is the gap between people so big? I was just getting excited over 10,000 a day. In allowance, ecstatic beyond belief, while the other guy holds a gold card and doesn't even care. But on second thought, this is my good brother. If he's doing well, I'm happy for him too. Besides, Chen Mengxi being so good to Muka indirectly shows Muka's place in her heart. He slapped me hard on the shoulder and said with a laugh, even though you have a gold card, from now on, when we go to the internet cafe, it's on me. From now on, when we pull all-nighters, we must eat instant noodles. We must add an egg, a sausage, and double everything. Hearing this, the corner of my mouth couldn't help but twitch. I glanced at him like he was the fool of a rich family. I say, young Master Yang, you're now a person with an income of 300,000 a month, and you're still thinking about pulling all-nighters at an internet cafe. Yang Wei was taken aback by my question. Then his eyes suddenly lit up. He slapped his thigh. That's right. Why didn't I think of that? I'm a rich second generation now. Why would I go an internet cafe? When the time comes, I'll open my own internet cafe. A whole chain, right next to the university district. I rolled my eyes internally, speechless, but Yang Wei quickly reined in his thoughts and said, "Hey, I almost forgot the main thing. Come to my place for dinner tonight." I raised an eyebrow and asked, "Why the sudden dinner invitation?" Yang Wei giggled and explained, "Isn't it because my dad has arranged a new place for my mom and me? We're moving in a few days. Although our current place is a bit small, we've grown attached to it after living here for so long. We want to have a lively get-together before moving, have some hot pot and some barbecue. How about it? Hot pot and barbecue? That doesn't sound bad." I thought about my evening plans. It seemed I didn't have anything special on, so I nodded. "All right," Yang Wei said happily. "Yo, right, don't forget to bring Xiao Shen and Nei Nai. The more the merrier." I smiled and replied, "Okay, I'll let them know in a bit. Do I need to bring anything? Drinks or fruit?" "No need. No need. My sister already had her assistant buy everything. We have everything at home. You guys just need to show up." Yang Wei waved his hand with the expression of a rich man. I nodded, not being polite with him. Yang Wei paused for a moment, as if he remembered something. A slightly shy look appeared on his face as he said, "Muka, you should call your sister to come too." My sister? I was a bit stunned. Then agreed. "Okay, I'll ask her, but I'm not sure if she can make it." I didn't think much of it. After all, Mu Yula took good care of Yang Wei when they were kids. Okay. Yang Wei immediately beamed, looking very happy. I looked at his happy expression and changed the subject, my face a bit more serious. "Yo, right? Yang Wei, there's something I need your help with." "Go ahead." Yang Wei puffed out his chest. "Ask your sister to help me find out more about Meng's parents' situation." I lowered my voice. The smile on Yang Wei's face froze, and he frowned. He looked at me, confused. "Didn't we already ask before? Why ask again?" I looked at him and explained. Mengxi said she's taking me to meet her grandparents in a few days. Meeting the parents, Yang Wei's eyes lit up. Holy crap. Muka, nice. This is a good thing. It's a good thing. Alright, I rubbed the spot between my eyebrows. But the problem also lies here. Yang Wei was even more confused, scratching his head. What's the problem? Meeting her grandparents means they approve of you. I looked at his clueless expression. Bit speechless. I had to be blunt. She only mentioned her grandparents. She didn't mention her parents. Isn't it obvious? Yang Wei was stunned for a moment, carefully pondering my words, only mentioning the grandparents, not the parents. What's the connection between these two things? He seemed to understand a little, but also seemed not to fully grasp it. I sighed and said, "Last time, what your sister found out was very vague. It's basically useless as a reference." Yang Wei didn't quite understand, so he said, "My sister is also coming for dinner tonight. You can ask her yourself then." Hearing that, I took a deep breath, trying to suppress the urge to pin this guy to the ground and stomp on him. This single dog deserves it. I couldn't be bothered to argue with Yang Wei anymore and took out my phone. I opened my chat with Chen Mengxi and started typing a message. "Do you have any plans tonight? Yang Wei is hosting a moving out party. Want to go eat together?" At the same time, in the CEO's office of the Shen Group, Chen Mengxi was sitting behind her large desk, focused on reviewing the pile of documents in front of her. Suddenly, the phone screen on the corner of the desk lit up and vibrated softly. She put down the pen in her hand and picked up the phone. It was a message from me. Looking at the words on the screen, the coldness in Chen Mengxi's eyes was unconsciously tinged with warmth. The corner of her mouth also curved up slightly, forming a barely noticeable curve. Her fingertips tapped lightly, quickly replying with one word, "Okay." Looking at the phone, her mind drifted a little. Just then, there was a light knock on the office door. Chen Mengxi collected her thoughts. Returning to her usual cold expression, Assistant Chen pushed the door open and entered. She stood respectfully before the desk to report. Xiao Shen, Xiao Yang is here. Chen Mengxi frowned slightly, a little surprised. Why is Yang Ziyu here? She didn't overthink it and instructed. Let her in. Yes, ma'am. Assistant Chen replied and turned to leave. A moment later, Yang Ziyu, dressed in a neat business suit, walked in. Yang Ziyu's face was expressionless. She entered the office, her eyes sweeping around the room, finally landing on Chen Mengxi. Chen Mengxi looked up at her expression calm and unwavering, her tone light as she asked, Xiao Yang is here. Is there a follow-up collaboration to discuss? No. Yang Ziyu shook her head, her tone a bit unnatural. A flash of surprise appeared in Chen Mengxi's eyes. If not for business, then why is she here? Yang Ziyu seemed to have seen through Chen Mengxi's doubt and stated her purpose directly. I came specifically to invite Xiao Shen to my home for dinner tonight. Hearing this, Chen Mengxi wasn't too surprised. After all, I had just told her about it. She nodded and replied, okay, you'll be there tonight. Assistant Chen, standing by the side, heard this. Her eyes immediately widened, her face filled with astonishment. What is this situation? Xiao Yang personally came to invite Xiao Shen for dinner at her home. And Xiao Shen agreed. Since when did these two have such a good relationship? They can even sit at the same table for a meal. Yang Ziyu also seemed not to expect she would agree so decisively and couldn't help but make a sarcastic remark. I thought Xiao Shen might not have the time. Chen Mengxi didn't reply, just picked up the glass of water on the table and took a gentle sip. Seeing this, Yang Ziyu knew not to say more and said, then I won't disturb Xiao Shen's work any longer. See you tonight. After speaking, she prepared to turn and leave. Wait, just as Yang Ziyu turned around, Chen Mengxi suddenly called out to her. Yang Ziyu stopped, turning back with some confusion, looking at Chen Mengxi. Is there something else? Xiao Shen. Chen Mengxi looked at her eyes seeming to flash with a hint of hesitation, but she still asked. Xiao Yang, have you had a lot of boyfriends before? At the moment this question was asked, not only was Yang Ziyu stunned, even Assistant Chen beside her nearly lost her footing. What does Xiao Shen mean by this? Why suddenly ask about Xiao Yang's private life? Yang Ziyu frowned slightly, the doubt in her eyes deepening. She didn't understand why Chen Mengxi would suddenly ask this, but she still nodded. Chen Mengxi put down her glass of water and cleared her throat, her tone a bit awkward as she said, I have a... Before she could finish her sentence, Yang Ziyu seemed to understand something in an instant. The corner of her mouth curved into a knowing smile as she cut her off. A friend. Chen Mengxi, flustered by her all-knowing gaze, felt a bit unnatural. Her cheeks flushing slightly, she nodded unnaturally. Her personality's quite shy. She doesn't know how to cultivate her relationship with her husband. After saying this, Chen Mengxi looked up at Yang Ziyu, only to meet the other's smiling eyes. It seemed her little secret had been completely seen through. Chen Mengxi immediately averted her gaze, looking to the side, but the rims of her ears had quietly turned red. Yang Ziyu took 2 interested steps forward, her arms crossed in front of her chest, leisurely looking at her tone carrying a hint of teasing. So Xiao Shen wants her husband? It's my friend, not me. Hearing this, Chen Mengxi immediately became anxious and hurriedly explained, All right, it's her friend. Yang Ziyu nodded along with her, but the smile on her face deepened. She drew out her words. This is simple. Just tell that friend of yours to try acting cute with her husband. Acting cute? Chen Mengxi frowned, her cold face filled with doubt and even a subtle hint of resistance. Is it that simple? In her eyes, the act of being cute didn't seem to fit her usual way of doing things. It was also hard to imagine what it would be like in practice. Yang Ziyu nodded affirmatively, her meaningful gaze swept over Chen Mengxi from top to bottom. Of course, just like Xiao Shen. Yeah? No. Like that beautiful friend of hers, if she just acts a little cute with her husband, won't he be completely captivated and lose all sense of direction? Chen Mengxi's heart skipped a beat. The heat that had just faded from her face rushed back. She parted her lips, wanting to emphasize again that this was really just about her friend. But Yang Ziyu didn't give her a chance to explain, saying, First, I'm just giving an example. I get it. It's your friend. Chen Mengxi tried to act calm and coughed lightly, avoiding Yang Ziyu's gaze, her voice a little softer than before. But what if that friend of mine? What if she doesn't know how? Yang Ziyu looked like she had heard something absurd. She doesn't even know how to act cute. Isn't that an innate skill for women? And she doesn't know how. She was a bit stunned, then a knowing smile appeared on her face, her eyes sizing up Chen Mengxi from top to bottom. Chen Mengxi grew even more flustered under her gaze. The heat in her ears almost spread to her neck. Yang Ziyu beckoned to Chen Mengxi with her finger. Her voice was charming. Do you want Big Sis here to teach you? Chen Mengxi's eyes flickered slightly, as if genuinely tempted. She subconsciously nodded. Then she realized, her cheeks growing hotter, and she hurriedly tried to explain. No, what I mean is, I know. Yang Ziyu beat her to it, quickly adding, the smile on her face was as bright as a cat that had successfully stolen a treat. Wait until you've learned it. Then you can teach that friend of hers, right? Chen Mengxi parted her lips, but swallowed the retort that was on the tip of her tongue. She raised her hand and unnaturally tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, avoiding Yang Ziyu's teasing gaze. In the end, she still gave a soft nod and hummed an almost inaudible mem. Assistant Chen, standing nearby, blinked and thought to herself, is this a plot I can watch without paying? Yang Ziyu was about to start her lesson when she caught sight of Assistant Chen still standing dumbfounded by the side. She raised an eyebrow, her gaze shifting to Assistant Chen. The corner of her mouth lifted in a teasing smile. What? You want to learn too? Assistant Chen, who was straining her ears, trying to process the perception-shattering scene before her, was suddenly called out and subconsciously nodded. Immediately after, she realized what she'd done and shook her head like a drum, her face instantly turning red. Nope, nope, nope. Xiao Shen. Xiao Yang, I suddenly remembered I have an unprocessed document. It'll be heading out first. Without waiting for Chen Mengxi and Yang Ziyu to reply, Assistant Chen bolted as if she had oil on her feet, quickly fleeing the office and thoughtfully closing the door behind her. Only 2 people remained in the office. The atmosphere immediately became a bit strange. Yang Ziyu withdrew her gaze and looked back at Chen Mengxi. She waved at her. Come here. Chen Mengxi hesitated for a moment, but still did as she was told and stood before Yang Ziyu. She lowered her eyes slightly, as if not daring to look at the other person. Yang Ziyu crossed her arms and leisurely sized her up, her tone carrying a hint of a command. Right now, in the husband, call me husband and let me hear it. Chen Mengxi's eyelashes trembled as she looked up, meeting Yang Ziyu's meaningful gaze. Her cheeks began to heat up again unconsciously. She parted her lips. Her throat felt as if something was blocking it. Extremely dry. After a long while, she finally squeezed out one word from between her teeth. Husband. Her voice was dry, both soft and fast. It also carried a subtle stiffness, sounding more like she was reading a report. Yang Ziyu immediately frowned, her face openly showing disgust. Task. What was that? There's no emotion. It's so stiff. Anyone who didn't know would think someone owes you money. Chen Mengxi pressed her lips together and said nothing, but the rims of her ears turned even redder. Yang Ziyu looked at her state and shook her head helplessly, clearing her throat. She demonstrated personally. Listen carefully. Look into my eyes. Chen Mengxi instinctively looked up, only to see Yang Ziyu's gaze instantly become as gentle as water. The corner of her mouth lifted slightly, forming a perfect curve, and her voice softened, carrying a hint of coyness and reliance. She called out softly, hubby. That voice was both soft and sweet, as if it had hooks. The last syllable rose slightly, carrying a numbing electric current that went straight to one's bones. Chen Mengxi felt all the hairs on her body stand on end. Goosebumps broke out. An indescribable sense of embarrassment welled up inside her, making her extremely uncomfortable. Yang Ziyu looked at Chen Mengxi's thunderstruck expression and raised her eyebrows in satisfaction. How about it? Understand now? Chen Mengxi nodded, indicating she understood. Good that you understand. Yang Ziyu nodded in satisfaction, her chin lifting slightly. Then try calling me that again. Chen Mengxi took a deep breath, trying to recall Yang Ziyu's tone and demeanor from just now. She worked herself up for a long time, but that one word seemed stuck in her throat. She just couldn't say it. She tried to open her mouth, but finally gave up in frustration. Her cold face was full of resistance and awkwardness. I can't say it. It's too cheesy. Yang Ziyu's pretty brows furrowed. She looked bewildered. You can say it. Is that one word so difficult? In her eyes, this was just the most common term of endearment between couples. Why did it become so difficult for Chen Mengxi? Looking at Chen Mengxi's stiff and resistant appearance, the rims of her ears so red they looked like they might bleed, a thought flashed through Yang Ziyu's mind. A bold guess emerged. She suddenly leaned close to Chen Mengxi, her eyes carrying a probing look, and she lowered her voice to ask, could it be that you? The warm breath grazed Chen Mengxi's ear, making her subconsciously want to back away, but Yang Ziyu gave her no chance. Continuing, haven't gotten together with Muka yet. As she finished speaking, Yang Ziyu's hand gave her pert bottom 2 light pats. Chen Mengxi's entire body suddenly stiffened, as if electrocuted. Tense all over, she almost immediately took a step back, putting distance between herself and Yang Ziyu. The color instantly drained from her face, then flushed a deeper shade of red. She glared at Yang Ziyu, both embarrassed and angry. What nonsense are you talking about? Her voice trembled slightly with embarrassment. Her eyes darted away, not daring to meet Yang Ziyu's knowing gaze directly. Yang Ziyu looked at this innocent reaction of hers and became even more certain of her guess. The smile on her face grew more meaningful. Chen Mengxi felt completely awkward under her gaze. Her panicked eyes looked elsewhere, her lips moving for a long time, before she managed to explain in a voice as faint as a mosquito's buzz. Tinged with a sense of grievance she herself didn't realize, is still too young. Yang Ziyu smiled and nodded. She patted her on the shoulder and said confidently, don't worry. Tonight, I'll give you a gift. I guarantee that after tonight, you two will be as thick as thieves. Who knows? Nai might even get some siblings. Before Chen Mengxi could even react, Yang Ziyu had already turned and strode out of the office. Chen Mengxi heard Yang Ziyu's parting words, The blush that had just faded from her face quietly returned. Even the rims of her ears were burning. She took a deep breath, trying to calm her slightly chaotic heartbeat. However, she herself didn't realize that she had subconsciously come to see Yang Ziyu as a friend. Chen Mengxi composed herself, adjusting her slightly messy collar, and sat back down in her office chair. But in her heart, she was secretly looking forward to what Yang Ziyu's gift would be. Would it really be as she said? On the other side, Yang Ziyu got in her flashy sports car, closing the car door. She raised her left hand, bringing it before her eyes. Her fingers curled slightly. It seemed as if she was reminiscing about something. The image appeared in her mind. Chen Mengxi's fatally innocent look was truly too interesting. The smile on Yang Ziyu's lips became even more pronounced, even a bit wicked. Task, the feeling in my hand wasn't bad. Both supple and perky. I really want to, she mumbled under her breath with a sigh. She promptly stopped her dangerous thoughts and shook her head, retracting the somewhat wicked smile on her face. She started the car and sped towards the city's largest shopping mall. She had to carefully choose a big gift to ensure the two of them would be full of passion. In the blink of an eye, it was 4 p.m. Yang Wei and I walked side by side out of the lecture building. Old Mu, you have to come early tonight. Yang Wei nudged me with his elbow. I was just about to speak when my eyes swept past the crowd and saw across the street the familiar red Volkswagen Beetle. My eyes lit up. My pace immediately quickened as I walked towards the car. Got it, I replied without turning my head. Yang Wei looked at my hurried back. Helplessly, he pouted and muttered, forgetting a friend over a girl. I quickly walked to the side of the car, skillfully opened the passenger door and got in. Mengxi, I fastened my seatbelt and tilted my head to look at Chen Mengxi in the driver's seat, calling her with a smile. Hearing this, Chen Mengxi turned her head. Her eyes met mine, and she gave a soft M, then she quickly averted her gaze. She started the car, and the red Beetle merged into the stream of traffic, heading towards the kindergarten. In the car, Chen Mengxi held the steering wheel, her eyes seemingly focused on the traffic ahead, but the corner of her eye couldn't help but glance at me in the passenger seat again and again. In the office this afternoon, Yang Ziyu's bold words and that somewhat over-the-top teaching session were like clips from a movie at this moment, replaying over and over in her mind, especially the heart-wrenching hubby expressed by Yang Ziyu. So soft and sweet it reached her bones. It was like a haunting sound that could be dispelled. Her cheeks uncontrollably heated up, and even the rims of her ears were tinged with a faint pink. Chen Mengxi let out a small cough, trying to use this action to hide her awkwardness. Her lips parted slightly, making her feel extremely embarrassed before she could even speak. She just couldn't say those two words. After trying several times, Chen Mengxi finally deflated like a popped balloon. She shut her mouth tightly, giving up on trying. Beside her, I noticed Chen Mengxi's slight oddness. I turned my head and asked with concern, "What's wrong? Are you not feeling well?" Chen Mengxi looked flustered and quickly shook her head. Her gaze, slightly panicked, avoided mine. Her voice was a few notches lower than usual. "No. It's nothing." I looked at her slightly red earlobes and frowned a little. "I didn't do anything. Why is she blushing? Is it because it's too hot?" Thinking of this, I closed the window and turned up the air conditioner's fan a bit. Not long after, the Beetle slowly came to a stop at the kindergarten gate. The two of us pushed open the car doors and got out. I very naturally reached out my hand and took Chen Mengxi's hand. Chen Mengxi's fingers unconsciously recoiled slightly, feeling the warmth of my palm. She immediately relaxed, letting me lead her. She watched me walking ahead. An unconscious smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. The two of them stood shoulder to shoulder in front of the gate, separated by a cold, black iron fence. Looking inside together, on the kindergarten's playground, the children were lining up under the teacher's guidance, getting ready to be dismissed. Noisy laughter and chatter could be heard from afar. Their eyes searched intently among the small figures, those lively figures, wanting to find that tiny figure at once. And in the crowd not far from them, a well-dressed, middle-aged woman was standing on her tiptoes, looking around with a hint of boredom. Her gaze happened to fall on my straight back. Yu Fenfei was slightly stunned. "Isn't that Muka? What is he doing at the kindergarten?" When the person in front of her moved aside a step, she immediately saw me holding a woman's hand. A flash of surprise appeared in Yu Fenfei's eyes. "What's the situation? Who is that woman with a cold aura next to Xiaomu? Could it be Xiaomu's girlfriend?" Thinking of this, a smile appeared on Yu Fenfei's face. This kid is quite something. He already has a girlfriend so soon, and is even picking up a younger brother or sister with her. Very good. Much better than his uncle. Yu Fenfei muttered to herself. She almost unconsciously took her phone out of her bag and aimed it at the two of them. The faint click of the shutter sounded. She quickly snapped a photo. Yu Fenfei sighed, looking at the blurry photo of their backs on her phone screen. She felt a little regretful. The distance was too far. She couldn't capture the woman's face. Although she could see her face, her aura was not bad. She looks very compatible standing next to Xiaomu. Without thinking much, she tapped her fingers on the screen and forwarded the photo to Sister Fuyan. The large gate of the kindergarten opened. The parents entered one after another. I held Chen Mengxi's hand, my eyes searching through the noisy crowd of children. Very quickly, a small figure broke through the ranks and ran towards us. Dad! Mom! Nene's clear voice was filled with joy. I bent down and steadily caught my daughter who was rushing over. I picked her up, and she immediately wrapped her arms around my neck. I smiled and took Chen Mengxi's hand again, turning to walk out of the kindergarten gate, while asking, "Did Nene have fun today?" Nene nodded, smiling as she replied, "Yes, I did. Today, Gebok Xiao even bought me cake." It was delicious, seeing her daughter's joyful appearance. Chen Mengxi beside me also showed a happy expression. She couldn't help but reach out and pinch her little cheek, saying affectionately, "You greedy little kitty." The family of 3 walked out of the kindergarten, talking and laughing. They got into the Red Beetle. Nene sat in her child's safety seat, swinging her little legs. She looked up at me in the passenger seat and said in her childish voice, "Daddy, tonight, Nene wants to eat beef and potato stew." I turned to look at Nene and said with a smile, "We're not eating at home tonight." Nene's little face immediately fell, and she pouted. I quickly added, "Dad will take you out for a big meal that's even better than beef and potato stew." "Really?" Nene's eyes immediately lit up, full of anticipation. I smiled, nodded, and replied, "Of course. It's real. Let's go have a feast." Nene immediately cheered, completely forgetting about the beef and potato stew. Chen Mengxi looked at her very excited daughter in the back seat, then looked over at me. The corners of her mouth also unconsciously curved into a gentle smile. After that, I took out my phone and dialed a number. The call was quickly answered. A tired female voice came through the receiver. "Hello? Why are you calling me? Let me tell you first. If you want money, I don't have any." The corner of my mouth twitched. I said, "Sis, it's me." "Obviously, I know it's you. Speak." "What's up?" Miyu Lu's voice was a bit impatient. "Come over for dinner tonight," said succinctly. Miyu Lu on the other end of the line was clearly stunned for a moment. Her tone immediately became surprised. "Dinner? You're treating me to dinner? Did the sun rise from the west? Since when did my little brother become so conscientious?" She paused for a moment and said suspiciously, "You're not planning to make me pay, are you?" My forehead twitched. I explained, "No, it's Yang Wei. Isn't he moving soon? We're all getting together." "Yo, so it's Xiao Wei's housewarming." Miyu Lu realized. "Okay, got it. It'll be over later." I replied, then hung up. At the same time, in a spacious apartment in the Old Town district, Fu Yanji was comfortably lying on her stomach on the soft sofa. Mu Ronghao, with a solicitous smile, was massaging her back with his fingers, not too hard and not too light. "Honey, how's this pressure? Is it alright?" Mu Ronghao asked with a grin, his tone full of flattery. Fu Yanji didn't even open her eyes, letting out a lazy hum. Being overly attentive for no reason means you're up to no good. Spit it out. What do you want now? Are you out of money again? The movement of Mu Ronghao's hand stopped. His expression immediately became serious as he questioned, "What are you talking about? Didn't I just see that you've been working hard lately and wanted to help you relax a bit? How did that turn into me having bad intentions in your eyes?" Fu Yanji glanced at him but said nothing, but her eyes clearly said, "It'd be a fool to believe you." As soon as Mu Ronghao saw that look, he immediately switched back to a fawning smile. He leaned in a little closer and whispered, My wife still understands me best. Old one asked me to go fishing tomorrow afternoon." Fu Yanji finally opened her eyes, glanced at him, and said, "Go, just be back early." "Alright." Mu Ronghao heard this and immediately beamed with joy. The massaging motion of his hands became even more vigorous. Just then, the phone on the coffee table chimed. It was a WeChat notification. Fu Yanji didn't get up, just raised her hand. Mu Ronghao immediately understood and quickly grabbed the phone. Bringing it in front of her, Fu Yanji unlocked the screen and opened the chat interface with her sister-in-law. Yu Fenfei. A photo appeared. She tapped it to view it in full screen, although the photo was a bit blurry and taken from a distance. But with just one glance, Fu Yanji recognized that straight back her son. In the photo, I was holding a woman's hand. After the initial surprise, an irrepressible smile appeared at the corner of Fu Yanji's mouth. Mu Ronghao saw his wife suddenly smiling so happily. He curiously leaned his head over and asked, "What are you looking at? You seem so happy." Fu Yanji turned the phone screen towards him, pointed at the photo, and said with a laugh, "Our son has a girlfriend." Mu Ronghao stared intently at the blurry photo for a long time. His eyebrows gradually furrowed as he asked, "It's just a back view. How did you recognize our son?" Fu Yanji was speechless. She said in an annoyed tone, "I gave birth to him. How could I not recognize him? You, on the other hand, when you go fishing from so far away, before the fish even bites the hook, you already know what kind it is. How come you can't even recognize your own son now?" As she spoke, she reached out and accurately pinched Mu Ronghao's ear, applying a little pressure. "Ow, ow, honey, that hurts. Hurts? Hurts?" Mu Ronghao quickly begged for mercy, saying with a smiling face, "I was just kidding." "Just kidding?" Wasn't I just teasing you? How could I not recognize our son? Fu Yanjie snorted coldly and let go of his ear, but the warning in her eyes was very clear. I see you're only focused on fishing. Fine. You're not going tomorrow. The smile on Mu Ronghao's face immediately froze, as if he'd been struck by lightning. He looked at Fu Yanjie in disbelief and whined, "Dunt? Honey, I already made plans with old Wang." Fu Yanjie raised an eyebrow. Unmoved, if you made plans, then cancel them. Mu Ronghao instantly felt like his world was collapsing. His whole body drooped. He leaned against the sofa, a look of utter despair on his face. In his heart, he was screaming frantically, "You rebellious son, why did you have to go and fall in love? My grand fishing plan." Fu Yanjie paid no more attention to Mu Ronghao beside her. Her attention returned to the phone screen. She stared intently at the back of the woman, whose hand her son was holding in the photo. Although it was blurry, but the more she looked at that figure, the more she felt that she had seen this back somewhere before. She patted Mu Ronghao's shoulder and asked, "Hey, does this girl's back look a little familiar to you?" Mu Ronghao was immersed in the pain of losing his fishing joy. Hearing this, he absently raised his head and casually glanced at the phone screen. The photo was already blurry. Plus, his mind was completely elsewhere. He just shook his head perfunctorily. "Familiar? It's just a back. You must be mistaken." Fu Yanjie frowned. She stared at the photo for a few more seconds, always feeling like she'd seen it somewhere, but she couldn't recall it at the moment. Could it be that I'm really mistaken? She thought for a moment, didn't dwell on it, and set her phone aside. It'll meet her eventually anyway. No need to rush. We soon arrived at Yang Wei's apartment complex. I led them out of the elevator to the second floor and raised my hand to knock. The door was quickly opened from the inside. Yang Wei, dressed in loungewear, appeared at the door. "Uncle Yang," Nai sweetly called out first. Then, as if showing off a treasure, she pointed to Nai Long at her feet. "Look, Uncle, I brought Nai Long here too. This way, you won't be lonely tonight." Hearing these words, Yang Wei's mouth twitched. He looked towards me, his eyes seemingly questioning me. "Are you serious?" I cleared my throat and averted my gaze. I led Chen Mengsai and Nai straight inside. Yang Wei glanced outside the door, not seeing the person he wanted to see. He spoke up and asked, "Where's your sister? Hasn't she arrived yet?" "She's probably on her way," I replied casually. Yang Wei nodded, afraid I would notice something unusual, so he didn't ask further and led them towards the living room. As soon as Nai entered the living room, her eyes lit up. She immediately let go of my hand and pattered over to the coffee table. Her small hand unceremoniously grabbed a potato chip, and with a crunch, she stuffed it into her mouth, eating with relish, just like she was in her own home, not feeling constrained at all. While eating, Nai looked up and scanned the living room, not seeing a familiar figure. She turned her head to look at Yang Wei and asked in her childish voice, "Uncle Yang, isn't Godmother coming?" Before Yang Wei could answer, the kitchen curtain was pushed aside. Yang Ziyu came out carrying a plate of freshly washed grapes. "Godmother!" Nai exclaimed joyfully. She dropped the bag of chips in her hand and ran towards Yang Ziyu. Yang Ziyu put down the fruit platter and bent down to pat Nai's head. Her face was filled with an adoring smile. "Nai is here. Did you miss your godmother?" As she spoke, she pinched Nai's cheek. "I did." Nai nodded vigorously, her voice resounding. Hearing this, Yang Ziyu was very happy. Although she still hadn't completely accepted her identity as Nai's godmother, she couldn't resist Nai's cuteness. Most importantly, hearing Nai call her godmother gave her the feeling of being a mother without the pain, but what puzzled her the most was how a woman like Chen Mengxi, who didn't even know how to act coquettishly, could give birth to such a coquettish daughter. Hearing this, she couldn't help but look towards Chen Mengxi, who was sitting next to me. Chen Mengxi happened to be looking at her. Their eyes met. Chen Mengxi suddenly remembered the scene from this morning. She immediately blushed, pushed up her glasses, and at the same time, averted her gaze. Seeing this, Yang Ziyu had an even deeper smile on her face. Just then, knock, knock, knock. The sound of knocking was heard again. I was about to get up, but Yang Wei, sitting at the other end of the sofa, acted faster and stood up, almost rushing to say, "I'll get it, I'll get it." He quickly walked to the door. One could even see him adjusting his collar with a small movement. The door opened. The person standing at the door was Miyu Lu. She carried a fruit basket in one hand and her bag in the other. When Yang Wei saw her, his cheeks seemed to flush unnaturally. His gaze was a little avoidant. His voice was also a few notches lower than usual as he called, "Yu Lu, Sister Yu Lu." "You're here?" Miyu Lu nodded, gave a cool meh, and walked past him into the house. In the living room, I took in this whole scene. My eyebrows immediately furrowed. This punk, was he being shy just now? I muttered to myself. My sharp gaze shot towards Yang Wei. Yang Wei noticed my sharp gaze. As he turned to close the door, the unnatural expression on his face disappeared without a trace. He returned to his normal appearance, as if nothing had happened just now. At this moment, Nai also saw Miyu Lu. She immediately let go of Yang Ziyu and ran on her short little legs, hugging Miyu Lu's calf. Miu Lu smiled. She bent down and picked Nai Nai up, bouncing her up and down. Wow, our Nai Nai seems to have gotten a little heavier. She held Nai Nai, and her gaze naturally fell on Yang Ziyu, who had just come out of the kitchen. Then she looked at Yang Wei and asked with a probing smile, "Girlfriend?" Hearing this, Yang Wei was stunned. A flash of panic immediately crossed his face. He quickly waved his hands to explain, "No, Sister Yulu. Don't misunderstand. This is my biological sister, Yang Ziyu." Then he looked at Yang Ziyu to introduce her. "Sis, this is Sister Yulu, Muka's older sister." Yang Ziyu smiled at Yang Wei, then looked towards Miu Lu and nodded at her. Miu, holding Nai Nai, gave a slight nod. She immediately walked to the living room and sat down on the sofa. Meanwhile, Yang Ziyu looked at her little brother with interest. Yang Wei noticed his sister's gaze. His eyes immediately became a little avoidant, not daring to look directly at her. Seeing him like this, Yang Ziyu had a knowing smile on her lips. How could she not guess Yang Wei's thoughts? But she didn't expose him. Yang Wei coughed lightly and called out loudly, "Alright. Everyone's here. Let's eat." A Yang Wei's call. Everyone headed towards the dining room. In the yin-yang hot pot in the middle of the table, the spicy broth was bubbling, and the white broth was fragrant. A variety of ingredients were spread all over the table. "Wow, so much delicious food," Nai Nai said, sitting in her chair, her eyes sparkling as she looked at the table full of food. Her face was full of anticipation. Chen Mengxi smiled and picked up a cooked fish ball for her, blew on it to cool it down before putting it in her bowl. As for me, I naturally picked up the serving chopsticks and conveniently picked up some cooked beef for Chen Mengxi. Yang Wei also attentively picked up food for Miu Lu, saying, "Sister Yulu, try this tripe. I picked it out myself at the market. It's very fresh." Miu Lu politely said thank you. She picked up the tripe and dipped it in the spicy hot pot. Yang Ziyu watched her brother's attentive manner. Feeling amused inside, she looked at Nai Nai across the table and said with a smile, "Nai Nai, this shrimp paste is also delicious." "Thank you, Godmother." Nai Nai's mouth was full of food. She mumbled her thanks. After everyone had eaten their fill, they sat and rested in the living room. Yang Wei came out of the kitchen with a platter of cut fruit and placed it on the coffee table invitingly. "Come on, have some fruit to cleanse your palate." Yang Ziyu picked up a cherry and gave it to Nai Nai beside her, who happily opened her mouth to receive it. As for me, I leaned back on the sofa, enjoying the post-meal comfort. At this moment, Yang Wei suddenly seemed to remember something. He slapped his thigh and stood up. "Oh right, Muka, you left some stuff at my place." As he spoke, he turned and walked towards his bedroom. Not long after, Yang Wei came out holding an old cardboard box and placed it on the floor next to the coffee table. I looked at the box, raised my eyebrows, and blurted out, "Are you sure that's mine?" Yang Wei nodded with a serious expression. "Could it be mine?" Trace of surprise, followed by confusion, appeared on my face. When did I leave stuff at his place? Why don't I remember anything at all? Nai Nai, sitting on the sofa closest to the box, heard this. She curiously came closer, her little head peeking into the box. Yang Wei smiled and reached out to open the box. Nai Nai's small hand immediately reached in, fumbled around for a moment, then took something out. It was a transparent, star-shaped glass jar. The jar was filled with small stars of various colors, neatly folded, sparkling under the light. Wow! Nai Nai's eyes immediately lit up. She held the glass jar high, showing it off to everyone like a treasure. "Dad! Mom! Look at this. This is so beautiful." The gazes of Chen Mengxi and Yang Ziyu also turned to look, only to see Nai Nai holding a jar full of stars. Miu Lu also tilted her head to look, and when she saw the jar of stars, the corner of her mouth immediately curved into a smile. As for me, the moment I saw that glass jar, I froze slightly. I widened my eyes in slight disbelief. Isn't this the stuff I folded when I was a kid? No way! This damn guy actually still kept it. Before I could open my mouth, Miu, sitting on the sofa, looked at her little brother with a smile, her tone carrying a distinct teasing quality. "Yo, you still have this? Could it be you still remember your nameless white moonlight?" After saying this, she couldn't help but let out a soft laugh, carrying a hint of mischief. After she said that, my face immediately became a little unnatural, especially when I felt Chen Mengxi's gaze was also on me. Quickly moved closer to Miu Lu, lowered my voice, and whispered, "Sis, you're my biological sister. Are you really going to stand by and watch your little brother's family fall apart?" Miu Lu feigned indifference and gently patted my shoulder, her tone comforting as she said, "Aya, who didn't have a crush when they were little? Besides, you were just a kid back then. What did you know about love? Don't worry. Mengxi won't be angry." As she spoke, she looked over at Chen Mengxi beside her. Chen Mengxi did not respond immediately. Not even the corners of her mouth changed. It was just that the eyes looking at me through those glasses had become a few degrees more dangerous. I just felt like there were thorns on my back and forced out 2 laughs, trying to explain that this is all just childish stuff from when I was young. Before I could finish, Nai Nai tilted her little head and frowned. Her small finger pointed at the stars in the glass jar. Then she looked up at Chen Mengsai and mumbled in her milky voice, "These stars look just like mommies." As soon as these words were spoken, the atmosphere in the living room seemed to freeze. Everyone's eyes simultaneously focused on me. The smile on my face immediately froze. I looked at Nene blankly and unconsciously asked back, "Looks like what?" Miyu Lu retracted the hand that was on her brother's shoulder. The smile on her face also faded. Her eyes held a complicated expression as she patted me again, this time a little harder, and said, "Well done. You, Muka, you're really something." Her tone made it unclear whether she was praising or mocking me. To think you'd use the stars you folded for your crush back then, to then turn around and use them to coax your wife. You're really something else. Yang Wei stood to the side, looking at my awkward and indefensible appearance, said nothing but quietly gave me a thumbs up, his eyes full of admiration. As for Yang Ziyu, she picked up her teacup and gently blew on the steam, the corner of her eye glancing over everyone, with an appearance as if it had nothing to do with her, but the faint smile at the corner of her mouth betrayed her gossipy mood. Chen Mengsai remained silent, but her originally gentle expression had now completely turned cold. She lowered her eyes, not looking at me anymore, her hand resting on her knee unconsciously tightened. Her heart felt like it was blocked by something, stirring up an indescribable feeling of bitterness and grievance, and even a hint of inexplicable sorrow. I looked at Chen Mengsai's clearly downcast face, and my heart tightened. I wanted to explain, but I didn't know where to start. The jar of stars was indeed folded by me as a child, but it has nothing to do with any white moonlight. Just as I was scratching my head in frustration, Miyu Lu added fuel to the fire. She nudged me lightly with her elbow and raised her eyebrows, asking, "You weren't planning to give this to Ying Ying from Uncle Jiang's family, were you?" As soon as the three words Jiang Ying Ying were spoken, the atmosphere in the living room became even more peculiar. Chen Mengsai looked up almost immediately, her eyes behind her glasses clearly reflecting my face. Her gaze made my heart skip a beat. Quickly waved my hands to explain, "Sis, what nonsense are you talking about? How could that be? I don't even like Jiang Ying Ying." My reaction was a bit unusually strong, constantly denying it as if afraid others wouldn't believe me. Yang Wei, seeing this from the side, immediately stood up righteously and nodded repeatedly in agreement. Right, right, right. I can vouch for this. Muka absolutely does not like Jiang Ying Ying. Hearing this, I immediately threw Yang Wei a look of tearful gratitude, screaming frantically in my heart, "Good brother." However, before I could even breathe a sigh of relief, I heard Yang Wei change his tune. He looked at Miyu Lu with a nostalgic expression and asked, "Sister Yu Lu, do you remember when Muka was in 7th grade? He once ate something bad and had to be hospitalized for vomiting and diarrhea." Miyu Lu was caught off guard by his out-of-the-blue question. She blanked for a moment, then blinked and nodded. "I remember. It was quite serious. He was in the hospital for several days. So what does that have to do with this?" Yang Wei nodded and continued, "Of course. It's related. Aunt Fu and Uncle Mu happened to be out of town on business, and you were at tutoring. Aunt Fu found a student to take care of Muka." Yang Wei stopped at the perfect moment here. Miyu Lu almost understood immediately. The look in her eyes as she looked at her little brother was one of sudden realization. Well, no wonder this kid suddenly had a secret crush, and was all mysterious, refusing to say who it was. It turns out Mom was the matchmaker. Chen Mengsai, who was next to them, heard these words. First she was a little stunned, then she realized, so the person Muka had a secret crush on as a child was me. The bit of bitterness and self-pity I just felt because of that bright moon of his vanished into thin air in an instant. In its place was an indescribable surprise and a faint, hard-to-notice sweetness. She looked up at me. Her eyes were no longer cold. Instead, they held a trace of gentleness. The corners of her tightly pressed lips also unconsciously curved up slightly, forming a very faint curve. At this moment, because of Yang Wei's chivalrous words, I was fuming inside. I wished I could rush over and cover his mouth. I couldn't believe that this damn guy's memory was so good. He could still remember this. At this moment, I felt Chen Mengsai's gaze on me. Feeling guilty, I averted my eyes, my face alternating between red and white as I stammered an explanation. I was young back then. Chen Mengsai looked at my flustered and somewhat childish appearance. The smile at the corners of her mouth deepened a little, but she just looked at me silently, saying nothing. Her stare made me panic inside. My heart was pounding uneasily. I was even more nervous than when everyone was ganging up on me earlier. I cleared my throat, about to say something to salvage the situation, when I felt someone gently tug on my pant leg. I don't know when Nai Nai had run up in front of me. She tilted up her small face, blinking her big eyes at me, and asked, "Daddy, can you give this pretty star to Nai Nai?" I was stunned, and before I could even open my mouth, Chen Mengsai smiled and reached out her hand. Taking the glass jar from Nai Nai's hands, she gently stroked Nai Nai's head, her voice soft. "Good girl. Nai Nai, this was a gift from Daddy to Mommy a long time ago. It's Mommy's." Hearing that, the corner of my mouth couldn't help but twitch. Unconsciously looked at my sister, Miyu, hoping she could say something to help me. However, it was as if Mu Yu Lu didn't receive my signal for help. She calmly turned her head away. With a nonchalant "this has nothing to do with me" expression, I didn't give up. I turned my pleading eyes to my good brother, Yang Wei. Yang Wei was grinning as he watched the show. When he caught my gaze, he froze for a moment, then very naturally raised his hand, tapped his index finger against the side of his nose, and then looked down. Playing dumb, I was completely speechless and silently retracted my gaze. I sighed inwardly. What kind of brotherhood is this? Hearing her mother's words, Nene's little mouth pouted slightly, her big eyes quickly filled with a layer of mist. Looking unhappy, she mumbled in a small voice, "Nene really likes this star too." Chen Mengsi squatted down, looking patiently at her daughter. She gently coaxed, "If Nene likes stars, we can ask Daddy to fold some more for you." Hearing that, Nai looked up aggrievedly, her big, watery eyes fixed on me. Her milky, childish voice carried deep expectation. "Daddy, can you fold lots and lots of stars for Nai?" Seeing my daughter on the verge of tears, how could I have the heart to refuse? My heart melted. I hurriedly nodded, my voice unconsciously softening a great deal. "Of course, I can." "Yeah, Daddy is the best." Nai immediately stopped crying and smiled, happily throwing herself into my arms, her little head snuggled against my chest. I don't know when, the hour hand on the wall clock had silently pointed to 9 o'clock. Nai leaned against my chest, her little head was nodding, and her eyelids had started to droop. I noticed my daughter was sleepy and looked down at her. I saw her mouth was slightly open, her breathing even, she was clearly very sleepy. I looked up at everyone and said softly, "It's getting late, we should probably head home." Hearing this, Chen Mengsi also looked at our daughter in my arms and nodded, saying, "We should go home." Mu Yu Lu also stood up then, stretching as she said, "I have to go too. I have an early meeting tomorrow." Leaving the apartment building, Chen Mengsi walked to her beetle. Just as she was about to open the car door, Yang Ziyu called out to her, "Xiao Shen, wait a moment." Chen Mengsi turned around and looked at her with some confusion. Yang Ziyu quickly walked towards the sleek sports car parked not far away and opened the trunk. She took out a flat, exquisitely wrapped box. She handed it to Chen Mengsi with a smile on her face. "This is a gift for you. Make good use of it tonight." Chen Mengsi met her gaze, feeling a little embarrassed, but still took it, smiling as she said, "Thank you." Then, Chen Mengsi got into the driver's seat. I carefully placed the soundly sleeping Nene gently into the child's safety seat in the back and covered her with a small blanket. Only after doing all this did I get into the passenger seat. Meanwhile, Mu Yu Lu walked to her car, waving to them and saying, "I'll go ahead then. You guys drive safe." Then she stepped on the gas and sped off. About 10 minutes later, the beetle arrived downstairs at the apartment. I got out and went to the back seat, gently lifting the sleeping Nai and turning to go upstairs. Chen Mengsi turned off the engine, holding Nei Long's leash in one hand and the gift box from Yang Ziyu in the other. Following behind me, back in the apartment, I carried Nai into the bedroom. I carefully placed her on the bed, took off her coat and shoes, tucked her in, and then quietly went out. Only one soft lamp was on in the living room. Chen Mengsi was standing by the dining table, drinking water. I tiptoed over, hearing the noise. Chen Mengsi looked at me, her eyes gentle, the corners of her mouth curved up slightly, but she didn't say anything. I stopped beside her and looked at her. After a moment of hesitation, I still opened my mouth to explain. About that star thing, I really didn't even know her name back then. It was just a childish whim, bit crazy. That's why. Why I had a secret crush. My voice was a little unnatural. My face showed some embarrassment. Chen Mengsi listened silently until I finished. Then she nodded slightly, not minding it. Instead, she frowned and asked, "You really don't remember anything?" I frowned. I couldn't process what she meant by that and asked weakly, "Should I remember something?" Seeing my confused expression, Chen Mengsi chuckled softly and shook her head without saying anything. She smiled, picked up the gift box beside her, and looked at it. Seeing the thing in her hand, I cleared my throat. I pointed at the exquisitely wrapped flat box and asked, "What's this?" Chen Mengsi replied casually, "Gift from Nene's godmother." As she spoke, she extended her slender fingers and untied the ribbon on the box. Then she gently opened the lid. The moment the box was opened, a dazzling purple color greeted our eyes. It was a purple lace nightgown with an incredibly bold design. The delicate chiffon material showed it wasn't cheap. The hem was embroidered with exquisite lace. Most importantly, there were accompanying toys, bunny ears and a bunny tail, along with a black leather belt. The atmosphere in the living room seemed to freeze at this moment. I just felt a buzzing in my head, as if something had hit me hard. My whole body froze on the spot. My eyes widened as I stared at the purple nightgown, as thin as a cicada's wing. In the box, my Adam's apple bobbed uncontrollably. Chen Mengsi was also stunned. Her fair cheeks quickly flushed red. Even the rims of her ears felt a little hot. She subconsciously wanted to close the box lid, but her movement was half a beat too slow. We both, almost at the same time, perfectly in sync, looked up. Our eyes met in midair. The moment our eyes met, it was as if an invisible electric current passed between us. My cheeks also flushed red, even more so than Chen Mengxi's, red all the way to my ears. I avoided her gaze, my heart pounding like a drum. I didn't dare look into Chen Mengxi's eyes anymore. However, although I tried to push it away, to get the color purple out of my head, my mind uncontrollably pictured Chen Mengxi's fair skin, her delicate and alluring figure. I coughed lightly, my gaze averted, not daring to look at her, but in my peripheral vision, I saw Chen Mengxi standing in front of me, her eyes glistening, her red lips slightly parted, and in Chen Mengxi's mind right now, it was filled with those sensitive images, until she was completely devoured in the end. Thinking of these things, she surprised even herself and quickly shook her head, not daring to think about it anymore. Gulp. I swallowed hard, my mouth and throat felt dry, and the blood in my veins seemed to boil. The next second, a wave of warmth spread through my nasal cavity. Something uncontrollable started to flow out. I subconsciously reached up to touch it. My fingertip was bright red with blood. I had a nosebleed. Seeing this, Chen Mengxi's cheeks turned even redder. She quickly looked away in a panic. In her flustered state, she unconsciously handed me the glass of water she had just been drinking from. I looked at the glass held out in front of me. Momentarily stunned, I fell silent. What does she mean by this? Using water to stop a nosebleed? Is she serious? Chen Mengxi saw me staring at her. Without taking the glass, her cheeks burned. She looked up at me, saw the glass of water in her hand, and suddenly realized she was holding a glass of water, not a tissue. Ah! Look! Chen Mengxi's face immediately flushed bright red, like a ripe apple. She hastily pulled her hand back. She slammed the glass down on the dining table, making a soft clinking sound. She didn't dare look at me anymore, her gaze flickering away. Her voice was as quiet as a mosquito's buzz. I'm gonna wash my face. After saying that, like a startled fawn, she grabbed the box and practically fled for her life to the bedroom. Slam! The bedroom door was shut. I was left alone in the living room, with the warm stream still flowing from my nose. I quickly snapped out of it and grabbed a tissue from the table to stop the bleeding, but I couldn't suppress the smile at the corners of my mouth. Chen Mengxi clutched the box, her cheeks burning. As she ran into the bedroom, she slammed the door shut and leaned her back against it. Her heart was still pounding. She took a few deep breaths. Only then did she calm down a little. She looked down at the box in her arms. Her face grew hot again. What on earth did that Yang Ziyu give her? She quickly went into the bathroom and locked the door. Then she placed the box on the sink. After a moment's hesitation, Chen Mengxi reached out and opened the box again. Her gaze fell on the fluffy bunny ear headband. As if possessed, she reached out, took it, and looked in the mirror. Chen Mengxi hesitantly put the bunny ears on her head. In the mirror, her long hair was down, her cheeks flushed. Two cute white bunny ears stood upright on her head. It added a touch of playfulness and charm that she didn't usually have. Chen Mengxi only glanced once, and her face instantly turned even redder. Like a ripe tomato, she hastily fumbled to take off the bunny ears and threw them back into the box. As if it were a hot potato, she patted her burning cheeks. She stealthily opened the bathroom door, peeking her head out to look into the bedroom. I hadn't come in yet. She breathed a sigh of relief. She quickly shoved the box into the deepest part of the closet. Only then did she feel completely at ease. After doing all this, Chen Mengxi took out her light blue silk nightgown and went back into the bathroom to start her evening routine. About half an hour later, Chen Mengxi, wearing her nightgown, came out of the bathroom, drying her wet hair. Just as she came out, she saw me pushing open the bedroom door and walking in. Our eyes met in midair for a moment. I immediately looked away unnaturally and coughed dryly. My voice was a bit hoarse. I'm going to wash up. After saying that, I quickly walked to the closet and pulled the door open. I swiftly grabbed a pair of shorts and a t-shirt and practically fled for my life into the bathroom. Slam! The bathroom door was also shut. Chen Mengxi watched my retreating back as I fled. She couldn't help but chuckle and shake her head. She walked to the bed and looked at Nai Nai sleeping soundly. Her little face even had a contented smile. Chen Mengxi bent over and gently moved Nai Nai further into the bed, leaving a large enough space for her. Then she lifted the covers herself and lay down between Nai Nai and the outer edge of the bed, lying on her side facing her daughter. Not long after, the sound of running water in the bathroom stopped. I was wearing a t-shirt and shorts. My hair was still a little damp as I walked out. I saw the situation on the bed at a glance. Chen Mengxi was sleeping in the middle, her back to me. Her long, silky hair was spread across the pillow, leaving only her delicate, alluring back visible. My Adam's apple bobbed as I swallowed. I walked over with some hesitation and lifted a corner of the blanket and lay down beside Chen Mengxi. The mattress sank slightly. Chen Mengxi, with her back to me, clearly felt me lie down and smelled the fresh post-shower scent on me, mixed with the scent of male hormones. Her breathing immediately became a little rapid and tense. Her heart also skipped a beat, but she didn't open her eyes, just tightened her arm around Nai Nai. But inside, an indescribable sense of anticipation quietly arose. However, after I lay down, I just lay there properly, doing nothing at all. I could smell the faint fragrance from her hair and body, but I couldn't stop my mind from picturing her wearing that purple lace lingerie and those bunny ears. Gulp. I swallowed hard again. I just felt hot all over, my mind in turmoil, but I didn't dare make any extra moves, afraid I wouldn't be able to control myself. Closed my eyes, trying to push those sensual images out of my head, but the more I suppressed them, the clearer the images became. Chen Mengsi waited for a while, but the person behind her made no move. He didn't hug her from behind as usual. He even intentionally softened his breathing a lot. She frowned slightly, feeling a little suspicious. Why isn't he hugging me? Before Chen Mengsi could think too much, the next second, I scooted away from her, putting a little more distance between us. Chen Mengsi noticed my action. She felt a little disappointed. Am I not charming enough? Thinking of this, she took a deep breath and silently scooted towards me. I had just silently moved away, and was only halfway through a sigh of relief when my nose was suddenly filled with a familiar fragrance again. Chen Mengsi had actually followed me. Her soft body was almost pressed against my arm. Her body scent was like a soft feather, gently scratching at my tense nerves, wafting into my nose and straight to my brain. My whole body stiffened. Alarm bells were ringing loudly in my mind. Screaming frantically, "No way! Who could possibly withstand a test like this?" Before I could react, or even have time to think about how to handle it, Chen Mengsi suddenly made a new move from behind. She gently turned over, directly facing me, so we were face to face. In the darkness, I could feel her warm breath, gently brushing against my cheek. I was suddenly stunned. The next moment, Chen Mengsi's small, warm hand accurately grabbed my wrist without missing. Her fingers were a little cold, but their delicate touch made my heart tremble. Before I could even react, I felt an irresistible force from my wrist, a gentle pull. I was completely unprepared. My body followed her pull, unconsciously leaning to one side, our eyes meeting. Nope. We were almost face to face. Right after that, she gently placed my hand on her slender waist. That soft feeling was transmitted through the thin silk nightgown, making my palm feel as if it had been ironed by a hot iron. It instantly became scorching hot. I hadn't even recovered from this series of events when Chen Mengsi took the opportunity to hug my waist. Her soft body pressed against mine. Her small head buried itself directly in the crook of my neck, her hair brushing against my chin. It was ticklish and warm, holding a soft, warm, and fragrant beauty in my arms. My mind exploded with a bang. Completely blank. Chen Mengsi held me tightly. The corner of her mouth curved up slightly. She could feel the warmth and muscular feeling coming from my body. Her heart was pounding very fast, as if it were about to jump out of her throat. However, just as she was immersing herself in this sudden intimacy, she suddenly realized there was something very hard pressing against her lower abdomen. Chen Mengsi's eyes flew open. Her body instantly stiffened. Boom! A wave of heat shot up from the soles of her feet straight to the top of her head. Her cheeks immediately flushed scarlet, even redder than when she saw the purple lingerie. It looked like they were about to bleed. Chen Mengsi buried her head even deeper, wishing she could find a hole to crawl into. The rims of her ears also turned bright red. The ambiguity from the living room seemed to have extended to the bedroom, and reached its peak at this moment. The air was filled with heart-pounding elements. In the quiet bedroom, only the two of them remained. Their breathing grew heavier and more chaotic. Time passed, second by second, minute by minute. The breathing of the person in my arms gradually became even and long. She had clearly fallen asleep, but I wasn't sleepy at all. Chen Mengsi was practically pressed against my entire body. Her soft fragrance continuously wafted into my nose. My chest was tightly occupied by a warm, soft area. I lay there stiffly, not daring to move. I tried to gently move Chen Mengsi's arm that was resting on my waist, wanting to create a little distance. But as soon as I moved, Chen Mengsi, like a startled kitten, let out a small whimper, and her arm tightened. Her whole body snuggled deeper into my embrace, her small head rubbing against the crook of my neck. Finding a more comfortable position, I immediately gave up struggling, afraid of waking her. Forget it. Let's just stay like this. Closed my eyes, trying to make myself ignore the abnormality in my body and on my chest, that soft feeling that made one restless. But the more I tried to ignore it, the clearer the sensation became. How could I possibly sleep? I opened my eyes in the darkness, letting out a helpless sigh. My gaze fixed on the ceiling, my eyes were vacant. Early the next morning, I had heavy dark circles under my eyes. I stared blankly at the ceiling. The fatigue from a sleepless night washed over me like a tide, and the person lying on top of me, Chen Mengsi, was sleeping very soundly. There was even a faint smile on her lips, as if she were having a sweet dream. One of her legs was even naughtily draped over me. Her whole body was like an octopus, wrapped tightly around me. Suddenly, I heard a rustling sound beside the bed. I tilted my head slightly and glanced over. I saw that Nai had woken up at some point. She was lying on her stomach at the edge of the bed, her little hands propping up her chin. Her big, round, dark eyes were blinking. They held a hint of curiosity and a smile as she stared at her parents holding each other tightly. Right after that, Chen Mengsi seemed to sense something in my arms. Her long eyelashes fluttered a few times, and then she slowly opened her eyes. She blinked drowsily. The first thing that came into view was her daughter's enlarged, smiling face. Chen Mengsi's cheeks instantly flushed red. She was wide awake. She subconsciously glanced at her own posture, still holding me tightly. More than half of her body was even pressing down on me. She wished she could find a hole to crawl into right away. She hurriedly made a she gesture to Nai Nai and lowered her voice. Good girl. Nai Nai, don't wake Daddy up. Daddy is still sleeping. Hearing her mom, Nai Nai tilted her little head and first looked at me. She noticed Daddy's eyes were open, then looked back at her mom. Although a little suspicious, she still obediently raised her small hand to cover her mouth, her big, round eyes sparkling with laughter. Seeing this, Chen Mengsai breathed a sigh of relief inside, but the blush on her face didn't fade at all. She carefully, bit by bit, moved off me, afraid of waking me up. However, when she finally got out of my arms and sat up, when she looked up at me, she realized that I wasn't actually asleep. I had my eyes open, with obvious dark circles under them. My eyes held a hint of fatigue, an indescribably complex emotion. As I looked at her, the atmosphere instantly froze. Chen Mengs's cheeks grew even hotter. She coughed lightly, hiding her embarrassment. Her voice was a little dry. You're awake? I didn't say anything, just moved my stiff body slightly. Chen Mengsi looked at my somewhat tired expression. A hint of guilt rose in her heart as she said. She thought for a moment and said quietly, how about I take Nai Nai to kindergarten today? You should rest a little more. Hearing that, I shook my head. My voice was a bit raspy. No need. I have class at 8 a.m. today. Chen Mengse heard my raspy voice, then saw the dark circles under my eyes, and nodded with a blush. She was a little unsure of what to say. She turned her head to look at Nai Nai beside her. The little girl was still covering her small mouth, the laughter in her eyes about to spill out. Chen Mengsai felt a little embarrassed. She gently poked Nai Nai's smooth little forehead and teased, you little rascal. After saying that, she lifted Nai Nai off the bed and quickly went into the bathroom. Until the bathroom door was gently closed, I felt as if a 1,000-pound weight had been lifted from me on the bed. A long and heavy sigh of relief escaped me, and my whole body went limp. I sank into the soft mattress. I raised an arm to cover my eyes. My voice carried a post-disaster awareness as I whispered, this is just too torturous. Every minute and every second of last night was both ultimate enjoyment and ultimate torture for me. A long while later, I finally lifted the covers, slowly sat up from the bed, and rubbed my slightly stiff neck. Then I got up and walked towards the bathroom. Just as I reached the bathroom door, it opened from the inside. Chen Mengs came out carrying a clean and washed Nai Nai. The little girl was humming an out-of-tune children's song. She was clearly in a very— Chen Mengs' steps faltered slightly. Her cheeks unconsciously flushed again. She subconsciously lowered her eyes, not daring to look directly at me. She quickly walked past me while carrying Nai Nai. She really did look a bit like a new bride. Shy and awkward, I watched Chen Mengs' somewhat hurried back. I didn't say much, but the corners of my mouth unconsciously curved into a faint smile. After a quick wash-up, not long after, the car slowly stopped at the kindergarten gate. The three of us walked hand in hand towards the kindergarten gate. At the gate, Nai Nai stopped, looked up, and first glanced at Chen Mengs. Then she looked at me, and then held out her small, fair fingers, pointing to each of her cheeks in turn. She whined in her childish voice, Mommy? Daddy? Kiss me. Chen Mengs and I looked at each other and smiled. Our smiles were filled with doting affection for our daughter. We squatted down in unison, one on each side, and gently placed a kiss on Nai Nai's rosy cheeks. A radiant smile immediately bloomed on Nai Nai's face. Her eyes curved into two adorable crescent moons. Satisfied, she waved her small hand and shouted, Bye-bye, Mommy and Daddy. After saying that, she turned and skipped into the kindergarten. Chen Mengse and I remained squatting on the spot, watching our daughter's small figure enter the kindergarten. Both of us had gentle smiles on our faces, until Nai Nai's small figure disappeared around the corner of the kindergarten. Did Chen Mengsi and I slowly stand up straight. We both withdrew our gazes. Our eyes accidentally met in midair, then quickly darted away as if we'd been electrocuted. Chen Mengsi was the first to break the silence. She tilted her head slightly, her hair brushing against her cheek. She said softly, Let me take you to school. I grunted in agreement and nodded. We got in the car one after the other. Chen Mengsi started the car, driving towards the university. It was quiet in the car for a moment. I barely slept last night. Right now, I was leaning against the passenger seat, my eyes gazing out the window, but my thoughts were a little hazy. Chen Mengsi focused on driving, but out of the corner of her eye, she would occasionally glance at the man beside her. The dark circles under my eyes made her feel a pang of guilt again. A moment later, the car came to a steady stop in front of Lei University's gate. We're here, Chen Mengse said softly. I came back to my senses and unbuckled my seatbelt. Before opening the car door, I reminded her, drive safe on the road. Chen Mengse nodded in reply. With that, I got out of the car. I closed the car door, just as I was about to turn and walk towards the school gate. Wait, Chen Mengse's voice came from behind me. I stopped and turned around in confusion, looking towards Chen Mengse in the driver's seat. Chen Mengse took a deep breath, as if she had made some kind of decision. She unbuckled her seatbelt. She also opened the car door and got out. Chen Mengs quickly walked up to me and stopped. She lowered her head slightly. Her fair cheeks were tinged with a suspicious blush. Then, Chen Mengxi extended her slender finger and gently pointed to her smooth cheek. I frowned slightly. I couldn't immediately figure out what she meant. What does she mean by this? Seeing that I wasn't making a move, Chen Mengxi's cheeks turned even redder. She looked up, quickly glanced at me, then quickly looked down again. Her voice was as soft as a mosquito's buzz, but it reached my ears clearly. Kiss me. I was suddenly stunned. My whole body froze. I even suspected that because I stayed up too late, I might be having auditory hallucinations. Kiss me. Was she talking to me? Chen Mengxi saw that I still had no reaction. The courage she had mustered up in an instant deflated by more than half. An indescribable disappointment welled up in her heart. She slowly raised her eyes to look at me. The light in her eyes was slightly evasive, carrying a hint of grievance and sadness that was hard to detect. Was I being too forward? I looked at Chen Mengxi's pitiful appearance. In that moment, my heart was hit hard. An uncontrollable heat suddenly surged from the bottom of my heart. It quickly spread to my limbs. I swallowed hard. At this moment, I really wanted to push Chen Mengxi down and ravish her mercilessly. To possess her as my own, Chen Mengxi sensed in my eyes that undisguised possessive desire. Her heart trembled slightly. Not only was there no rejection, but a secret joy rose in her heart instead. She took a deep breath and took a small step forward, closing the distance between us. Then, to my astonishment, she stood on her tiptoes, her soft lips gently pressed against my cheek. My whole body felt like it was hit by a petrifying spell. I froze on the spot in an instant. My mind went blank. The only thing I could feel was the warm, soft sensation on my cheek, along with the faint, unique scent on Chen Mengxi. Chen Mengxi pulled away as soon as she touched me. The blush on her cheeks had spread to her earlobes. She tried to calm herself. Her voice carried an imperceptible tremble as she said, "He'll pick you up after class at noon. Tonight, we'll go to the Shen family home together." After saying this, she didn't dare to look at me again. She shyly turned away and quickly returned to the driver's seat. Not until the car disappeared from sight did I feel like the spell was broken. Slowly coming back to my senses, I subconsciously raised my hand. My fingertips gently touched the spot where Chen Mengxi had kissed my cheek. It seemed to still linger there, the softness and warmth of her lips, and a faint, lingering fragrance, an indescribable joy, like an electric current running through my body. The corners of my mouth couldn't help but curve up. My eyes were filled with disbelief. Chen Mengxi had just kissed me. This made my heart beat uncontrollably. Wildly, the fatigue and sleepiness from last night seemed to vanish into thin air at this moment, replaced by an unreal sense of happiness. It was like a dream. "Hey, Muka!" Just as I was immersed in this sudden sweetness, smiling foolishly to myself, a familiar voice sounded from behind. Immediately after, my arm was bumped, not too lightly, not too heavily. I came back to my senses. The smile on my face hadn't completely faded when I saw Yang Wei holding a half-eaten bun in one hand, carrying soy milk in the other. Frowning, looking at me with a strange expression. "What's this kid doing standing at the school gate so early in the morning?" Smiling foolishly at the air. "Are you possessed or just horny?" Yang Wei looked me up and down, his face full of concern. My smile immediately froze on my face, then quickly vanished. I returned to my usual slightly cold demeanor. I glanced at Yang Wei and said irritably, "Is it any of your business?" As I spoke, I took the opportunity while he wasn't paying attention to snatch the half-full bag of buns from his hand. I took a soup dumpling and stuffed it into my mouth. "Hey! My buns!" Yang Wei was caught off guard. He stared blankly as his bun was eaten by me. He immediately let out a cry. I chewed the bun and said indistinctly, "I'm hungry." After saying that, I ignored Yang Wei's protest and turned to stride onto the campus. Neither of them noticed, under a camphor tree not far away, CS Saining had witnessed everything that had just happened at the school gate. Her eyes widened slightly in disbelief. So Muka really does have someone he likes. Just as CS Saining was in a daze, the sound of an engine approached from a distance. In a few moments, a black Rolls-Royce Phantom slowly pulled over by the roadside not far away. The car door opened. A person got out of the passenger seat. A bodyguard in a black suit. He respectfully opened the rear door. Immediately after, Chu Yiwu stepped out of the car. She had a radiant smile on her face, waving towards Xia Saining. Saining. Chu Yiwu held her skirt, preparing to walk towards Xia Saining. Another person got out of the car. It was an elegant and noble woman, around 40 years old. She was very well maintained, wearing a well-tailored champagne-colored suit. Her aura was gentle and elegant. "Yiwu," the woman called out to Chu Yiwu, her voice gentle. Chu Yiwu stopped, turned around, and called out sweetly, "Mom." The woman walked up to Chu Yiwu and reached out, gently fixing for her a slightly messy strand of hair on her forehead. Her eyes were full of affection. "Mom doesn't object to you having a boyfriend, but you must protect yourself well. Understand?" Chu Yiwu, with a slightly coquettish look, linked arms with the woman. She rested her head gently on her shoulder. "I know, Mom." "Don't worry." The woman was amused by her daughter's coyness. She gently patted the back of her hand. Xianing, not far away, the moment she saw the woman's face clearly, was completely stunned. her pupils suddenly constricted. Her face was filled with shock and disbelief. Her best friend's mother looked 60 to 70% like Muka's girlfriend. If it weren't for the obvious differences in age and aura, Xia Saining would have thought she saw wrong. A bold guess immediately popped in her head. Could it be that Muka's girlfriend is Chu Yuu's older sister? As soon as this thought appeared, Xia Saining's mind immediately pictured the short film she stayed up watching last night. Sister-in-law falls for brother-in-law. This is too scandalous. Just as Xia Saining was lost in her wild thoughts, Chu Yuwu held her skirt and walked over to Xia Saining in a few steps. She intimately linked arms with her. Her face still held that bright, fresh smile. Saining, what were you spacing out about just now? You looked like your soul had left your body. Xia Saining was brought back to reality by her clear voice. Her heart pounded. She hastily concealed the unusual expression on her face. She tried to calm herself and shook her head, forcing a slightly stiff smile. No, it's nothing. It's just, I just saw your mother. She's so elegant. Hearing this, Chu Yuwu proudly lifted her chin and said with a smile, "Of course, my mother is a great beauty." Xia Saining looked at her unsuspecting appearance and secretly breathed a sigh of relief. She stole a glance at Chu Yuwu and couldn't help but ask, "Yuwu, do you have an older sister?" Chu Yuwu blinked her beautiful eyes and shook her head firmly. No, she looked at Xia Saining with some confusion. Why? Xia Saining waved her hand, her gaze a little evasive. No. It's nothing. I was just asking casually. Just a random question. Could it really be that they just look alike? Oh my god. Xia Saining muttered to herself, trying to suppress that unreliable thought. Maybe it's because I was too engrossed in the short film I watched last night that I came up with such a strange association. She took a deep breath and decided not to dwell on this issue anymore. She turned to look at Chu Yuwu and changed the subject. By the way, Yuwu, are you still planning to pursue Muka? Without thinking, Chu Yuu's beautiful face broke into a determined smile, and she answered decisively, "Of course I'll pursue him." Hearing that, Xia Ning suddenly stopped in her tracks. She stopped, turned around, and looked at Chu Yuwu with a serious expression. Her tone also dropped a few notches. "Yuwu, Muka has already made it very clear. He doesn't like you. Why are you still so persistent? Just give up." Chu Yuwu looked unconcerned. She gently tossed her long, silky hair. The corners of her mouth curved into a confident arc. Whether he likes me or not is his business. Me liking him is my business. I believe that as long as I persist, one day I'll win him over. Xia Saining frowned deeply. She didn't want her good friend to go further and further down the wrong path. Even less did she want her to become someone who wrecks others' relationships. She took a deep breath and advised, "Yuwu, Muka, he already has a girlfriend. What you're doing is interfering in someone else's relationship. You're being the other woman." Interfering? The other woman? Chu Yuwu looked as if she had heard a joke. She raised her eyebrows. Her tone was slightly disapproving. Saining, you can say that they're not married yet. This is called bravely fighting for my love. How can that be considered interfering? Xia Saining was taken aback by her words, astonished by her eloquent yet twisted logic. She could hardly believe such words came from her own best friend's mouth. She suddenly pulled her arm away from Chu Yuu's grasp, took a small step back, and looked at her with disbelief. Her voice trembled slightly. "Yuwu, you know he has a girlfriend, yet you still want to pursue him. If this isn't knowingly interfering, then what is it?" Chu Yuwu opened her mouth, seemingly wanting to explain something, but Xia Saining didn't want to listen anymore. She looked at Chu Yuwu, her eyes full of disappointment. She let out a soft sigh. Her tone carried a hint of wariness and resolution. "Yuwu, if you've really made up your mind to interfere in someone else's relationship, then let's not be best friends anymore." With that, Xia Saining didn't spare Chu Yuwu another glance. She turned and walked straight through the school gate. Chu Yuwu stood frozen on the spot, watching Xia Saining's retreating back. The smile on her face gradually stiffened. Could Saining already know something, or has she found out about the relationship between me and Chen Mengxi? On the other side, Yang Wei and I entered the classroom one after another. We casually found seats at the back. As soon as we sat down, the fatigue from last night rushed back like a tide. I yawned, my eyelids uncontrollably starting to droop. My head was nodding, looking like I was about to fall asleep on the desk. Yang Wei finished his half-eaten bun and took a big gulp of soy milk. When he turned his head, he saw my state, looking like I could doze off at any moment. He gently nudged me with his elbow and asked in a low voice, "Hey, where did you go last night? Kid, didn't sleep well." I squinted my eyes. My voice was thick with sleepiness as I mumbled incoherently. "It's not just that I didn't sleep well. I didn't sleep at all." Hearing that, Yang Wei's eyes widened. He leaned in close to me and teased, "Damn, are you that thirsty? Kid, even if you are that desperate, you should still avoid the little one." I was stunned by his nonsensical words. Then I realized what he was implying. I was speechless. I lifted my eyelids, gave Yang Wei a lazy glance, and said weakly, "Get lost. I can't be bothered to explain to you." Yang Wei chuckled. He didn't ask any further, but changed the subject. "By the way, Good brother. Which hospital does Sister Yulu work at now? Hearing that, my sleepy gaze paused slightly. I looked at Yang Wei with a hint of inquiry. Before I could speak, Yang Wei quickly waved his hands and hurriedly added, I'm going for a physical checkup in a few days. I want to ask Sister Yulu to help me take a look. After hearing that, I raised my eyebrows again. I looked Yang Wei up and down as if he were a monster and said in a strange tone, a man, going for a gynecology checkup. Yang Wei almost spat out the mouthful of soy milk he had just drunk. He coughed violently a few times, his face turning red from holding it in. He hastily explained, What gynecology? It's my mom and my sister. They're going for a checkup. I thought since Sister Yulu is a doctor, she would definitely be more reliable. Only then did it dawn on me. The strange look in my eyes disappeared. I nodded, rubbing my slightly throbbing temples, and said, Okay, I'll ask for you later and send you the hospital address. Okay. Hearing that, a radiant smile immediately appeared on Yang Wei's face. He nodded repeatedly, looking very happy. I was too sleepy and didn't notice the change in him at all. I slumped onto the desk and closed my eyes. At the same time, in the CEO's office of the Shen Group, Chen Mengxi sat in her office chair. The corners of her mouth couldn't help but curve up slightly. She rested her chin on one hand, staring intently at a potted green plant on the desk. The smile on her lips widened, carrying a bit of foolishness, mixed with an indescribable shyness. At this moment, the office door was pushed open, and Assistant Chen walked in. The moment she saw her own CEO, she was completely stunned. She saw that President Shen, who was usually serious and taciturn, with an aura so powerful it could freeze people, was now smiling foolishly. That smile carried the shyness of a young girl in love for the first time, and was devastatingly sweet, completely different from the usual Ice Queen CEO, who was decisive and ruthless. Assistant Chen suspected that she had been working too long and was hallucinating. She subconsciously rubbed her eyes and looked again. Yes, she was really smiling, and it was a very sweet smile. Assistant Chen felt her whole body go numb. A storm raged in her heart. No way! Who turned her brilliant and powerful President Shen into this? Chen Mengxi was lost in her own thoughts and didn't realize Assistant Chen had entered, not until she felt a gaze on her. Did she snap out of it? She looked up and met Assistant Chen's eyes. The smile on Chen Mengxi's face immediately froze. In just a moment, she recovered her usual cold and distant demeanor. She cleared her throat softly to cover up her recent lapse in composure. Her voice also returned to its usual calmness as she asked, What is it? Assistant Chen was startled by her sudden change and quickly bowed her head, trying to suppress the storm in her heart. She reported respectfully, President Shen, President Yang is here. Chen Mengxi frowned slightly and said indifferently, Let her in. Yes, Assistant Chen responded, as if granted amnesty, and quickly retreated from the CEO's office. Not long after, the office door was pushed open again. A beautiful figure walked in. It was Yang Ziyu. Today, she was wearing a neat white skirt suit. Her long hair was casually draped over her shoulders. She had a bright and open smile on her face. Yang Ziyu wore high heels and walked straight to Chen Mengxi's desk. She placed both hands on the edge of the desk and leaned forward slightly. Staring at Chen Mengxi, she asked with a smile, Did you like the gift I gave you yesterday? Hearing that, Chen Mengxi's cheeks immediately flushed. Even her earlobes felt a little hot. She looked up and glared at Yang Ziyu, saying, What kind of decent person gives that as a gift? Yang Ziyu saw her embarrassed and angry look, and the smile on her face grew even brighter. She straightened up, leisurely crossed her arms, and raised an eyebrow. You can say that, if I hadn't given you this, how would you have taken down Mukai in one go? She sized up Chen Mengxi from head to toe, her eyes full of scrutiny and a hint of a wicked smile. She leaned closer and asked in a low voice, You did actually not use it, did you? Chen Mengxi coughed lightly, her gaze shifted. Not answering her question, Yang Ziyu looked at Chen Mengxi's evasive eyes. How could she not understand? She felt disappointed, pointing her index finger, and gently poked Chen Mengxi's smooth forehead. Such a good opportunity. How could you not seize it? Chen Mengxi leaned back slightly from her poke. She instinctively pouted and said, It's still too early. Too early? Yang Ziyu looked as if she had heard a huge joke. Her tone rose several notches. Chen Mengxi had a grip, is in university now, surrounded by so many young, beautiful, and proactive girls. Aren't you afraid someone will snatch him away? Hearing that, Chen Mengxi gently shook her head, her face showing not much panic. Instead, it exuded a certain confidence. I trust him. Yang Ziyu looked at her calm demeanor and almost laughed out of frustration. She took a deep breath, reached out both hands, and gently held Chen Mengxi's cheeks, forcing her to face her. My dear President Shen, men are visual creatures. They only like young and beautiful girls who exude youthful vitality. Yang Ziyu's gaze was sharp as she spoke word by word. Do you really not have any sense of crisis? Chen Mengxi met her serious gaze, blinked and said, I'm young and beautiful too. You are now. Yang Ziyu mercilessly interrupted her. What about in a few years, when you're busy with work and gradually lose your age advantage? What will you have to compete with those endless streams of young girls? This question made Chen Mengxi fall into a brief silence. She thought carefully for a moment, her tone still calm. I have money. Hearing that, Yang Ziyu also fell silent. The atmosphere in the office suddenly became a bit stagnant. A moment later, Yang Ziyu let go of Chen Mengxi's cheeks, looked at her with a complex expression, and spoke slowly. Men go bad when they have money. Do you want him to spend your money to keep another young woman outside? As soon as these words were spoken, tense expression appeared on Chen Mengxi's face. She quickly shook her head. She couldn't imagine that scene. She looked up at Yang Ziyu and asked hurriedly, Then what do you think I should do? Hearing this, the corners of Yang Ziyu's mouth lifted slightly. With a confident expression, she said, to capture a man's heart, you must first capture his stomach. Hearing this, Chen Mengx fell silent. Her gaze on Yang Ziyu's face carried some scrutiny and a bit of uncertainty. Will that really work? Yang Ziyu saw her hesitation and immediately nodded repeatedly, her expression unprecedentedly serious. Of course. It will. Her tone was firm, as if it were some great truth. Chen Mengx frowned slightly. A troubled look appeared on her face, her voice dropping a few notches. But I don't know how to cook. She thought for a moment and added, I only know how to make noodles, and only the plain soupy kind. If you don't know, you can learn. Yang Ziyu waved her hand dismissively, saying lightly, cooking is very simple. There are so many tutorials online. Just watch a few times and you'll get it. Besides, you're so smart, you can learn anything quickly. After listening, Chen Mengxi nodded thoughtfully. It seemed to make some sense. She looked up at Yang Ziyu and asked with a hint of curiosity. So do you know how? Yang Ziyu, who was speaking animatedly, was asked this and blurted out without thinking, I don't. The air in the office seemed to freeze for a moment. The little bit of expectation on Chen Mengxi's face immediately vanished, leaving only silence. She looked at Yang Ziyu and muttered, You don't even know. And you're teaching me. Yang Ziyu also realized her slip of the tongue. But she was thick-skinned. She showed no embarrassment, instead puffing out her chest, and said righteously, Aya! It doesn't matter if I know how or not. What's important is that this method works. Trust me, it's definitely not wrong. Chen Mengxi looked at her with suspicion. After a moment, she slowly asked, Where did you learn all this? From novels. Yang Ziyu answered very casually. Chen Mengxi fell silent once again. This time, the silence lasted a little longer. She felt her temples throbbing and began to doubt whether letting Yang Ziyu into her office today was a wrong decision. Chen Mengxi frowned and asked again, Is what you're saying reliable? Of course it is. Yang Ziyu looked confident, patting her chest to guarantee it. Let me tell you, that novel is super popular. The male lead in it was also incredibly cold at first. The female lead relied on her amazing cooking skills, making him delicious food every day, to gradually melt his heart. The more she spoke, the more excited she became, and later in the novel, the main couple was very happy. Yang Ziyu leaned close to Chen Mengxi and said, In the end, they had 8 kids in one go. 8 kids in one go. She took a deep breath. She silently muttered to herself, 8 kids? That's too many. Would the house turn into a daycare? Having one Nai, I already feel very content. But on second thought, Nai is home alone. Sometimes she looks quite lonely. If she had a little brother or sister to play with, it seems that wouldn't be bad. But what if the 2 kids don't get along and fight every day? Wouldn't that be an even bigger headache? With 2 little ancestors in the house, who would be the referee? So, then have one more. When 3 children have a conflict, there's always one who can be the peacemaker. Right? Thinking of this, a smile unconsciously appeared on her face, and her eyes softened and was immediately replaced by a hint of worry. 3 kids? Isn't that too many? Will he agree? Yang Ziyu watched Chen Mengx, whose expression was changing unpredictably, from deep in thought to the corners of her mouth unconsciously turning up. Couldn't help but raise an eyebrow. She waved her hand in front of Chen Mengx's face and asked curiously, Hey, great President Shen, what are you thinking about? Chen Mengxi was pulled back to reality by her voice. Her cheeks suddenly felt hot. She quickly wiped the foolish smile off her face and shook her head a little unnaturally. Her voice also carried a bit of shyness. Nope. It's nothing. What kind of person was Yang Ziyu? She could see through her thoughts with just a glance. Seeing her blushing cheeks and sparkling eyes, she couldn't help but smile teasingly. She gave Chen Mengxi a lecherous look up and down. Taste ass, your face is all red, and you still say it's nothing. Yang Ziyu leaned closer and lowered her voice, speaking in a suggestive tone. Are you thinking about how to use your future master cooking skills to completely conquer Muka and then have 8 kids in one go? She deliberately dragged out her words, hinting at something. Chen Mengx felt uncomfortable all over under her gaze. She coughed lightly, unnaturally, avoiding Yang Ziyu's probing gaze. Her voice dropped a few notches. I'll give it a try. Hearing that, Yang Ziyu smiled even more brightly and nodded in satisfaction. She reached out and patted Chen Mengx's shoulder, with the gratified look of someone whose student is teachable. That's more like it. I'll come check on your progress in a few days. You have to work hard. Don't let me down. I believe in you. After saying that, She was satisfied and turned to leave the CEO's office. The office door closed once again. Chen Mengxi sat alone in her office chair, but the corners of her mouth couldn't help but curve up. But then she remembered the first time I ate the noodles she cooked, a disgusted look on my face, and felt a little worried. Just then, she suddenly remembered that she had to take me and Nai Nai to the old family house tonight. She quickly picked up the phone beside her and called her grandmother. At the same time, at the Shen family's old residence, Grandpa Shen and Grandma Shen were sitting in the living room, happily looking at photos of Nai Nai at kindergarten. The smiles on their faces never faded. Just as the two were enjoying themselves, the phone next to them rang. Grandma Shen glanced at her husband beside her. Grandpa Shen impatiently put down the photos, grumbled as he picked up the phone. Seeing it was his granddaughter calling, a smile immediately blossomed on his face. "Hello? Mengxi." But before Grandpa Shen could finish his sentence, Grandma Shen, who was beside him, was quick. She snatched the phone from his hand. "Mengxi. It's Grandma." Grandma Shen's voice was full of affection and joy. Seeing this, Grandpa Shen wasn't angry. Instead, he quickly leaned in close, pressing his ear against the receiver, afraid of missing even a bit of his granddaughter's voice. Chen Mengxi's cool voice came from the other end of the line. "Grandma." The smile on Grandma Shen's face deepened. She asked gently, "Mengxi, is something the matter?" "Dear." Chen Mengxi took a deep breath and said, "Grandma, I'm coming to the old house for dinner tonight. Please ask Auntie Zhang to prepare some extra food." Grandma Shen heard this. Overwhelming joy was written all over her face. She and Grandpa Shen next to her exchanged a look. Both saw the unconcealable excitement in each other's eyes. "Our grandson-in-law and great-granddaughter are coming home together soon." Grandma Shen hurriedly nodded repeatedly into the phone. Her voice was even trembling a little. "Okay. Okay. Grandma knows. He'll definitely have Aunt Zhang prepare more food." Shen Mengxi heard her grandmother's extremely excited voice. The corners of her mouth couldn't help but lift slightly. She replied softly, "Okay. You'll hang up first then. I still have things to do at the company." Okay. See you tonight." "Yo, be careful on your way." "Dear," Grandma Shen reminded her. After hanging up the phone, Grandma Shen was excited. She grabbed Grandpa Shen's arm and shook it vigorously a few times. The smile on her face was radiant. "Old man, did you hear that? We're finally going to meet our grandson-in-law and great-granddaughter." Grandpa Shen's face was also flushed. Nodding excitedly, the wrinkles on his face even smiled into a flower. I heard. This girl is finally willing to bring someone home. That's great. Just great." On the other side, Shen Mengxi hung up the phone. Yang Ziu's words, "To capture a man's heart, you must first capture his stomach." That piece of sophistry kept replaying in her mind. She pursed her lips. She picked up her phone again, her fingertips hesitatingly tapping on the screen. She searched for a crash course on cooking for beginners. Countless recipes appeared on the screen. Shen Mengxi's eyes were dazzled. Finally, her gaze landed on one, the most common home-style dish, stir-fried tomatoes and eggs. Every single step in the tutorial video was explained very clearly. Shen Mengxi watched with extreme seriousness, her brows furrowed slightly, as if she were studying an important business plan. "So it's this simple." After watching the video once, she mumbled to herself, a flash of surprise in her eyes. This was much easier than she had imagined. An indescribable confidence quietly sprouted in her heart. She couldn't help but picture in her mind the scene of her actually learning how to cook. What would it be like? Perhaps on a warm afternoon, the last rays of sunset would shine through the window into the kitchen. She would be wearing an apron, busy in front of the stove. Muko would gently hug her from behind, his chin resting on the crook of her neck, his voice deep and gentle. "Honey, what delicious dish are you making today?" And Nai Nai would hug her leg, looking up at her small face, calling out in a milky voice, Mommy! Nai Nai wants to eat." When the fragrant food is served, Muko would take a bite, he'd raise his eyebrows in surprise, his eyes full of admiration. "Honey, the food you cooked is so delicious." Nai Nai would also act like a grown-up, nodding her little head vigorously. Mommy's cooking is the best in the world. Thinking of these things, Shen Mengxi's cheeks couldn't help but flush. The corners of her mouth also couldn't help but lift, revealing a slightly silly smile. Knock! A sudden knock on the door interrupted Shen Mengxi's thoughts. She suddenly snapped back to reality, the blush on her face quickly fading. That silly smile also instantly disappeared. She cleared her throat, regaining her usual cold CEO voice. The office door was pushed open. An assistant Chen walked in holding documents. She said respectfully, "CEO Shen, this document needs your signature." Shen Mengxi reached out to take the document. Her eyes lowered as she flipped through it. When she saw the words Yang Group on the document's title, followed by the words Letter of Intent for Cooperation, her movements paused slightly. She looked up at Assistant Chen. She asked in a calm tone, "Did Yang Ziyu have someone send this?" Assistant Chen shook her head and reported truthfully, "No. CEO Shen, this document was sent by Grandma Yang. Their side had someone send it over." When Shen Mengxi heard this, her eyes suddenly turned cold. She slammed the document in her hand onto the desk with a thud. She said coldly, "This contract. Tell Yang Ziyu to come talk to me in person. Anyone else is out of the question." Assistant Chen's heart trembled. She quickly lowered her head and replied, "Yes, Xiao Shen." She bowed and carefully picked up the document that Shen Mengxi had thrown down. Just as Assistant Chen was about to leave, Shen Mengxi spoke again, calling her back. "Wait a minute," Shen Mengxi said. "All the work for this afternoon is moved to tomorrow." "Yes, Xiao Shen," Assistant Chen replied. Only then did she quietly exit the Xiao's office. Around noon, Yang Wei and I came out of a nearby pharmacy. Yang Wei's eyes fell on the small paper bag I was carrying in my hand. A flash of curiosity appeared in his eyes. Yang Wei raised an eyebrow and asked, "Old Mu, why are you buying fast-acting heart medication? Has life been too exciting lately? Can't your heart take it?" I sighed softly and explained, "It's not for me. Tonight, Mengxi and I have to take Nai Nai to her grandparents' house for dinner." Having said that, I paused for a moment before continuing. "I'm afraid her grandparents might get too excited all of a sudden. If they get scared and something happens, it won't be good." Yang Wei thought for a moment. Then it dawned on him, "You mean Shen Meng still hasn't told her grandparents about Nai Nai, and she's already bringing you two to their old house?" I nodded and added, "But they know about my existence. They've probably already investigated and found out about Nai Nai's existence too." Yang Wei's jaw dropped, his face filled with astonishment. "So cool." Immediately after, he changed the subject and asked, "She's already taken you home to meet her family? So what about your parents? When are you planning to tell your aunt and uncle the truth?" Hearing that, I sighed, my tone turning somber as I said, "Let's get through tonight first. As for my parents, I'd like to live a few more years." Yang Wei patted my shoulder sympathetically and said, "You can't hide this for long. After all, you have to face it sooner or later. It's just a matter of time." I looked at Yang Wei and forced a wry smile, as if to say, "I know. You don't need to remind me." Yang Wei didn't want to pressure me. He said in a teasing tone, "But when you really do decide to tell your parents the truth, don't forget to give me a heads up. When the time comes, your bro will help you book the best VIP room in the hospital." I burst out laughing. Looking at Yang Wei, a warm feeling rose in my heart. I said, "Good brother." Yang Wei grinned, clenching his fist. He gently punched his own left chest, then pointed at me and said, "Of course." Immediately, he waved at me and said, "All right, I'm heading back first." I watched his retreating figure, speechless, but then again, hiding it forever isn't the solution. Besides, it's not fair to Shen Mengxi. Last Sunday, Nai Nai got along very well with my parents. For Nai Nai's sake, they probably wouldn't be too harsh, right? Thinking of this, I nodded in agreement. After all, they say even a vicious tiger won't eat its own cub. No matter what, I'm still their biological son. It won't be a big problem. Just then, Shen Mengxi's beetle slowly pulled over to the side of the road. Seeing this, I walked over, opened the car door, and sat in the passenger seat. Shen Mengxi tilted her head to look at me and asked softly, "What were you thinking about just now? You look so absorbed." She had seen me from the car just now, standing alone by the road. With a pensive look on my face, I fastened my seatbelt and blurted out, "Nothing." When Shen Mengxi heard that, her eyes darkened for a moment. Her fingers on the steering wheel tightened slightly. A trace of disappointment flashed through her heart. But the next second, I spoke again. "This Sunday, come with me to my parents' house." When Shen Mengxi heard this, she slammed her foot on the brakes. The beetle let out a piercing screech and came to an abrupt stop on the side of the road. Incredible joy immediately filled her eyes, but it was quickly replaced by a hint of panic. She turned her head abruptly to look at me, her voice trembling slightly. "Why? Why?" I looked at her wide-open eyes and calmly explained, "To talk about us. Of course, and also about Nai Nai. To tell them everything." Hearing this, Shen Mengxi blinked and stammered, "Isn't it a bit too soon? Didn't you say before, to let Nai Nai and your parents spend more time together? To wait until they get used to her before telling them the truth?" My voice remained calm as I said, "We have to tell them sooner or later anyway, so it's better to get it over with. I don't want to drag it on any longer. The longer it's dragged out, the more unfair it is to Shen Mengxi." Shen Mengxi's hands gripped the steering wheel tightly, her fingertips turning a little white. Her voice carried a deep sense of tension and unease. Then what if your parents don't like me? In the business world, she was decisive and strong, facing even the most difficult negotiations. She never flinched. But now, thinking about having to meet my parents, she was so nervous her palms were sweating. I noticed the tension in her voice. I reached out and gently placed my hand on the back of her hand that was gripping the steering wheel. My voice softened as I comforted her. "Don't worry. My parents are very nice people. It'll be fine." My hand was very warm, which inexplicably calmed her down. "I'm here." I looked in her eyes and said seriously. 3 simple words were like a warm current, instantly spreading through Shen Mengxi's limbs, dispelling the panic and unease in her heart. She looked up and met my gaze, her heart suddenly Honk! Just then, an impatient car horn blared from behind. Shin Meng suddenly came back to her senses. Only then did she realize she was still parked in the middle of the road. Her cheeks flushed slightly as she hurriedly released the brake and restarted the car, driving toward the apartment. The car fell silent again, but a faint smile appeared on Shen Meng's face. Her heart was filled with both anticipation and nervousness. As for me, I was calculating in my head, should I call my maternal grandparents over on Sunday? After thinking it over, it's better not to. I don't want to anger my grandparents to death. Not long after, the two of them returned to the apartment. I put my things down and went into the kitchen, saying, I'm going to prepare lunch. Shin Meng's eye nodded. Her voice carried a hint of subtle joy. She wasn't idle either. Going out to the balcony, she took down the dry clothes one by one and folded them neatly. Then she hung up the clean clothes from the washing machine. She took the folded clothes into the bedroom. Only then did she head towards the kitchen. Shin Meng's eye leaned against the kitchen doorway, quietly watching my busy figure. Her heart softening, she couldn't help but ask, Brother Muka, did you learn how to cook very quickly? My vegetable chopping motions paused slightly. An ominous feeling immediately rose in my heart. Why is she suddenly asking about this? Could it be that she also wants to learn how to cook? This thought made my scalp tingle. Without thinking, I turned my head and said, cooking isn't that simple. When I first learned to cook, I almost blew up the entire kitchen. My parents almost disowned me. When Shin Meng'sai heard this, she let out a chuckle. Because of that, her cool and delicate eyebrows curved into beautiful crescent moons. Her voice held a hint of amusement. Is it that exaggerated? But she thought to herself, I didn't expect him to be so clumsy at times. I saw her smile, but the alarm bells in my heart had been completely silenced. I asked cautiously, Yo, right, why did you suddenly ask about this? When Shin Meng'sai heard that, she was slightly taken aback. Then her eyes darted around playfully. A faint dimple appeared by her lips. Her tone was light. It's nothing. I just saw how well you cook and thought you were very skilled. So I was a little curious. I was just asking casually. I can't possibly tell him now that I want to learn to cook too. I plan to give him a big surprise. Where would the fun be then? Is that so? I replied and sighed in relief inwardly. My heart, which had been in my throat, settled back down. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. She was just asking casually. The noodles she cooked, I don't want to eat them again in this lifetime. Pulling my thoughts back, I turned around and continued preparing the food. A moment later, several colorful and flavorful home-style dishes were served steaming hot on the dining table. The two of them sat opposite each other, eating in silence. After the meal, I made 2 cups of digestive herbal tea and brought them to the living room. The two of them sat side by side on the soft sofa. Resting, without Nainai around, they rarely got to enjoy such pure time alone together. At this moment, I raised my teacup and took a small sip, but I couldn't help glancing at Shen Meng'sai beside me from the corner of my eye. I put down the teacup and stretched. My hand naturally went around her shoulder, pulling her into my embrace. The corners of Shen Meng'sai's lips lifted slightly. She very naturally leaned against my shoulder, feeling the warmth of my embrace. I looked at the person in my arms, a smile on my face. I cleared my throat lightly and asked, Meng'sai, do your grandparents have any special hobbies? I can't go empty-handed for our first meeting. Should I prepare some gift? Shin Meng'sai thought for a moment and said, There's no need. My grandparents don't lack anything. They have everything at home. I thought for a moment. Although that's true, going empty-handed doesn't seem right. I said again, would that be a bit bad? It's the first meeting. I should show some sincerity. Right? Shin Meng'sai smiled lightly, looking up at me as she said with a laugh, Aren't we already bringing Nai with us? As soon as I heard that, I immediately understood. That's right. How could Nai not be considered a gift? Shin Meng'sai looked at me and said softly, Actually, my grandparents' greatest wish is to see me get married. Although we aren't married yet, we're bringing home a great-granddaughter. They will definitely be happy. When I heard that, the corner of my mouth twitched. I looked down at Shin Meng'sai. That look in my eyes seemed to say, Are you sure they'll be happy and not want to kill me? Shin Meng seemed to notice I was a bit tense. She smiled comfortingly and said, Don't be too stressed. My grandparents are very good people. They won't make things difficult for you. I nodded. I hugged Shin Meng'sai tightly, smelling the fragrance on her. I was a bit sleepy. I know. As soon as the words left my mouth, I couldn't help but yawn. Shin Meng'sai saw my tired face. She remembered that I had stayed up almost all night last night. She felt a little guilty and also a bit embarrassed. Why don't you take a nap? She asked softly. I rubbed my eyes and said, No need. I'm not sleepy yet. However, just a moment later, I gently rested my head on Shin Meng'sai and fell asleep. Shin Meng'sai felt my steady breathing. She didn't say anything, shifting her body a little to the side. As she looked up, she naturally pulled me into her arms, letting me lean against her chest. She looked at my sleeping face, and the corners of her mouth couldn't help but curve into a happy smile. In a flash, it was 5 p.m. I slowly woke up on the sofa. I sat up and rubbed my eyes, feeling a little stiff. I looked around the living room. I didn't see Shen Mengsi anywhere. Just as I was about to get up to look, the apartment door was pushed open. I looked towards the sound and saw Shen Mengsi leading Nai inside. "Daddy!" Nai saw me in the living room as soon as she entered. Her small face immediately broke into a happy smile. She let go of Shen Mengsi's hand and ran towards me on her short little legs. A smile also appeared on my face. I bent down and opened my arms wide. Nai rushed into my arms, looking up at her small face, and called out sweetly, "Daddy, yes! Nai. You're back." I smiled and picked her up, planting a kiss on her soft cheek. Nai giggled, hugging my neck and not letting go, holding Nai. I looked towards Shen Mengsi, who was changing her shoes at the door, and asked, "Why didn't you wake me up?" Shen Mengsi looked up, her cold face showing a hard-to-detect trace of gentleness. She said softly, "I saw you were sleeping so soundly, I wanted to let you sleep a little longer." Hearing that, a warm current flowed through my heart. A faint blush also appeared on my face. I cleared my throat lightly, hiding my emotions, and then asked, "What time are we going to see her grandparents?" Shen Mengsi glanced at her watch and said, "Let's get changed now and then go." After saying that, she walked towards me and took Nai from my arms. She carried Nai towards the bedroom. A moment later, the family of three went downstairs. Shen Mengsi placed Nai in the child's seat in the back, fastened the seatbelt, and then got into the driver's seat. I sat in the passenger seat. The Beetle slowly started. It merged into the traffic, heading towards the Shen family's old residence. I tilted my head and watched the street scenes flash by outside the window, but I was very nervous inside. After all, it was the first time meeting the parents. I didn't feel anything before, but as soon as I got in the car, that sense of unease became uncontrollable. Right now, I have nothing to my name. I don't have the family background and status to match Shen Mengsi. It's normal to feel timid. Perhaps timid isn't the right word. It should be insecure. Shen Mengsi, driving beside me, glanced at me from the corner of her eye. She immediately noticed my tense emotions, but she didn't say anything. After all, it was the first official meeting with her parent. It's normal to be nervous. Not thinking much about it, she reined in her thoughts and refocused her attention on the traffic ahead. About half an hour later, the car slowly stopped in front of a building with two tall osmanthus trees planted outside. I took a deep breath and then slowly exhaled. I opened the car door and got out first. I went around to the back seat, opened the door, and lifted Nai out. Shen Mengsi got out of the driver's seat and came to my side. Seeing my slightly tense cheeks, she naturally reached out her hand and gently took my other hand. I was slightly stunned, turning my head to look at her. Shen Mengsi gave me a comforting smile. The softness and warmth from her palm calmed my tense mood quite a bit. The two of them held hands, leading Nai inside together. The three of them had just stepped through the main gate when they saw Grandpa Shen and Grandma Shen hurrying out to greet them. The two elders had gentle smiles on their faces. Just as they were about to speak, Nai quickly hid behind my legs. Her small hand gripped my pant leg tightly, only peeking out with half of her little head. She looked at them timidly. Her small face was filled with surprise and fear. Grandpa and Grandma Shen's smiles froze for a moment. They clearly didn't expect Nai to have such a reaction. Grandma Shen was the first to recover. She gently nudged Grandpa Shen beside her with her elbow. She lowered her voice and chided, "It's all your fault. You always have such a stern face. Look, you've scared the child." Grandpa Shen looked completely innocent. His eyebrows furrowed slightly as he touched his own face. He mumbled under his breath, "Am I that fierce?" Was clearly smiling just now. At this moment, Nai, who was hiding behind my leg, reached out her small hand. She gently tugged on the hem of Shen Mengsi's clothes and said timidly, "Mommy, it's the living great-grandma and great-grandpa." Her voice was very quiet, but everyone present heard it clearly. When Grandma Shen and Grandpa Shen heard this, they both froze. They looked at each other in confusion. Their faces were filled with surprise and bewilderment. Grandpa Shen blinked, looked at Nai, then back at Shen Mengsi. He didn't react for a moment, then said, "If we're not living, does that mean we're dead?" Shen Mengsi and I naturally understood what Nai meant. The two of us exchanged a look and nodded at each other. Immediately after, Shen Mengsi walked up to Grandpa and Grandma Shen. She called out gently, "Grandpa, Grandma." She paused for a moment, her expression a little serious, and continued, "There's something I want to tell you too in private." After saying that, she naturally reached out, one arm for each of them. She took hold of the two elders' arms and motioned towards the pavilion next to the courtyard. Grandpa and Grandma Shen, the surprised look on their faces still hadn't completely faded. Hearing this, although their hearts were full of doubt, they still nodded blankly, letting their granddaughter pull them along. Shen Mengsi took 2 steps, but didn't forget to turn her head and say to Butler Old Chu, who was standing not far away, "Butler Shu, please take Mew and Nai to the living room first." Butler Old Chu nodded respectfully and replied, "Yes, miss." After speaking, he walked up to me and Nai. He bowed slightly and made an inviting gesture. "Here, Moo. Little miss, please follow me." I nodded. I carried Nai and followed him towards the living room. Nai hugged my neck tightly, her little head resting on my shoulder, she timidly looked at her great-grandpa and the retreating figure of her great-grandma. Entering the living room, old Chu went to prepare tea and refreshments. Only then did Nene ask in a small voice, "Daddy, will great-grandma and great-grandpa eat Nene's brain at night?" I was stunned when I heard that. Then I immediately understood. Feeling both amused and helpless, I gently patted Nene's back and explained softly, "Silly Nene, great-grandma and great-grandpa are alive and well right now. They aren't zombies. Of course they won't eat Nene's brain." After hearing that, Nene breathed a long sigh of relief, and her little body relaxed a lot, but her little eyebrows quickly furrowed again. She looked up at me in confusion and asked, "Daddy, if great-grandma and great-grandpa are still alive, then why did Mommy have to take Nene to the cemetery to visit them before?" The smile on my face stiffened slightly. A complicated feeling arose in my heart. I was silent for a moment. I gently stroked Nene's soft hair and said gently, "Nene is still young. There are some things you'll understand when you grow up." I paused for a moment, looked into my daughter's clear eyes, and added, "But Daddy can tell you that great-grandma and great-grandpa like Nene very much, just like your other grandpa and grandma like you. So Nene doesn't need to be afraid, okay?" Hearing this, Nene nodded as if she half understood. Her big eyes blinked, then a sweet smile appeared on her small face. "Okay. Mommy also said that great-grandma and great-grandpa will definitely like Nene." I looked at her innocent smiling face and smiled along with her. It's just that hidden behind the smile was a hard-to-detect worry. I don't know if Shin Meng's grandparents, after learning the truth, will really accept it so easily. Daddy, it'll take you somewhere." I was still worried when Nene slipped out of my arms. Her short little legs ran towards the stairs. By the time I reacted, Nene had already run upstairs. I was startled and quickly got up to follow, calling out at the same time, "Nene! Slow down." As I said that, the two of us ran upstairs. Nene didn't slow down at all. She ran straight to the room at the far right end. I realized that Nene was strangely familiar with the layout here, as if she had been here many times before. On the other side, Shin Mengse pulled Grandpa Shen and Grandma Shen to the pavilion next to the courtyard. As soon as Grandpa Shen sat down, he couldn't wait to ask, "Mengsai, what did Nene mean just now? What's this about the living great-grandma and great-grandpa? Why don't I understand any of it?" He frowned, his face showing clear confusion. Grandma Shen also nodded along, looking towards Shin Mengsi. Her tone carried some worry. "That's right. Mengsai, what on earth does it mean?" Shin Mengse looked at the concerned yet bewildered eyes of the two elders. The bridge of her nose stung. The emotions she had suppressed for so long could no longer be held back. Her eyes immediately turned red. She took a deep breath, her voice choked with emotion. Seeing her granddaughter like this, Grandma Shen was heartbroken. She quickly reached out and gently took Shin Mengse's hand. She asked gently, "What's wrong?" "Everything was fine. Why are you about to cry?" Shin Mengx sniffled, trying hard to suppress her emotions. She looked at her grandparents and said, "Grandpa, Grandma, Nai. Shiz from the future." As soon as these words were spoken, Grandpa Shen and Grandma Shen's expressions immediately froze. Both were stunned. They looked at each other, clearly shaken by this statement. They couldn't react for a moment. The future? How is that possible? Shin Mengxi saw their expressions and knew it was hard for them to believe. So she recounted how Nai had suddenly appeared at her company. She told the story from beginning to end. She spoke very slowly, trying to make them understand. The pavilion fell silent for a moment. There was only the sound of a light breeze rustling the bamboo leaves. After Grandpa Shen and Grandma Shen finished listening, the look of astonishment on their faces deepened, but seeing their granddaughter's serious and sorrowful expression, they knew there was no need for Shen Mengxi to lie to them about this. Although it sounded unbelievable, like a fairy tale, they still chose to believe her. At this moment, Grandpa Shen suddenly seemed to have figured something out. A flash of realization appeared in his eyes. He mumbled, "From the future. So that means Nai just said that great-grandma and great-pa are still alive." Grandma Shen immediately understood. She looked at Shen Mengx's slightly red eyes, and her heart ached, and she finally understood why her granddaughter was suddenly so sad. It turned out she already knew their future outcome. There was no sadness on Grandma Shen's face. Instead, a relieved smile appeared. She gently patted the back of Shen Mengx's hand in a deliberately relaxed tone. She said, "Yo, I thought it was something serious. This is nothing to cry about." Grandpa Shen also nodded. A broad smile appeared on his face as he added, "That's right. Mengxi, we've both lived to this age. Birth, old age, sickness, and death are all part of life. We've long known that day would come." Shin Mengxi heard her grandparents' deliberately comforting words. The sadness in her heart was like a bursting dam. She couldn't hold it back anymore, and tears streamed down her face. She threw herself into Grandma Shen's arms, hugging her tightly. She cried silently, unable to say a word. Grandma Shen felt her granddaughter trembling in her arms. 100 emotions welled up in her heart. She reached out and gently patted Shin Mengx's back. A tear welled up in her eyes, but she was still smiling, gently comforting her. She said, Silly child, what are you crying for? Your grandparents are already very happy to see you grow up. Very content. Grandpa Shen nodded. Continuing, his voice also carried a hint of relief. That's right. Mengxi, your grandma is right. The two of us old folks, our biggest concern in this life is you. We always used to worry that when the day comes that we're really gone, what would you do all alone and lonely? He paused for a moment. A joyful smile appeared on his face as he continued. But now it's good, knowing that in the future, you not only get married, but also give birth to such a lovely Nainai and live a happy life. In our hearts, that last little wish has finally been fulfilled. You should be happy for us. Grandma Shen smiled and nodded. She gently wiped the tears from Shen Mengxi's cheek with her hand. Her voice was soft. That's right. Mengxi, this is a wonderful thing. We get to know in advance that you will live a good life in the future. What more could we ask for? Come on, give Grandma a smile. Crying makes you look ugly. Shen Mengxi sniffled. Her tear-filled eyes looked at the two elderly people in front of her. Their smiles dispelled much of the sadness in her heart. She tried to lift the corners of her lips, forcing a tearful smile. Her voice was still a bit choked up. Grandma Shen saw her smile. Although it was a forced smile, she was finally smiling. She lovingly stroked her head. That's more like it. Grandpa Shen saw his granddaughter's tears gradually stop and changed the subject. He said with a smile, speaking of which, Mengxi, your taste in men is just like your grandma's, much better than your father's. Shen Mengxi's still tear-stained face. Hearing the first half of her grandfather's compliment, she couldn't help but blush slightly. The corners of her lips also curved into a shy smile. Grandma Shen, listening from the side, first nodded in agreement. A happy smile